Five Nights at Treasure Island is a FNAF fangame that began development in November 2014. It was released as a demo on the 1st of December 2014. The game was made by Anna in 1996. The game was based off a creepypasta from 2013 by Slime Beast called Abandoned by Disney. The creepypasta was based off an island known as Discovery Island, which was part of the Walt Disney World Resort in Bay Lake, Florida. It opened in 1974 as a zoological park. It closed down in April of 1999. The animals were then moved over to a recently opened amusement park at the resort called Disney's Animal Kingdom. The island was left abandoned and has had no development on it since. The premise of Five Nights at Treasure Island is that the Supernatural Studies Association has sent an intern, Jake Smith, over to Discovery Island to investigate it. Before continuing any further, I would just like to say that I'll be calling Five Nights at Treasure Island FNATI throughout this video, as it's just easier to say FNATI than saying Five Nights at Treasure Island constantly. The first demo for FNATI only had one enemy, Photonegative Mickey, who was originally a character in Abandoned by Disney. The following day, another demo was released which added two new characters, both based off classic Disney characters. One was Oswald, who was an unfinished suit who had little colour, and the other was Disembodied, who is a Donald Duck head. All the characters were dealt with in a never before seen mechanism. You have to pull up the monitor and shut off a camera. Disembodied won't kill you though, and instead will just speed up the other suits. The game was a huge success, becoming the first FNAF fangame to receive mainstream attention. There had been many FNAF fangames that predated the first FNATI demo, but they were mostly just known within the FNAF community. The first FNATI demos are very broken, with you being able to completely cheese a game by just doing nothing, but in 2014, this was a critically acclaimed game within the horror community. It showed that fans could make FNAF fangames that are very high quality and made with original 3D models, which was unheard of at the time. Many were hyped to see the full game release. Later on 23rd of December 2014, The Return to Freddy's was released, which may have been the second FNAF fangame to become popular, but it was the one that started it all. This game proved that good quality FNAF fangames can be made with little to no experience. And yes, believe it or not, The Return to Freddy's 1 was indeed considered a good quality game at the time. In January 2015, the FNAF fangame trend began and took over the indie horror genre. With FNAF fangames having a newfound popularity, even more people were hyped for FNATI. In January 2015, a FNATI Gmod map was made by Arachnid Script, and we don't use natural ingredients. This was a popular Gmod map back in the day and is probably the most famous FNAF fangame Gmod map. FNATI was the most anticipated FNAF fangame during January 2015. However though, the game's development didn't go as expected. Anna decided that he wasn't happy with how FNATI was looking and wanted to restart development. The game would now be known as Five Nights at Treasure Island Remastered. On the 26th of January 2015, a new demo was released. The game had better graphics and added new characters. Those added were a Cephalus, who is a headless goofy suit, and the Face, who is a Mickey Mouse-like character with no legs, a gaping mouth, and wide open eyes. These two were supposed to appear in the original version. Another new character added was Suicide Mouse, who was made for the remastered version. He is a grey Mickey with no eyes. Suicide Mouse is another character who was actually taken from another creepypasta. This was the Suicide Mouse AVI, which was a video that resembled a 1920s Disney cartoon that shows Mickey walking down a street. Towards the end, Mickey becomes demonic and later dies. There's also Photonegative Minnie and Pluto the dog. Despite the graphical difference, the gameplay was actually near identical. The demo was well received and maintained the hype for FNATI, although the hype did die down as there were no new releases for a while. During early to mid 2015, development was quite slow. When the demos for FNATI first came out, they were considered by far the best FNAF fangames, and were some of the few FNAF fangames that were actually popular. However though, by April 2015, we had a lot of popular FNAF fangames, with One Night at Flumpty's 1 and 2 taking the crown for the best FNAF fangames, and The Return to Freddy's had 2 sequels released and was dominating the FNAF fangame scene. However, many were still hyped for FNATI. 2 more developers, the Purity Sinners and Stellar Wisps, started working on the game in what was going to be called FNATI Remastered 2.0. Stellar Wisps later released a popular FNAF fangame in May 2015 known as Five Nights to Remember, which also had the Purity Sinners as a voice actress. On the 29th of June 2015, a demo for FNATI 2.0 Remastered was released. This was also very much like its previous version. This was going to have more classic Disney characters, those being Daisy, who was just Daisy Duck's head, and Pete the cat. There would have also been 3 original characters. One of those characters is God, who is a white humanoid, another one is Undying, a red humanoid, and Celesta, who is a scrapped character. Outside the development of FNATI, a FNAF fangame was in development that went unnoticed for the next 7 years, and that game was Five Nights at Red Island. The game was made by Wyatt Mars and Mr. Keebler. It began development in February 2015. Teasers for Red Island were posted throughout 2015. The game was scheduled to come out in January 2016, however though January 2016 came and went and the game didn't come out. Then on the 17th of March 2017 a post was made by Keebler saying that the game wasn't cancelled, but wasn't being worked on much due to him being busy with school. But the game was getting back in development and a new demo was scheduled to come out on the 1st of May. 1st of May came and went and nothing happened. The game drop page was then left abandoned for the next 5 years, which left almost everyone to believe that the game was cancelled. Then on the 20th of March 2022, Wyatt Mars uploaded the beta build for Five Nights at Red Island and confirmed that the game had in fact been cancelled. The beta opens with a news article saying that a new island resort known as Red Island is opening and is looking for a security guard. It says that Fazbear Entertainment was bought by Disney and Red Island has FNAF characters. The article also says that the game takes place on November 25th, 2005. There's a few other news articles. One says, I had a waffle this morning with syrup, butter and a glass of chocolate milk. That is not a very good combination. Rachel Dunn then responded, I told her that most of that is just fattening. Please shut up Rachel, I can eat what I want. Another article says that FNAF fangame players like to read blurred text on the newspaper images and that is a very strange phenomenon. And the last article says that a tiny speaker appeared at Red Island that is speculated to be a toy left by one of the kids. So, this is the first FNATI fangame. But is it actually good? No, of course it's not. In fact, it's actually pretty terrible. For starters, the office is a mess. The front wall looks like it's made out of sandstone, while the rest of the office is red and black checkered. Also, there's a portrait of Flumpty Bumpty on the wall. There's 4 cameras, but there's a massive camera map. I'm guessing there was supposed to be more cameras added later on, but obviously the game got cancelled. The camera rooms don't actually look that bad, but they do contrast each other. There is quite a lot of mechanisms in the game. There's 3 entrances. In front of you there is a left and right door. Entrances have a button above. There's 3 vents in your office where the suits can get to you. On the left there is a power button which completely shuts off the power. If you click a panel on your right, you can hide in the back room. You also have a Freddy mask that you can wear if someone comes in. And lastly, there's this flashlight mechanism where you can see if someone's in any of the entrances. It's very small though, and at first I thought it was an electrical pulse ball or something. With this being a demo, there's only 1 knight and 2 active enemies. The main one is Photonegative Mickey, and I have no idea what you're supposed to do with him. I had 3 attempts at beating the knight, 2 of them I just died to Photonegative Mickey, and the 3rd time I beat it by basically doing nothing. In the files, there is a render of Mickey in the central vent, but nowhere else in the office, so that might be the only place where you can attack from. If I were to guess, you have to either flash your light at him or wear the mask. The other enemy is Henry, who is going to appear in 1.0 Remastered. Henry is actually kinda creepy. He has a rare chance of appearing on your screen regardless of what you're doing. An error message will pop up. The message will only go away when you click abort, which will crash your game. I found out there is a render of Undying, but I never encountered him, so I don't know if it's actually in the game. There's also a render of Spring Bonnie, who is just a recolored Splinks Bonnie. So I was able to beat the knight, and after you beat the knight you get a cutscene where you're outside at a rainy night. You can still use a flashlight during the cutscene which exposes that the image was literally overlaying the office. Bruh. Then you're in a mysterious room with static covering the screen. I have no idea what you're supposed to do, but it never ended. You're just stuck here forever I guess. But I did find out that after you beat the demo, you're supposed to get a thank you message from the developer. The game went under the radar for a very long time, but gained recognition amongst FNATI fans after the beta was uploaded, for being the first ever FNATI fangame. Despite how obscure it was though, it actually inspired Radiance's FNATI game Red Oddities, which had 2 sequels made for it, Green Oddities and Blue Oddities. Now back to the development of FNATI. Shortly after the release of 2.0, At cancelled Five Nights at Treasure Island and released all their assets for people to make their own versions of the game. However, it wasn't quite the end, as At gave the rights of FNATI to the Pure Sinners. A month after the release of 2.0 on the 24th of July 2015, FNATI 3.0 was released. This version was made entirely by the Pure Sinners. It was pretty much the exact same as 2.0, with the only differences being that Photonegative Mickey was replaced with Willy, which is a reference to the first Disney cartoon, Steamboat Willie, and Photonegative Minnie was replaced with Impure Mouse, which is basically just an unphotonegative version of her. Many criticised the demo for the removal of the most iconic character, and many FNATI fans in general just didn't like the direction that Pure Sin was taking the game in. With the assets now public, this gave the developers the opportunity to make their own FNATI fan games, and that is what this video is about. I have picked out 30 FNATI fan games that I'm going to be talking about in depth in this video. But before we begin, there's a few disclaimers I'd like to make. First off, I'm only going to be talking about FNATI Fangames. I've briefly talked about official FNATI games, but that's mainly just to give an introduction to what FNATI is. There is a similar video to this one by Sir55, which talks about every official FNATI game made to date, and I'd recommend watching that if you want to know all about the series. This means that I won't be covering Stellar Wisp's Nightmare Before Disney, as that was technically an official spin-off of FNATI, even if it's no longer considered official. This also excludes the previously mentioned Oddities trilogy, as they are technically official games. The next one might be a bit controversial. I've decided that I won't be covering any of Malrat's FNATI games. There's 3 reasons as for why I've made this decision. 1, because everyone already knows about them. If you were an internet user during 2016, you've probably came across at least one of his games, even if you don't realise it. And I mainly want to give attention to FNATI Fangames that no one remembers. Secondly, is because Malrat has made a total of 12 FNATI games, and if you count all the versions of some of the games, that's 17 games in total. It would take me well over an hour to go through all that. This video is insanely long as it is, but I do draw a line somewhere. And thirdly, I might actually do a whole video on Malrat's games one day, as he also made the prolific 5 Nights with Mac Tonight series, which has a total of 7 games. This could potentially make for a really good video. As it is right now, there is actually a video on Malrat's FNATI games made by Speed Awesome. It's not a very long video, but this is what we have right now. The first FNATI fan game I'm going to be talking about is by far the most popular game that I'll be discussing, as it was possibly the first FNATI fan game to actually get a complete release. Heck, it might actually be the first complete FNATI game period, and that game is Abandoned Discovery Island. The game began development in November 2015. The lead developer was S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, but had assistance from Toonster and Malrat. Quick disclaimer, when I said I won't be including Malrat, I was specifically referring to ones that he directed. He hasn't been completely blacklisted from being in the video. This was an attempt at remaking FNATI. However, since FNATI was never complete, we don't know how the game was going to end. So the game's story had a lot of additions and some new characters were added. The game also received many updates, with the most recent one being from July 2025. There hasn't really been many differences, it's mostly just been small patches and different renders. Almost all the assets were taken from FNATI. The camera map is identical to the camera map of FNATI 2.0. The only difference is Cam 11, Pirate Cavern's entrance. This room was never finished, so it looks drastically different. The night 1, 2 and 4 phone calls were reused from FNATI Remastered. A very novel thing at the time that FNATI did since the original version was that the suits actually talk whenever they move.
Wanna see my head come off?
Said voices were reused for Abandoned Discovery Island. Now I'm a big fan of how FNATI looks, it was especially phenomenal for 2014-2015 standards. The sounds are equally as chilling as its atmosphere. I'm usually not a fan of voice acting from the animatronics in FNAF fan games, but I think this actually works. With that said, let's actually talk about the game. At the start of each night, it tells you what to do via text. You get a phone call from Greg. He mentions that there was another intern who worked as a security guard. He does not say what happened to him though.
Don't worry, I know you'll be fine. The last intern just... Anyway.
He also says that the place may or may not be haunted, but doesn't actually know. But hypothetically, if Photo-Negative Mickey came into your office, he tells you how you defend yourself. Photo-Negative Mickey is the only active enemy on night 1. He'll randomly move around the cameras. When he enters your office, you have to pull up the monitor and shut off a camera. When you shut off a camera, the camera will be blank and you can't see anything for about 15 seconds. In total, there is 11 cameras. You can shut off any camera you want and it will work. There are 2 other ways of dealing with Mickey, but they're not ideal. One of them is shutting off the power, but if you do that, you can't use a camera. The room will go dark and you'll be provided with a flashlight. If someone enters, you have to flash your light at them. However, it won't always work, so the game becomes luck-based. The third option is to hide under the desk. However, it only has a 50-50 chance of working against Mickey. Turning off the cameras will work every time, so you absolutely should do that. Whenever Photo-Negative Mickey moves, there is a 1 in 11 chance that he'll appear in your office, so you could potentially beat night 1 by doing nothing. And if you beat night 1 without shutting off any of the cameras, you'll actually get a secret game mode. If you beat night 1 without shutting off any of the cameras, you'll get a cutscene which shows Jeff the Killer. Yeah, Jeff the Killer is in the game. At the start of the game mode, the power goes out. You have a flashlight that you can use to see if Jeff the Killer is on your left or right. If you see him, you're supposed to hide under the desk. However, if you hide, your dread meter will go up. When it goes up fully, you'll die. You have to survive until 8 AM. However, this is quite difficult as Jeff the Killer's AI is really high. He can literally attack you again right after leaving. If you die during this game mode, it just takes you to night 2. So if you wanted to replay this, you'd have to beat night 1 again. However, beating Jeff the Killer won't actually give you anything. There used to be a cheat code where if you pressed O, it skipped the current night. However, said cheat code has since been removed. At the start of night 2, you get a phone call from Lisa who tells you how to defend yourself against Oswald. Oswald acts the same as Mickey but instead move directly towards your office from Cam 4. He is a darker colour and more difficult to spot when he's in your office. He'll appear next to the doorway on your left. The face and disembodied are also active on this night. Both are dealt with the same way as Mickey, however they both have shorter movement patterns but they do move slower. Disembodied won't kill you though and will speed up the suit when he's in the office. He'll also make this really loud and obnoxious sound. This is supposed to be quacking, but it sounds like an overheated Xbox 360. When you beat night 2, you get a cutscene that shows a forest outside of the resort. On night 3, you get a phone call from Henry. Henry was the intern that previously worked at Discovery Island. He was killed at Pirate Caverns and was reported missing. After he died, he came back to life as a rotten humanoid who is missing a head and arm. In the phone call, he tells you to meet him at Pirate Caverns.
Don't
You have to
listen.
meet at Pirate Caverns tonight. And tell no one.
On night 3, 3 new enemies are introduced. One of them is a Cephalus, who is immune to the cameras being shut off. When he gets into your office, you have to hide for a few seconds. Another enemy active is Suicide Mouse, who acts the same as the wrestler's suits where you just have to shut off the cameras. He'll go directly to your office starting from Cam 5, the broadcast room. When he becomes active, the broadcast room's TV will turn on and will play the Suicide Mouse AVI theme. Which, by the way, I can't play the music because it got sampled in a song by some Argentinian metal band named Tramontina, who have literally copyrighted the song which reuses someone else's music. Copyright law really is fucked. And lastly there's Celesta, who will kill you if you hide under the desk for too long. You can actually see Celesta's reflection when hiding under the desk, as he's right behind you. There's also a rare chance that Pluto will appear, but he won't actually serve as a threat to you, instead he'll just make this really loud noise that makes Disembodied sound like ASMR. So night 3 will actually end at 3 AM. The second half of night 3 is Pirate Caverns. Pirate Caverns is a point and click free roam mode that was going to be in FNATI. You have to survive until 6 AM. Pirate Caverns has 2 floors. You start off on floor 1, or maybe there's 3 floors since you start upstairs. There's 7 rooms in the first floor. The rooms are very dark but you can use a flashlight to see better. You can also use it to see the face who will be following you. If you see the face in the same room as you have to move to another room. One of the rooms has an elevator which will take you to floor 2. Inside the elevator is a puddle of yellow liquid. That is actually blood. In the game over screen you can see photonegative Mickey's head with yellow blood pouring out. Floor 2 is a lot smaller than floor 1. When you exit the elevator you're in a large room. In front of you is a hallway with 4 smaller rooms. On floor 2, Undying is active. When you see him you have to go back to where you were. Now I'm going to get back to Pirate Caverns later as it plays a big role later on in the game. When you beat Pirate Caverns you get a cutscene of the office while it plays a music box rendition of It's a Small World. So night 2 and 3 are pretty easy, but night 4 is when things get a lot harder. There are 6 new enemies introduced on night 4, meaning that there are now 14 enemies active in total. That being said, it's not as hard as it may sound though, since most of the enemies act the same. One of the new enemies is Photonegative Minnie. You have to shut off a camera if she enters your office. If she kills you, she'll crash your game. There's Daisy Duck who will prevent you from shutting off the power while she is there. You just have to shut off the cameras for her. There's also Willy who just acts like everyone else, shut off a camera. Apparently he is more aggressive if you look at the monitor, but is not really that much of a threat. There's also God who will prevent you from looking at the camera when she is in the office. You have to hide under the desk to make her leave. If you take too long she'll spawn in Daisy and a Cephalus head who will prevent you from hiding, meaning that you're basically defenseless. Although I don't see how this could possibly happen unintentionally, as if you hide under the desk for literally half a second, God will disappear, and you can't deal with anyone else while God is there. The biggest threats introduced on night 4 though are Undying and Classic Oswald. Both completely change your strategy. Classic Oswald is the biggest threat in the game. He will run at you from the meat freezer and you're given about 1 second to hide under the desk. You'll see a running animation alongside a banging noise. He probably also has the best jump scare in the game. There was an unused jump scare of Classic Oswald where he'd basically just fly into the office and blow everything over, which is pretty funny, but I can totally see why this got removed. Undying is slowed down by watching the meat freezer. If he enters your office, you have to shut off the power. If you watch Undying consistently, he probably won't appear, but you do have to watch him a lot. Nothing happens when you beat Night 4, and Night 5 is just a harder version of Night 4. So Night 5 is extremely hard due to RNG. How is it RNG based, you may ask? Is it Undying? No, if you watch him long enough, he probably won't get to you. Classic Oswald? No, he isn't RNG, you just gotta be really quick. Is it Acephalus because you have to hide whilst dealing with someone else? Well, that can be an issue, but no, it's because Photonegative Mickey has a randomized kill time. There is a chance that Photonegative Mickey will just kill you as soon as he enters the office, giving you no time to react. Honestly, if Mickey's kill timer wasn't randomized that much, Night 5 wouldn't actually be that hard. The only real threat is Classic Oswald, who luckily will only attack 2 or 3 times. Now let's talk about what happens when you beat Night 5. You get a cutscene which is just text. Photonegative Mickey comes into the office after 6 AM. Jake tries to shut off a camera, but it doesn't work. Then Jake starts panicking and tries to leave. However, the door is locked. He then gets killed by Photonegative Mickey after he stabs him with a sign. Then you get the bad ending. Yep, there is multiple endings to this game. Before I talk about how you get the other endings, I'd also like to talk about a few rare screens. There's 3 rare screens that you can get in the game. One is an eyeless Photonegative Mickey screen that you can get when starting up the game. Another is an eyeless screen of the face that you can get when starting a night. The creepiest one is when you die, you can get an image of what I assume is Jake, who is dead after getting killed, with Photonegative Mickey standing next to his body. In the background, there is a sign which is covered in blood, meaning this screen is probably foreshadowing the bad ending. So, how do you get the good ending? You have to play the game again and get to Pirate Caverns. In Pirate Caverns, on the right side of the aquarium room, there is an office. In the office, you can open a drawer which contains a key. Then you go back to the hallway upstairs. On the right side of the hallway is a room with a piano and a chest. You can open the chest with a key which gives you another key. Then you go to floor 2. On the furthest room on the left, there is a safe which you can open that will contain a tape. Then when you beat Night 5, you'll get a cutscene which starts out the same. Photonegative Mickey comes in, Jake tries to shut off a camera but it doesn't work. This time though he opens a door and escapes. Then Night 6 is unlocked. At the start you'll get a tip that tells you that the Mickeys have fused together to make a new enemy that was made for abandoned Discovery Island, Corruptus. You'll get a phone call from Corruptus who is unintelligible. So Corruptus is the only enemy active on Night 6, besides Lester, so you still can't hide for too long. Corruptus will move around randomly. If he enters your office near the back, you have to turn off a camera. If he gets close to you, you have to hide under the desk. Whenever Corruptus enters your office, he talks in a very creepy, glitchy voice. Not gonna lie, Night 6 is actually pretty damn easy. There's only one enemy active and he doesn't require that much concentration as you'll always know when he's attacking, which is kind of a shame since I think Corruptus is a really cool character. But to be fair, having a boss fight in a FNAF fangame was still a fairly new concept in early 2016. When you beat Night 6, Jake talks about the tape that you collected, which showed that his parents died. I don't know if this is supposed to be emotional, but the dialogue that Jake says is just so emo. I miss my family. My mom and dad, they died. I'm tired of this. After the cutscene, the credits roll. Then you get text that reads, good ending. Afterwards you unlock a Night 7. Night 7 is just a harder version of Night 5. Nothing happens after you beat Night 7. But I'm not done yet, because there is actually a third ending. This ending is called the true ending. To get this ending, you have to play Pirate Caverns again. This time when you open the drawer that contains a key, you have to not take the key and go to the elevator. Then the face will give you a key and says furthest right. Yeah, the face is now helping you. You can now enter the room furthest to your right on floor 2. The room has a bunch of mannequins. You're then teleported back to the elevator and sent to a secret 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is full of hallways and mannequins. At the end of the first hallway, you turn right and you'll be in a room that has Henry. As in the Night 3 phone call, he told you to meet him at Pirate Caverns before he got cut off. Then Henry talks to you in text, so you finally made it. Don't run away, I'm Henry, I need to keep my promise. The Corrupt Eye Incident, that's what it's called. A young boy smashed the innocent costumes that Disney was going to tell the employees about with a light sign. Then he smacked another into an outdoor fire where he melted. He then grabbed heavier hooks and sliced one's eyes off. But then the hook, wait, you were the kid the whole time. No wonder you joined the SSA. The new kid, it all fits together. You thought that the mascots killed your mom and dad after you saw them in the meat freezer, then you tried to kill them. Then one decided to befriend you. I'll make sure that he tells the other suits that you're okay, but you may have to prove it to them. Go, Jake. So basically the suits have been trying to kill Jake as an act of revenge because he attacked them a long time ago, or out of fear that you'll do something like that again. I guess they killed Henry after mistaking him for Jake. FNATI Mickey was probably the one who got smacked with a sign, as he was going to do that to Jake as a form of poetic justice. And the face decided to befriend Jake as he doesn't hold any grudge against him and knows that he means no harm. When you play Night 6 next time, it will be very different. Not just different to Night 6 in a good ending, but the rest of the nights. Nothing happens until 1 AM, then True Mickey becomes active. True Mickey is a darker shaded photo-negative Mickey with uncanny human eyes. Then at 3 AM the power will turn off and True Mickey will become hostile. You can use a flashlight in your office to see if Mickey is there. Using a flashlight will make your health go down. If he is in your office, you have to press C. If you hear static, you have to press X. Occasionally he'll attack your soul, which will transition to a minigame where you play as a heart that has to dodge loads of Mickey heads. This is supposed to be a reference to Undertale. I'd like to disclose before going forward that I haven't actually played Undertale, so my knowledge on the game is sparse. If you touch a Mickey head, it'll take off some of your health. If you run out of health, you'll die. When you get to 6 AM, an image of True Mickey will glitch on your screen. Then you get another Undertale battle. After you survive the first battle, enter a second one. During the second one, if you touch a Mickey head, the heart will break. But then a drop of yellow blood will touch it. It will then say photo-negative Mickey had saved you. So the face told the suits that you mean no harm, and I guess that made them not want you dead anymore. Maybe they just feared you and didn't actually want revenge, but I don't know. Then you have an Undertale-like boss fight with True Mickey. Mickey heads will fall down. If you touch one, your health will go down. Every once in a while, a fight button will come up. You have to touch the button to damage Mickey. When you hit him 5 times, he'll start shooting lasers at you, which you have to dodge. If you touch green Mickey heads, you'll regain health. When you defeat True Mickey, you get a text cutscene. True Mickey tells you that he tried to kill Jake so that he could escape from Discovery Island and go back to his home dimension. He then asks if he can be friends with Jake, in which Jake agrees. He then tells True Mickey that he can help him out with the SSA, in which True Mickey is very happy about having a purpose in the dimension. Then it turns out that Jake's dad is alive, and it turns out that Undying is Jake's father, and that photo-negative Mickey saved his life with a blood transfusion. Then photo-negative Mickey comes in and is about to kill Jake, but Undying picks him up and throws him off a cliff. Okay, I made that part up, that doesn't actually happen. Photo-negative Mickey then comes in and says that he doesn't want to kill Jake anymore and apologizes for trying to kill him, as all the suits have agreed to befriend Jake. Then it says, the end. What the fuck was that ending? So the true ending randomly throws in this plot point about this character who was only introduced on night 6 being trapped on the island, and for some reason he must kill Jake to get off, which makes absolutely no sense. Then he just turns good out of nowhere and Jake just forgives him after he literally tried to murder him for seemingly no reason. Then it does a fucking Star Wars and makes Undying, someone who's literally been trying to kill Jake the whole time, despite what he says, the father of Jake, and that photo-negative Mickey saved his life. S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S himself later admitted that the true ending was a poorly written, rushed mess. So much so that he actually left a note in an updated version of the game warning you that the true ending is really bad in advance. So, that's the end of Abandoned Discovery Island. So how does this game hold up after almost 10 years? It's not great, but compared to other 2016 FNAF fan games, it hasn't aged too poorly. The main nights are overall fun and intense, even if they are easy unless killed by RNG. I really like Pirate Cabins and would say it's the best part of the game. Even if a lot of the game was taken from the cancelled Five Nights at Treasure Island, these were still very unique concepts at the time. The obvious downfall though is the game's story. It's just awful. It just randomly introduces these plot points which oftentimes make no sense and contradicts other elements of the game, so it's really hard to get invested in. But I will say this. Abandoned Discovery Island is not a boring game. It definitely has a lot of content to it and has replayability. So I mentioned that the game had received a lot of updates since its initial release. Well, there was actually a planned reboot of the game made by Desco and Malrat called Five Nights at Treasure Island Found. However, the game ended up getting cancelled. A lot of unfinished builds have since been released. The game was going to have a flashlight mechanic where you would see the suits in your office. Corruptus got a redesign and has green and red on him. There were 2 FNATI characters that were supposed to appear in Abandoned Discovery Island who are going to be brought back for FNATI Found. those being Hourglass and Mick. They were removed in the original game due to there being too many enemies and to prevent the game from reaching Click Team's limitations. To deal with Mick, you would have shined your light at him, and for Hourglass you just had to shut off a camera. There was also going to be an Easter egg added, which initially was a joke character that someone added onto the abandoned Discovery Island fan and wiki known as Bloodmuck Tomato of Drugs and Non-Phonegativeness Doom. This character is just a tomato who, get this, has a 1 in a billion chance of showing up in your office every time you pull down your monitor. Okay, well, not exactly. The number is so high, the Click Team automatically changed it to 1 in 65,535. Sadly, there doesn't seem to be any videos of an encounter. Until now, that is. My friend Rainbow Hype tweaked the MFAs for FNATI Found Revision 1 to make it so that Tomato just has a 1 in 10 chance of appearing when you pull down your camera. And I'm gonna show you an encounter with this legendary Easter egg. By the way, I turned the volume down by 90% because it's that fucking loud. If you want a raw encounter with this tomato yourself, I've linked the build for the game in the description below. So that's pretty much all there is to say about Abandoned Discovery Island. This game practically saved FNATI as it came out during what was probably FNATI at its lowest point. Throughout 2016, Malrap made a ton of popular FNATI games which kept the community alive. In fact, many started to mistake Malrap's games as official sequels and spin-off to the original FNATI. What didn't help is that he used to go by the name Photonegative Mickey, which probably also led many to think that he created the character and inserted his OC into the game, because that was trendy back in 2015-2016. But that's a story for another video. In June 2016, Malrap released the first version of FNATI Let the Show Begin, which was the first popular FNATI fan game that wasn't a remake to get released. However, there was one original FNATI game that came out before Let the Show Begin. Well, sorta, and that is Treasure Island Zero, formerly known as FNATI Below Disney. The game actually began development before Abandoned Discovery Island came out, on the 2nd of April 2016. The game was made by Blackout. It was going to be a fan-made sequel to FNATI. The game was based off Room Zero, the 2014 sequel to Abandoned by Disney. 2 demos were released during May 2016, however though both of these demos are now lost. Like almost all of Blackout's games, this got cancelled, so it's debatable as to whether or not this was the first FNATI fan game to not be a remake of FNATI, but even then you could make the argument that it's not completely original due to it being based off Room Zero. There's one video of the second demo uploaded by MegaXD. The video only shows Night 2. The game looks very different to how FNATI looked. You had an awareness meter which acted similar to an exposure meter. You can also shut off the cameras. The video shows Disembodied enter the office while he increases your awareness. It also shows Mickey and Oswald's jump scare, but doesn't show exactly how you defend yourself against them, or if you even can defend yourself against them, as this could have been a very broken demo. We'll only truly find out though if someone finds a demo. Treasure Island Zero is a very obscure game, but there have been far more obscure games that have been found, so it's certainly possible for Treasure Island Zero to get found. Luckily though, we do have a text document which explains what the gameplay would have been like in more detail than what the demo shows. You have to watch Bunker Mickey, which is the name of the normal Mickey suit in the cameras, or else you're screwed. That's what the text doc says. The face will crawl through the vents and will kill the player quickly if he enters. It doesn't say how you deal with him, so I guess you just shut off a camera. If Disembodied or Daisy enter your office, they'll speed up the other suits and increase your awareness. If your awareness gets to the maximum, Mickey will kill you. Goofy's head is also a threat and will speed up Acephalus. I don't know what Acephalus does, but it says that for other suits you can shut off the camera, so I guess that's how you deal with him. Hourglass and Impure Mouse were also going to appear in the game, but it's unknown what they would have done. All we know is that Impure Mouse would have been on night 6 or 7. It also lists a few more characters. Dollwald is the name of Oswald in this game. There's also a Phantom Negative Mickey who is supposed to be active on night 2, but I don't know if it's in the demo. There's also a Phantom Negative Minnie, Suicide Mouse and Undying who are also going to appear in the game. All these characters are just mentioned, I don't know what they would have acted like. You would have either had to shut off the cameras or the mechanics weren't thought of. There was going to be a good ending, which involved you clicking a S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S doll, which will appear in Cam 8. There was going to be some twist where if you stabbed the S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S doll with a needle, you would find out that all the suits were actually in your head. Before each night begun, you would have got a radio message which would explain how you play the game, and you can somehow play the radio in reverse and you would have got a secret message on how to get the good ending. There were also plans for there to be a gas mask mechanism which would have worked like the mask in FNAF 2. This was a reference to Room Zero. There was actually an even earlier FNATI fan game based off Room Zero, simply called Room Zero, which began development way back in January 2016. The game was being made by MarcoGames. It was also cancelled but was never released in any shape or form. Very little is known about the game. There were a few teasers released and the game was scheduled to come out sometime in 2017. It would have taken place in an abandoned hotel and the suits were wax variants of Mickey, Goofy and Donald. The game drop page was left abandoned in April 2016 and MarcoGames left the internet. Marcus was also working on a FNATI-like FNAF fan game called Curse6Flags, which began development in May 2015. All we know is it would have had classic Warner Brothers cartoon characters like Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny, and that it would have taken place at Six Flags New Orleans, a Six Flags park that was closed down after it was severely damaged by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. This game was also cancelled. There's one more FNATI remake that I'm going to be talking about before really getting to the original stuff, and that game is Five Nights at Treasure Island Revived. The game was made by that one developer in 1996. The game was released in March of 2017. It is a remake of the original FNATI if the game was finished before the remastered era, however it's not completely faithful as there were some elements taken from the remastered games. It has the Night 1 and 2 phone calls from the original FNATI. Night 1 and 2 are basically patched versions of the original FNATI demo. Photo-negative Mickey is active on Night 1, Oswald and Disembodied are on Night 2. They all act the same as how they acted in the demos, just short of a camera. When a suit appears in your office, the screen will fade to black before they enter, which looks a lot more clean since they previously just teleported in. The face and suicide mouse become active on Night 3, you have to shut off the cameras for them. After you beat Night 3 you get to play Pirate Caverns. It plays out mostly the same as how it does in Abandoned Discovery Island, however this time you're on a timer. You have to open the safe on floor 2 using the same method as you would in Abandoned Discovery Island, while avoiding the face and undying. One difference is that when you open the chest, you'll first see a skull and a poster that says Otaku. You have to keep opening and closing the chest before it eventually gives you the key. There is one very obnoxious aspect to this version of Pirate Caverns. If you die, you have to replay Night 3 again, and that includes if you run out of time. If this was the first complete FNATI game that you ever played, you'd probably spend literal hours replaying Night 3, as this game just assumes that you're familiar with FNATI. That's not even the biggest issue with the game. Now let's talk about Night 4. On Night 4, Willie and Acephalus become active. Willie just acts like everyone else, shut off a camera, and for Acephalus you have to hide under the desk. However, Acephalus is completely broken. There is a bug where if you hide under the desk when Acephalus is there, you'll just die to Suicide Mouse, even if he isn't in the room. Hiding under the desk just triggers Suicide Mouse's jump scare for some reason. This makes Night 4 impossible. There's no footage of anyone beating Night 4. But when I decompiled the game, I found nothing that I hadn't seen before. So I'm guessing nothing happens when you beat Night 4 or 5. There's an extras menu which can be accessed at any time. The extras has Pluto and Photo-negative Minnie, who I don't remember ever seeing, but I can imagine they just work the same as how they did in Abandoned Discovery Island. There's also a trophy section. After beating Night 1 you get a bronze Disembodied statue, when you beat Night 2 you get a silver Oswald statue, when you beat Night 3 you get a golden Mickey statue, and when you beat Night 4 you get a statue of God holding Mickey's head. There doesn't seem to be any trophies you get when you beat Night 5. There's also cheats you can enable which includes Fast Nights, which make the nights go faster, no Disembodied, which means Disembodied won't be active, obviously, and no shut off cams turn on, which isn't really a cheat, it's more of a challenge, kinda like how aggressive mode in FNAF 3 is anything but a cheat. This makes it so that if you shut off a camera, it will be off for the rest of the night, making the game luck-based. The game had a lot of updates during the first 6 weeks of its release. There was going to be a Night 6 added, but I don't know if that was ever actually added. Honestly, I think Five Nights at Treasure Island Revived is actually what the original FNATI would have been like if it got finished. While this game is buggy as fuck, it's actually more stable than any of the demos for FNATI. When you put aside the bugs though, the game is actually kinda boring. It's very easy until Night 4 when it becomes just straight up impossible. And Pirate Caverns was just ruined by forcing you to have to replay Night 3 every time you fail. Now let's talk about an original FNATI fan game called D-Day. The game was being made in mid-2016 by Twisty. I found pretty much no information on this game. The only thing that we know is it was inspired by the return to Freddy's 5. It was cancelled on an unknown date. However, there was a remake of the game by Ian Lane known as D-Day Revival. I couldn't find out when the game was released, but it was sometime in late 2016. A teaser game was released first called TGME. The game has the numbers 1 through 3. They all show text which vaguely explains what the game will be like. This remake took inspiration from 6 Horrors 3 by Toonster. The game has 5 floors, each containing a different game mode, which was certainly ambitious for the time as TRTF5 was cancelled. On each floor you have to survive for 5 minutes, however the characters will be the same with adding a new character on the next floor. Like TRTF5, the suits are known as the Torture variants. In D-Day they are a burnt red colour and have spikes coming off them, clearly inspired by the Nightmare Before Disney characters. floors. Floor 1 takes place in this jail cell looking room. It has Torture Mickey and Torture Minnie. Minnie has jaws on both of her hands and no eyes. You have a security radar which will tell you where Torture Mickey is. When he gets close, you're supposed to stay still. Minnie will randomly appear in the office. When she appears, you're supposed to view the monitor. Floor 2 takes place in what looks like a living room. Torture Oswald is now active and has spikes coming off his ears and sharp teeth. Mickey and Oswald will attack from the door on your left. When they appear, you have to click on them and they'll leave. Minnie will randomly appear in your office. When she appears, you have to take a pill by pressing space. However, you can literally spam space the whole night. And you should do that because Minnie has a persistent issue on all floors. Her kill timer is really broken and she can literally kill you as soon as she spawns in. Floor 3 takes place in this dark room with a checkered floor and wooden walls. There's 4 entrances, a door on your left and right, a vent in the ceiling and a hole in the middle. Minnie will attack from the ceiling, Mickey will attack from the left and Oswald will attack from the right. This floor introduces Torture Suicide Mouse. You have a flashlight which is supposed to shine on Mickey and Oswald, and you're supposed to turn it off for Suicide Mouse and Minnie. You should have the light off unless Oswald or Mickey attack. However, there is a bug where the flashlight will sometimes not work. Floor 4 takes place in a very similar room to Floor 3, but instead it has rusty walls. If you hear a loud voice or footsteps, you're supposed to wear a Mickey mask. The mask will work on Mickey, Oswald and Suicide Mouse. This floor introduces Torture Hortensia, who is a character who I have not actually mentioned in this video yet. Hortensia is a classic Disney cartoon cat. She is going to appear in a remastered era of FNATI. In D-Day Revival, she has sharp teeth, creepy eyes and spikes on her limbs. If you hear Minnie or Goofy, you're supposed to press space. Sorry, I mean just spam space the whole floor. Torture Goofy in this game actually has a head and has spikes on his hands. Floor 5 is this TRTF5 looking room. This time you have a gun and have to shoot anyone who appears. Your regular enemies are replaced with Torture Corruptus and a hybrid. Corruptus has 6 arms on each side, totaling at 12. At first I thought these are supposed to be wings. And the hybrid is a mini suit with the heads of Mickey, Oswald and the face. There's 3 characters who are never actually encountered. One is Torture Face, who actually has legs but they're spikes. Torture Carol Mouse, who's a Suicide Mouse looking character, and Torture Pluto, who looks really creepy. He has multiple eyeballs in his eye sockets and mouth. There was going to be a survival mode, but that was never added. Maybe these characters I never saw were supposed to appear in survival mode. So that's the end of D-Day Revival. I do like the way this game looks and it definitely had a cool concept. I think most of the suits and the first 2 floors look good. I think floor 3 and 4 are pretty bland though. But the gameplay is just kinda boring, buggy and exploitable. Before we get to the next FNATI game, let's go back a bit to mid-2016. Blackout now co-own the rights to FNATI alongside Stellar Wisps. Blackout began working on an official spin-off of FNATI with Twisty known as Scrapped. However, this game was cancelled very early on in development with only being a few teasers made. It was going to have new variants of the suits known as the Undead suits. Undead photonegative Mickey, Oswald, Suicide Mouse and Donald were modelled. In August 2016, 2 developers started working on a revival of Scrapped. You might not have ever heard of this game, but you've probably heard of its co-developer. The game was being made by Isinov 1000 and Squeaks. Yes, the developer of critically acclaimed horror games like Polar Dread and Shipwreck 64 used to make FNATI Fangames, and spoilers, this was not his only FNATI game. He used to go by Animated Adam HD. A beta was released in August of 2016, which contained 2 nights. When you press new game, you get a cutscene where you appear to be leaving your house. On the desk, there's a blink in your Miss It newspaper that says, King Elvis dead. Is this supposed to be a news article about Discovery Island, but instead of making their own article, they just use a real news article reporting Elvis Presley's death and hope that no one would notice. So I guess this game takes place in around August of 1977. The office looks similar to the office in FNATI, but there's less rubbish lying around, a hole in the wall, and there's a Mickey head on the floor. You have a monitor where you can view the cameras. Whenever you switch a camera, a loading screen will pop up for about 1 second, which is quite annoying and not very necessary. Also, I can barely see any of the rooms because the opacity on the static effect is really low. I think a lot of rooms are altered versions of pre-existing rooms from FNATI Remastered. One of the cameras are broken and it tells you to reconnect the camera by pressing R, but I did that and nothing happened. This game doesn't explain how you play, not even a hint, so you have to figure out everything yourself, and I think I was able to do that since I beat both nights. On night 1 you have undead photo-negative Mickey, undead Oswald, and undead suicide mouse. Photo-negative Mickey will emerge from a plastic bin on the left side of your office. To send him back you have to press a red square on the cameras. He'll only progress in the stage when you put your monitor down. On your monitor is a wrench icon which gives you the option to execute command, VIP OG player, and terminate command. If suicide mouse or Oswald appear in your office, you're supposed to click, well, one of them. I just spammed all of them though because there's no cooldown and it does the job. Also, some of the jump scares are pretty crap. When you start night 2, it plays a cutscene ambience heard in the first cutscene, but over a black screen. So I guess there was supposed to be a cutscene at the start of night 2, but it wasn't made yet. Night 2 introduces Undead Donald, Undead Willy, Undead Pluto, and apparently Undead Pete, but I never saw him. Pete has a running animation in Cam 6 though, so that's interesting. When Pluto appears in the office, he'll bark at you. You have to look away from him to get rid of him. When Donald appears, go to the maintenance panel and press one of the 3 thingies. Willy will appear in a hole in the wall. When he appears, you have to press a red button. Also, Willy's jump scare is just hilarious. Nothing happens when you beat night 2. The game was cancelled shortly after the beta was released after being met with negative reviews, even by big names such as Malra and Maximum Elevator, the latter of which said that the game was cancerous.
So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button. And
please say that this game is cancerous.
Yeah, if you want to say that, please put that in a comment below.
Its GameJolt page was deleted and the beta was considered lost media until it was re-uploaded by Larvasage in February 2022. In January 2017, Mara released his own version of Scrap with help from Blackout. Following the game's cancellation, Squeaks and Eastonov started working on a FNATI fangame that was inspired by Scrapped, called Breaking the Magic. The game was released as a demo in September 2016. The title screen is quite unique. It has Mickey being chained up in a void of a room. The demo only contained one night. The game takes place in an abandoned warehouse. The office appears to be at the end of a hallway. On your right is a desk with a monitor. You use that to check the cameras. Throughout the building is a lot of Mickey heads scattered around. There's also a heart rate monitor on your left. This mechanism was taken from Nightmare Before Disney. When Mickey enters your office, you're supposed to hold shift, which will lure him out by charging the radio. However, if you're looking at your monitor, he won't enter your office. Whenever Mickey moves, you'll hear footsteps. Mickey actually has animated renders in the cameras, which was very rare in 2016. You also get a creepy game over screen which shows your dead body with Mickey standing over it, with text that reads, "You couldn't survive forever." When you survive, you get a unique 6 AM screen, then it takes you back to the menu. So this demo doesn't really have much to offer, but it did look promising. It wasn't like any other FNAF fangame, let alone any FNATI game. And Breaking the Magic was eventually complete and released on the 9th of May 2017. However though, it was very different to the demo that I just talked about. Before the game could be complete, the MFA got corrupted, which led to the game being cancelled. However though, it would restart development, but it was now a completely different game. Eastonov was no longer part of the project, so the game was now being entirely made by Squeaks. The premise of the new version of Breaking the Magic is that you play as Doug, who is working for the SSA. You are investigating an abandoned museum in a forest at the Walt Disney World Resort. While you're there, you're waiting for a ship to arrive to pick up the suits, who are all rejected suits that have been damaged. Now let's talk about the game. Like the demo, this is a very unique game. At the start of each night, you get a cutscene where you're in a room with a TV in front of you. The camera then zooms in on the TV static and gives a random tip. It's difficult to really look at the location because the monitor has a strong stag effect, but I do like the textures. Most of the game has a very fade wooden colour, which doesn't really look appealing, but it definitely looks unsettling. And the game does have an unnerving environment. I also really like the suits designs. There's 2 types of suits in the game, the Jigsaws and the Coverts. The Jigsaw suits are Mickey, Oswald, Minnie, The Face, Hortensia, C.E.T.C.H.E.S, and Willy. The characters all have their heads vertically split in half with a stitch keeping it together, except for C.E.T.C.H.E.S. Mickey has one arm, Minnie has no arms, The Face has no eyes, and the most split head out of all the Jigsaws. In fact, during his jump scare, his head literally falls apart. One of Hortensia's eye sockets has multiple eyeballs. There was going to be a Jigsaw hourglass, but he was scrapped and as far as my knowledge goes, was never modelled. There's a lot less covert suits, those being covert Mickey, Oswald, Donald, and Mortimer. These characters have even less colour than the Jigsaws, but are less withered. Covert Mickey is a photo-negative Mickey variant with nightmarish eyes. Covert Oswald is a Dark Oswald variant with his left eye being completely busted and his right eye is glowing. Covert Donald is basically just disembodied with less colour and damaged eyes. Mortimer was loosely based off a classic Disney character, Mortimer Mouse, however he doesn't look anything like him. In FNATI, Mortimer was actually just a later version of Suicide Mouse with glowing eyes and a creepy smile. In Breaking the Magic is basically just a fat, rusty Suicide Mouse. Overall, I think the visuals of the game look fantastic. The sounds are also really good. The ambience is quite loud for a FNAF fan game, but I think it works well for this game. My only criticism towards the visuals of the game is that it has a seizure-inducing game over screen. You also get a unique 6 AM screen. Okay, so let's talk about the gameplay now. Is that actually any good? At the start of each night, you'll get text that explains how you play the night. So you actually have to pick up a monitor on your desk at the start of a night in order to view the cameras. On the same desk, there's a harmless Donald Duck head, and if you click on him, he says,
Santiago.
In the office, you have a doorway in front of you and on your left. There's also a hole in the wall. You can look behind you where you can see 3 green lights in a hallway. When a light goes off, you have to wind it back up. When all of them go off, you can't use the cameras, however you can recharge it back up if it runs out. This game also has a heart rate monitor, and you take morphine to lower it. If your heart rate stays above 96 for too long, you'll die. I know this is just a game and isn't supposed to be realistic, but your heart rate starts at 60 beats per minute, which is actually quite low, and you can take morphine right away, which gets it down to 30. Luckily, it doesn't go any lower than that, but if your heart rate was that fucking low in real life, you'd be dead. Your heart rate will go up the more you look at the suits. There also isn't a clock on your screen anywhere, but you can sometimes tell the time. Every time it reaches an hour, you'll hear a bell ring for every hour you've survived. On night 1 you have Jigsaw Mickey, Jigsaw Oswald, Jigsaw Face and Covert Mortimer. Jigsaw Mickey will appear in the doorway in front of you, the face will appear behind your desk. For these suits you have to pull up the monitor and trigger the strobe lights. To do so, hold on the strobe lights button until it flashes. The strobe lights can also be used on Mortimer, who will appear on the TV in a storage area 2, which is the same room that appears at the start of each night. Jigsaw Oswald will appear on your left. When you see him you have to look to the right and then look back to your left where you'll see him creeping up on you before leaving. Night 2 introduces Covert Mickey and Jigsaw Minnie. Covert Mickey will climb up the wall and appear at the top of the office. At first I thought the top was supposed to be the ceiling, but no, there's no ceiling at all. You just have to use the strobe lights on him. Minnie will be at the back of the crossing area. When she moves closer you have to ring a bell. Night 3 introduces Covert Oswald and Covert Donald. Covert Oswald will sometimes appear in front of you when you pull down your monitor. To get rid of him, you have to turn around and look back. Covert Donald will appear on the right side of the office and will speed up the suits. You also just have to use the strobe lights on him. Night 4 introduces Jigsaw Hortensia. She'll attack from behind you. When you see her in the hallway, you have to use the strobe lights. The Night 4 introduction tells you that there's another suit you have to track down, so I'm guessing that's Willy, but I never saw him. Throughout the whole game, the suit's AI are extremely aggressive. You can get attacked within about 10 seconds of just starting Night 1. This definitely makes earlier nights more enjoyable than average, but later nights are very hard. None of the suits specifically are really that annoying, but it's the fact that there's 9 enemies that can kill you very quickly. You pretty much have to use strobe lights the instant they appear. Night 4 is very hard because of this, but the craziest part though is that I actually played a patched version of Night 4. The night was even harder when the game was first released, but was considered unbeatable, so it ended up getting nerfed. And get this, there was actually an extra suit on Night 4. There was a character named Fear who is a purple mouse with glowing eyes. He would come out of the hole in the wall and you had to stare at him until he goes away. He was removed from the game to balance out the difficulty. When you beat Night 4 you get an animated cutscene of Jigsaw Mickey chained up. He then speaks to you in a demonic voice. Then it cuts to his head on the floor. Night 5 is different to Night 4. At the start of Night 4 it says that the SSA will arrive and take away the suits. Only 2 enemies are active. One is Jigsaw Celesta and the other is a completely new suit named Master Mickey. He looks like a Mickey suit made out of straw. He'll appear in your office in multiple places. He can appear as a head on your desk and his headless body will appear shortly afterwards. Regardless of where he attacks though, you have to use the strobe lights. Celesta will pull your monitor down every once in a while. When he does this you have to pull it back up. When you beat Night 5 you get a text cutscene where Doug is talking. What's even happening here? All I know about this place is that I need to flee as fast as I can. I'll try to check around first just to make sure he's not still roaming. Then he starts checking the cameras. I don't even know what that was. It doesn't matter, my co-workers are probably here to take me back. Then he runs out to see if they're here. Where are they? They're not even here. Then you hear Master Mickey. Then it quickly shows a cutscene of Master Mickey catching Doug. Then you get an ending screen which shows Mickey's eyeless head with text that reads, "The End." Upon beating Night 5, you unlock a custom night. Well, sorta. You can't really customize the suit's AI, you can only decide who is and isn't active. When you beat the custom night, nothing happens. So that's the end of Breaking the Magic. It's definitely a style over substance game. It looks really good, but the gameplay, while unique, is kinda meh. The game's difficulty pretty much just relies on spamming. It's a more balanced game than the other games it talked about, but the gameplay is just not great overall. Although I can't deny that this game really did have a lot of good ideas, even for its gameplay, and this was definitely very different to any other FNAF fan games to have came out at the time. And overall, I would still say it's a decent game. Now let's move on to a different FNATI fan game made by a different developer. Five Nights at Treasure Island 2, also known as FNATI before Disney. The game was made by At-Castaway-Cay. It began development in April 2016 and will be released in April 2017. Yes, this 2017 FNAF fan game spent a year in development, so how was the final product? In this fan-made sequel to FNATI, you play as Henry. When you start the game, you get a phone call from Jake, who says that Henry was told to go to Discovery Island, but backed out as he was creeped out by the suits. Henry crashes out at Jake and tells him to go to the island or he'll get fired.
Suit, and the Donald Duck head really gets you shaking in your boots. That's fine. But if Greg finds out you're slacking, he'll fire you for sure. Just try to show up tomorrow, man.
So this game actually takes place over the course of just one night. You survive from 10 PM till 6 AM. However, each hour lasts 3 minutes. When you make it to the next hour, your progress will be saved. At the start of each hour, a robotic voice will instruct you on what you're supposed to do.
10 PM. The mouse will try to find you. He will move from the mascot room to the hallway and then into the office. If he appears in the office, then leave immediately. He will leave after a while. Watch your heart rate.
This time you don't have a monitor and instead you walk around the resort. This game has a heart rate mechanism. This time though it won't get any lower than 65 beats per minute. Your heart rate will increase if you're in the same room as a suit. To decrease it you have to stand next to a Mickey statue in a lounge on the left side of your office. The rooms are all dark but you can see by using a flashlight. At 10 PM, photonegative Mickey is the only one active. All you have to do is not be in the same room as him. If you walk into the same room as him besides a mascot room, he'll kill you. However though, there is no way of telling what room he is in. Luckily, he'll only appear on the right side of the map. He'll make his way to the office and will eventually go back to the mascot room. At 11 PM, photonegative Minnie becomes active. She'll appear if you stay out of the office for too long. You have to go back to the office to stop her. At 12 AM, disembodied and Cephalus become active. When the Cephalus appears, you have to yell at him to scare him off.
I know who you are.
For disembodied, you have to turn your flashlight off when he appears. Before continuing, I'd like to point out that there's quite a lot of glitches in the game. The main ambience doesn't loop, so the game will just go silent after a while. Sometimes the jump scares don't play or stop midway, and some sounds just stop working randomly. The optimization is also not very good. The game crashes while loading sometimes and can take a while to start up. Whenever you restart an hour after getting killed, you'll get a random loading screen of a character. One of them says that Mickey has a fetish for people wanting to see his head come off, which really makes me question what he's going to do with that head after he takes it off. At 1 AM, Oswald and Undying become active, and Cephalus for some reason is absent during this hour. When Oswald appears in your office, you're supposed to shine your light at him. He'll move around the office and you have to keep shining it at him until he eventually goes away. Undying can appear in another room described as the Red Room, and when he appears, you're supposed to click on his eyes when your flashlight is off. But here's the thing. I don't even know what room this is and I completely ignored him and I was fine. So it's kind of a pointless character. At 12 AM, Suicide Mouse becomes active. He'll appear in the broadcast room. When you hear the Suicide Mouse theme, you're supposed to go to the broadcast room and turn off the TV. And if you don't turn off the TV, then, well, nothing happens. He's completely harmless. You have a TV cooldown meter where if you turn off the TV, you have to wait a bit before turning it on again, which is illogical. At 3 AM, the face becomes active. You're supposed to click on him if you see him in a room towards the back. This is yet another character who you can just completely ignore for the whole night. At 4 AM, God becomes active. She'll appear in your office and you have to hold your cursor in the center of your screen. Well, at least you actually have to do something to stop her. Almost every time I died whilst playing the game was the photonegative Mickey. He's the only true threat in the game, and he's a really big threat because you can't tell if you're about to enter the same room as him. So the only way you can really fail is due to luck. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that the suits are all slightly withered, and they look really messy. Oswald is really stretched out, God looks like she's been punched in the face, and Undying just has holes in his eyes which look kinda awkward. At 5 AM, things start to change. You get a cutscene where an original character named the Mixture talks to you. Hello Henry, it's me, your brother, mother and father. We're here to offer you free admission to hell. Join us. The Mixture is the only enemy active at 5 AM. After you get to 5 AM, the Mixture replaces photonegative Mickey in the menu. Mixture will take the behaviour of everyone else. When he appears, it'll tell you what he's supposed to do. However, there isn't any way of knowing what room he is in, so you gotta walk around mindlessly a lot. When you get to 6 AM, you get a cutscene where a Mickey suit talks to you.
Henry, it's me. Congratulations. You won. I didn't expect this outcome. But let me remind you, you just assured your own safety. But there is one more important person in your life. It's time for me to visit our dear sister. Goodbye, Henry.
After the cutscene ends, the credits roll. You then get a thank you screen. Also, I decompiled the game, and for some reason, Waluigi is in the files. I have no idea if he shows up in the game at some point, and if I just didn't see him, or if it's just there. So that's the end of Five Nights at Treasure Island 2. So overall, I'm mixed on this game. I really like the concept of it being a point-and-click free roam game, and it could have been a good game if it was well coded, but it wasn't executed very well. What they needed to do was make it so that the redundant suits could actually kill you if you don't deal with them, and have photonegative Mickey kill you if you're in a room with him for even just 2 or 3 seconds instead of just having him kill you instantly. And of course, optimize the game better and give the suits better designs. It's kinda crazy this game was made in a year, because it feels rushed, or maybe Jacket Josh just wasn't experienced enough to program something like this. The next FNATI fan game I'm going to be talking about is a remake of Abandoned Discovery Island, and that is Abandoned Discovery Island 2.0. The game was made by Mickey Let's Plays. It was first released in July 2017. It received many updates all the way up until July 2018. The first thing I'll say about this game is its optimization is atrocious. The game is infamous for crashing when you press new game. Most videos on the game are just the extras menu, which are accessed by tampering with the game's code. Luckily for me though, Rainbow Hyper recompiled the game and sent it to me. You can actually run the game now without it crashing. I've linked it in the description if you want to check it out. The menu is completely different to the original. The office looks mostly the same, but you can see a lounge through the left doorway. There's 4 new cameras. You have the depths, the stairway, the break room, and the cavern's entrance looks completely different. The mechanisms are all the same. The phone calls are mostly the same as the ones used in the original. Photonegative Mickey is the only character I saw on night 1, and he acts the same as how he acts in the original. A new character that can appear on night 1 but I didn't see until later is Dumbo, as in the elephant from a 1941 Disney movie. In this game he is just a head who has a 1 in 35 chance of appearing in your office when you pull your monitor down. He'll speed up the suits. You have to show off a camera if you see him. When you beat night 1 you'll get a cutscene from FNATI Remastered. If you stay on the menu for too long, photonegative Mickey will open his human eyes, which he only had in the menu, he'll duck down and then jump scare you. This was inspiration for True Mickey, and in this game it is supposed to be True Mickey. On night 2 Oswald is active. He acts the same as how he acts in the original. The face is also active, and he also acts the same as how he acted in the original. Disembodied is also active on night 2 and also acts the same. Okay, let's just get this out of the way. Almost every returning character acts the same as how they acted in the original, so I'll just highlight the differences if there is any. When you beat night 2 you get a cutscene of the face on the floor in a puddle of blood. Above him is a hook with a dismembered arm. Then a 4K PNG of God appears, and then you get an either screen of God. By the way, in this game God is referred to as Purity, but is already an alias of God. The night 3 phone call is different. It's someone from the SSA who tells you how to deal with a syphilis.
Officer, well, we found the body. You may see him. I suppose.
Night 3 introduces Acephalus, Celesta, Suicide Mouse, Photonegative Mini, Pluto, and Hourglass. All of them act the same as how they acted in the original, except for Pluto, who'll prevent you from looking at the monitor. When he appears, you have to hide from him. Hourglass acts like how he was supposed to act in the original, you have to show off a camera. Apparently Henry is also active on Night 3 and you have to show off a camera, but I never saw him. At 3 AM you get to play Pirate Caverns. This time Pirate Caverns is actually quite different. The face and Undying are back and act the same. However, this time you have an exposure meter, which will go up if you're in the same room as another suit. It goes up pretty damn fast, but it'll gradually go down over time. This time there's music in the elevator. There's 2 new enemies on Pirate Caverns. On floor 1 there's Vanellope von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph. This is a very random character to add to the game. FNATI is made up of classic Disney cartoons, but Vanellope is from a Disney movie that came out in 2012. I never encountered her, but I'm guessing she acts the same as a face. When you return to the elevator after collecting the tape on floor 2, you'll be taken to a floor 3, which is different to floor 3 in the original. Floor 3 has 2 suits on the floor who are harmless. One is True Mickey and the other is an original character named the Rat. He is basically the face with less colour and has Suicide Mouse's head, which is now green. Floor 3 has a new enemy, Daniel McLaughlin, who is just Undying but recolored green. When you beat Night 3 you get a cutscene of Undying. Night 4 introduces Willy, Purity, Undying, Classic Oswald, Daisy, Hortensia, Pete, Mick, and a bunch of original characters that we'll get to later. Classic Oswald acts different this time. He just acts like everyone else, just show off a camera. You also have to show off a camera for Mick, Pete, and Hortensia. Undying is more aggressive this time, but you're a lot more likely to survive when the power is out. In this game, when the power goes out, if a suit enters your office with their eyes visible, you have to flash your light at them. If you can't see their eyes though, you must hide. Also, there isn't really any point watching Undying because he'll just get to you no matter what. You're just holding off the inevitable. Now onto the original characters. You have Unwanted Mickey, who is a corrupted Mickey suit who is missing a leg. You have to show off the camera when he appears. Photonegative Daisy is, well, a photonegative version of Daisy. She's another character who'll stop you from using the camera. When she appears, you have to hide under the desk. There's also a photonegative Disembodied who I did not see, but apparently he just acts the same as normal Disembodied. Mick Body is a headless Mickey, you have to hide under the desk when he appears. Photonegative The Face, clues in the name, you have to hide under the desk if you see him. Dipper Pines from Gravity Falls, a show that aired from 2012 till 2016, is in this FNATI game and you just have to show off a camera for him. Homer the Cat, another classic Disney character, is a recolor of classic Oswald who wears red instead of blue and is more shiny. To deal with him, you have to show off a camera. Okay, that's all the characters. Are you seeing a pattern here? Yeah, there's 23 enemies active on Night 4 and most of them do the same thing as another suit. Now, I'm not saying that all of them should do something different, that would be insanity, but it just shows that these new characters are just filler. Now yeah, this is a lot more challenging than the original, but I feel like it would have been easier to just have the already existing suits be more aggressive, and it would have definitely held better for the game's optimization. I guess Mickey Let's Plays just really wanted to add loads of characters to the game, and if you think about it, I guess it does kind of work, as most FNAF fan games with 24 characters are near impossible. Night 4 is hard, but it is definitely beatable. Although another thing this game has that the original doesn't have are exploits. One of them is that when you turn off the power and flip up your monitor, it will keep you in the camera whilst the power is off. This can trigger the Death Alive jump scare glitch. They'll try to kill you, but the jump scare will keep freezing. However, this doesn't deactivate everyone's AI, and a few characters will actually kill you during this state. I know Undying can still kill you, but I'm not too sure about the others. After you beat Night 4, nothing happens. Night 5 introduces a lot of new characters. Decimated Mickey, who is actually a pretty creepy character. He is Mickey but with one eye missing, he is missing an arm and has darker textures. You have to show off a camera for him. Winnie the Pooh, who you have to hide under the desk for. Classic Minnie, who you have to show off a camera for. Unreal Mickey, who is a blue Mickey. When he appears, you have to smash a peanut butter jar over your head. Withered Photonegative Mickey, who is a faded colour damaged photonegative Mickey with red eyes. When he appears, you have to show off your camera. Woody from Toy Story, you have to hide under the desk if you see him. And Olaf the Snowman from Frozen, who you also have to hide under the desk. There is one new character who actually does act a bit different, Cactus Kid, who will come out of a Cactus Kid poster in the office. He's basically just a yellow suicide mouse. The more times you look at the camera, the closer he'll get to you. And when he enters the office, you have to hide under the desk. Okay, that's everyone on Night 1 through 5. When you beat Night 5, you get a Night 3 cutscene from the original, but instead plays a Five Nights at Tubbyland music box, which I'm sure has a name. So there isn't multiple endings in this game, and Night 6 is unlocked after beating Night 5 regardless of the player's decision. Night 5 had 35 enemies, so I bet you want to know how many enemies are on Night 6. Yeah, there's only 2. One of those enemies is Corruptus, who's a lot more aggressive this time, which actually works well because he was kind of a joke in the original. The other character is Mr. Mouse, who is a Corruptus-like character who has more colour from the other suits on him. Many of his body parts are levitating off his torso. Most of the colour is on his head, which is mangled. Mr. Mouse is basically the opposite of Corruptus. You have to hide if he is at the back and shut off a camera if he is at the front. When you beat Night 6, you unlock the extras. When you view the extras, you find out that there is a Night 7. But not only is there a Night 7, there's also a Night 8. But not only is there a Night 8, there's also a Night 10. I mean, kudos for just saying fuck it, I want to put as much content in my game as I want and nothing can stop me. So let's talk about Night 7. Corruptus and Mr. Mouse are both active on this night alongside the other 35 characters who are on Night 5. But there's more characters who were introduced. Honestly, to get through this quicker, I'm just going to talk about each character in order by what they do, because most of the characters do the same thing. First, let's talk about the new characters who you have to shut off the camera for. The Rat, the Visage, who is Minnie with a face's head. Fanny Cottontail, who is a recolor of classic Oswald who wears green and probably has a fanny. Epic Mickey, who is Mickey with Willy's head. Daniel McLaughlin, Tigger the Tiger from Winnie the Pooh, Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Dead Body, who is a dead body stuffed in a Mickey suit. Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story. Rodent, who is just Mickey with cracks in him. Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. Ghost Bunny, who is a completely white Oswald. And Past Mickey, who is literally just normal Mickey. Characters we hide on the desk from are True Mickey, the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, and Happy Mouse, a creepypasta character who is Suicide Mouse with teeth. There's also Scoiling Mouse, who is a red and grey mouse with one eye, who you have to shut off the camera for, but it might not always work. If it doesn't work, you have to hide under the desk. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering, how does Night 7 play out? Well, let me show you. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering, is this actually beatable? Well, yes, because most of the characters can be dealt with at the same time. Also, some of the characters don't actually have jump scares, probably because you wouldn't even be able to start the game if every single character had a jump scare animation. So you might die without getting jump scared. Night 8 introduces even more enemies. This was literally a UCN game before UCN even existed. Characters who have to shut off the camera for are Eustace, who is a grayscale Goofy, Vanellope von Schweetz, George the Eyesore, who's just true Mickey with bigger eyes, Nightmare Suicide Mouse from Nightmare Before Disney, Normal Goofy, Billy, who is a grayscale Donald Duck, Impure Mouse, Photonegative Oswald, Snow White, James Corden, Smile Mouse, who is another creepypasta character, he is Mickey with no nose and is smiling, White Noise, who is a completely white Mickey with photonegative Minnie's teeth, Funtime Mickey, Fanny, who is basically Dark Oswald with a hat and dress, Psycho Mickey, who is Mickey but is a psycho, Nightmare Oswald from Nightmare Before Disney, Pure Mickey, who's just a light coloured Mick, Souls Mickey, who's just a very dark grey Mickey, Abandon the Face, who's a faded colour melted version of the face with one eye, Photonegative Willy, Tugboat Willy, who's just a yellow Willy, Flesh Mouse, who is a flesh coloured mouse with no eyes, Mabel Pines from Gravity Falls, Mika, who is a cracked yellow mouse, Unfinished Mouse, who is a mostly colourised suicide mouse made to look like Mickey, and Oogie Boogie from A Nightmare Before Christmas. Characters you have to hide from are Blood Mouse, who is a black true Mickey, Really Happy Mouse, Undead Mickey from Scrapped but is made up of photonegative Mickey's body with Suicide Mouse's head, or was recoloured, The Conjoint, who is Chip and Dale, who are, well, conjoint, Donald Duck's body, Sinister Mouse, who's actually a pretty spooky character. He's like a Nightmare Mickey who got the FNAF 4 treatment, Scrooge McDuck, Nightmare photonegative Mickey from Nightmare Before Disney, Cartoon Nightmare, who's just a turd coloured Mickey, Dismember Mouse, who's a dismembered photonegative Mickey, The Sailor, who is a bigger, more creepy looking Donald Duck, Judy Hopps from Zootopia, who's from a movie that came out after Anarch cancelled FNATI 2.0, and a sequel literally came out during the making of this video, Golden Photonegative Mickey, who is a yellow photonegative Mickey with no eyes, The Smile, who is this black ink creature with photonegative Minnie's teeth, the Genie from Aladdin, and the Inkblot, who is this black mouse with Mickey in his reflection. He'll prevent you from looking at the camera while he is in the office. Holy fuck, I am so sorry. That was the longest character listing I have ever done, and there is no way that is ever getting topped. There's also golden trophies you can get of Mickey, Oswald, Acephalus, Suicide Mouse, Pluto, The Face, Photonegative Minnie, Undying, and Purity. I'm not sure how you get these, but they're unlocked after beating Night 6. So what is Night 8? Snort powder cocaine and you'll find out. So Night 10 is a custom night and just a harder version of Night 8. Night 9 is actually very different. It's the Jeff the Killer minigame which has Jeff the Killer. It opens with a text cutscene where Jeff says, "I think you've seen me somewhere. If not, I'll show you my face now, Jake." Then you get the cutscene of Jeff the Killer from the original. It plays out the same as how it plays out in Abandoned Discovery Island, but this time you're surviving until 6 AM. Jeff the Killer's AI is a lot more tame, which is probably the only thing this game actually tones down. So, that's about everything there is to say about Abandoned Discovery Island 2.0. So this game is the very definition of overambitious. It just has way too many enemies. In fact, saying that UCN games have too many enemies would be an insult to this game. But in all honesty, I don't dislike this game at all and would actually say it's better than the original Abandoned Discovery Island. Even if 90% of the characters are just clones of each other, the gameplay is more enjoyable and more challenging. And in spite of all the characters, it's actually less RNG based than the original as there's no kill timer bullshit. Pirate Caverns is a lot more fun with the addition of another floor. Night 6 was way better than it was in the original, and I don't mind that it removes the true ending or any of the story, because the story of Abandoned Discovery Island was pretty bad, and the true ending just gave me whiplash. This game definitely has a lot of heart, even if it was going well overboard. I mean, I do have to give props for coming up with so many characters to add to the game and just adding them, not caring about what other people think. Now I'm going to be talking about another FNATI game made by At-Castaway Cay. This game has two names. One of them is Five Nights at Treasure Island Disneyland, but it's more commonly referred to as The Sullivan Story Disneyland. The game began development in April of 2017, shortly after FNATI 2 was released. Unlike FNATI 2 though, this game just spent 3 months in development, as it was a lot less ambitious. It was first released as a demo in April 2017, very shortly after it began development. The game was finally released in August of 2017. The game received a major update in January 2018. Before I talk about the game though, I'm going to talk about the book. Yes, there was a book written about this game called The Sullivan Story Prologue, which came out in July 2017, so I guess you're supposed to read it before playing the game. Mary and Jonathan Sullivan were married for nearly 10 years and decided to have a kid. However, they ended up having triplets. The triplets were named Henry, Marion, and James. Wait, James Sullivan? That's gotta have been intentional. Sadly though, James died just a few minutes after being born. A small funeral was held, but not many attended. As little kids, Henry was obsessed with Mickey Mouse and Marion was obsessed with supernatural things. When they got older, Marion was still into supernatural things, but Henry had mostly moved on from Mickey Mouse, but still had onto a Mickey doll, which was given to him for his 5th birthday. This confused his family, especially his mother, as he once said that he hated the Mickey doll and wanted to destroy it, but he never did. One night, Mary went out of bed to get a drink when she heard a whisper come from Henry's room. The voice was repeatedly saying, "Do not forget him, he will kill anyone who forgets." When she entered Henry's room, she found that Henry was possessed by James and scolded her for forgetting about him, saying that she will die after Daddy. However, this was all a nightmare. Jonathan worked as a night guard at a museum, which he found to be boring, but it paid him a lot. He would always come home at 6 AM. He worked as a night guard for 2 months, but one day, while working, he was found dead with a hole in his chest and his eyes were painted over completely white. This devastated Mary, but this was foreshadowed in a nightmare, as she was told that she would die after Daddy. Henry as an adult was scarred about the loss of his father. Jonathan's death did make headlines, and Henry was scared to leave the house in fear of being harassed by reporters. Henry wanted to get a job that would support his family. Mary became an alcoholic after the death of Jonathan. Henry had 2 part-time jobs, which was barely enough to pay rent. He went to the bar one night to drink his failures away. A stranger went up to him and asked if he is the guy whose dad died the other month, in which Henry replied, yes. But he did not like being asked that. He started talking to the man more and more, and he offered Henry a job. He wanted him to investigate an abandoned Disney park and salvage anything valuable. He offered Henry a paycheck of $100 a day. The man then said that his name was Greg and that he was working for the SSA. Henry accepted the offer. Other members of the SSA were Lisa and Jake. Lisa would often joke around a lot and not take her job seriously. Jake was oftentimes too scared to do stuff. This disappointed Greg. Henry became friends with Jake and Lisa after a few days of getting to know each other. They then went to the abandoned Treasure Island. Greg and Lisa searched the right side and Jake and Henry searched the left side. Jake and Henry started talking more and found out that Jake and Lisa are actually siblings. Lisa messaged them on a walkie-talkie to say that they found something. Greg then told Henry and Jake to look harder as they hadn't found anything yet. Jake needed to use a bathroom. While there, Henry looked around the bathroom. Jake brought a glow stick to light up the bathroom. Henry saw something move behind a shelf. Jake and Henry look behind the shelf to find a goofy suit lying there motionless. Jake thought that Henry was just seeing things and that the suit never moved. Henry and Jake carried the suit back to Greg. We cut back to Mary, who had been woken up by a loud noise after she passed out from drinking. She went into the kitchen to investigate the noise. The sink then shattered and a storage cabinet collapsed. She then picked up a knife. She then went to her room to find the door was shut. As she put her hand on the doorknob, the door opened. She then found a Mickey suit lying in the middle of the room. The Mickey suit's head and limbs were detached from its body. Its mouth was gaping wide open and it had spikes for arms. After Mary stared at the suit for 2 minutes, 2 glowing eyes opened inside the suit. The suit then moved closer towards Mary. The suit said to her, "Hello Mommy, it's been some time. Long enough for you to forget me I suppose. I warned you what would happen if you forgot me, Mommy. Surely you didn't forget that, right? I was generous with you. I had given you months to remember me after I killed Daddy. But no, it seems no one in the family ever likes to remember. Oh well, it seems like now I'll just have to kill you too." James then lunged at Mary and killed her. When Henry got back home, he noticed a foul smell. He then went into the kitchen and saw the damage. He then went into Mary's room to find that she was dead. She had been mutilated and had cuts in the shape of an X on her eyes. In her hand was a note from James which said, "Hello Henry, it's been quite some time since we last talked, maybe 10 years or so. As you can see by what happened to Mummy, I am here to make you all suffer for forgetting me. And you just so happen to be next on my list. Isn't that great? So here's how this is going to work. Tonight when you are sleeping, I'll start a little game that will last from the moment you sleep until 6 AM tomorrow. You cannot avoid it, and you will follow the rules. You'll be able to figure out the rest. So I hope you're ready when the time comes. Good luck." Henry didn't know who James was, and he thought he was some random guy who killed his mother. Henry was going to write letters to people he would have needed to talk to if he died that night. At 10 PM, Henry fell asleep and began the game with James. However, the book ends on a cliffhanger. So Henry falls asleep at 10 PM. Doesn't that remind you of something? In FNATI 2, you play as Henry and the night starts at 10 PM. The mixture says that he is your mother, father and brother. James possessed Mickey and his father and mother were killed by James and got taken over by him. When you get to 6 AM, you wake up next to a Mickey suit talking to you. That Mickey suit is James. So yes, this game is a sequel to FNATI 2. However, this game is not intended on being a prequel to FNATI. Now let's talk about FNATI Disneyland. In the game, you play as Henry's sister, Marion. The game opens up with a cutscene where Marion gets a phone call from Charlie, who goes to a college. He calls her to ask about why she went to an abandoned Disney park. Charlie's dad used to work at the resort as a mechanic, so he knows a lot about the place. He instructs her to go to an office. At the start of each night, you get a phone call from Charlie who explains what you're supposed to do. Something that was very unique at the time is that the phone guy doesn't just talk to you, they actually have a conversation with you, and they have some funny exchanges of dialogue.
Are they still rodents?
I'd say yes just to make you paranoid, but I'm actually not sure. I hit the button a couple of times to see if there are or not.
Alright.
Oh, also, did you bring your phone with you?
No, I didn't. I'm going to an abandoned park that is presumably haunted, and I didn't bring my phone in case I need to call for help. Of course I did, idiot.
Okay, Jesus. So, you have that surveillance app, right?
It's programmed into all phones now, so yes.
Well, just so happens that the people who cleaned out the park when it was abandoned forgot to take out the cameras, and since they run on that app, they don't need direct electricity. So, you have 7 free cameras to stare at in case you get bored.
Nice! I can either press a button to look for rats or whatever, or I can stare at 7 cameras on my phone for 8 hours. This is going to be great.
Hey, I didn't tell you to go there, but there is one more thing for you to do.
What would that be? The ability to lay down and feel like garbage?
Now, I do quite like the look of the place. It's very rusty and devoid of colour and close to what an actual abandoned amusement park looks like. The office has a 180 perspective, kind of like the Return to Freddy's 3. While looking in front of you, you can use a monitor. There's 2 camera maps, however the maps aren't very big. The suits in the game are the rotten suits. Their designs are an improvement over the suit designs in FNATI 2. This time they actually look menacing and the wither textures work in their favour. You have rotten Mickey. He'll appear in the window in front of you. You can see if he is there by turning on the light. When he leaves, he'll then be at your door on the left of the window. You then have to shut the door. When you shut the door, it'll open in 10 seconds, but you won't be able to use it again for 10 seconds. There's rotting Minnie who'll appear in the vent on your right. She'll have 2 phases in the vent before she kills you. When she enters the vent and progresses, you'll hear a banging noise. When she's at her second phase in the vent, you have to shine your light at her until she leaves. There's also Rotten Goofy, who apparently blocked you from viewing the window, but I never saw him. There's two original characters in the game. One is Rotting Harry, who is a humanoid who was made to help kids find their parents if they got lost. Also, kids used to draw on him, kinda like Blank in Five Nights at Candy's, which you actually make a reference to in the game.
Well, you were able to draw on him.
Didn't an old restaurant already have the thing for an animatronic?
Yeah, but unlike that restaurant, which I loved, the fabric for Harry was replaced every day so some dick kid doesn't fill him up with stupid drawings.
Harry will hide in a closet behind you. Every once in a while he'll start opening it. You have to then look behind you and pull the door shut before they open fully. The other is the Walt Machine, who is a hourglass head hooked up to pipes. He will talk frequently, and the voice talking is supposed to be the voice of Walt Disney, although it's not actually a reused voice of the real Walt Disney.
Hello, child. What can Walt Disney do for you today?
He is in Cam 6. When he talks, a progress meter will go up. To stop it, you have to turn it off, which will shut him up. This game has a lot of the same issues that plagued FNATI 2's gameplay. Firstly, the game will crash quite a lot, the jump scares can glitch out and sometimes don't play. The only real threat is Mickey, who is yet again very RNG based. He can kill you very quickly when you get to your door, so if you're dealing with someone else, you're pretty much fucked. Also, this game is actually quite boring. There's only 4 enemies and only one of them is difficult, and they're way too difficult. It's basically another game where you just have to watch one camera while waiting for someone else to attack. One thing that I don't really understand about this game is that a few times when I shine the light at Mickey, he jump scared me through the window, and then I got a cutscene where James talks to Marion and challenges her to a game.
Thank you for reminding me I should explain. It's me, James.
I thought this was an Easter egg that you can get when you die, but it felt really out of place. But I later find out this is actually the Night 5 phone call that can somehow get triggered when you get killed. In the updated version of the game, you can get the Death Alive jump scare glitch from Mickey. After this happens, you can look at the monitor and you'll be invincible, only having to stop the Walt Machine. This is the updated version of the game, and it's somehow more bugged than the old version. So on Night 5, James is active. He acts differently depending on the version. In the original, he'll take the behaviour of everyone else. In the update, he'll be in the form of Forgotten Mickey and Forgotten Minnie. When they appear in your office, you have to stare at them. When you beat Night 5, you get a cutscene where the police arrive and arrest Marion for trespassing into the resort. Marion calls Henry, but during the call it cuts off. Then it transitions to a different cutscene. In the original version, the cutscene is Charlie talking to another student at college, talking about how Marion got arrested.
Being sent to court for trespassing.
But didn't that Donahue kid open up the gate for her?
Yeah, but you know how strict the cops are here. You could drop a coffee cup and you'd be arrested for vandalism.
In the updated version, you get a cutscene of Charlie talking.
Hello. This is a log made for the sole purpose of helping the cops understand and remember. For all my life, I've been running from things that haunt my nightmares. Things that would never be forgotten unless I faced it. So I am today. I've called the police to get over here so I can finally be free of the hauntings, and I want to repent for my past crimes. First, I'd like to address my family, old and new. My old family has been mostly forgotten by everyone except me. It will be fully restored after today, but only for a short while. My new family are the robots that I've created to free myself from loneliness. It worked for a bit, but I started to revert back to my sadness, and the memories never faded. So I will be returning to my old family. Next, I need to speak with you, Marion. That is, if you can hear me. I have no idea what's become of you, but I assume I'll find out soon enough. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. I brought you to that park and kept you there for the sole purpose to fill in for me. I was the one that was supposed to remember him, the little monster with the white eyes. But instead, I put you in my place, as I could not look death straight in my eyes. If I had been there in your place, all of this wouldn't have happened. You would have been forgotten, your family would be safe, and I would be dead, as I deserve to be. I hope that you are safe, although I doubt you truly are. As of now, all I can say is that I'm sorry. I will leave this log here in my room, and it will be found by the police, and I'll be sent to jail to rot like I should be.
After the cutscene, you get a news article that, okay, trigger warning, I'm gonna say some pretty messed up stuff, so skip here if you don't want to hear that. The news article says that Charlie is the son of a rapist named Eddie Marshall who kidnapped, raped, and killed a 14-year-old girl named Susan Carlson. Charlie turned himself in and is going to jail for being the son of a rapist. Eddie Marshall worked at the abandoned Disney park, and we can assume that he abducted this girl from Disneyland and did those unspeakable acts. This ending makes no sense. Why is Charlie going to jail just because his dad was evil? That makes no sense, and it's not even legally possible. Eddie was barely even acknowledged beforehand, and now we learn that he was a child rapist. I didn't even find this very disturbing because it just comes right out of nowhere, and honestly just feels like it was only there for the shock value. When you beat Night 5, you unlock the extras. In the extras, there's this option called the door. When you go on it, it'll ask you to put in a code. If you enter the code 132758, photonegative Mickey will come out the door and jump scare you. You'll then get an image of photonegative Mickey's head that says changes are being made. It'll be ready soon. He will die. So that's the end of the game. Like many games I talked about, this had some good ideas. It's a lot more story based than the average 2017 FNAF fan game, and I did find the story interesting until it dropped the ball with the ending. Also, I actually prefer the original to the update. It's weirdly more stable and has a better ending, even if it's not very satisfying. The game is even less functional than FNATI 2 and has serious issues that make the game difficult to play. The only things I liked about the game were its graphics and the phone calls, but other than that, the game is pretty terrible. So, FNATI 2 by Jacket Josh isn't the only FNATI game that I'm going to be talking about that got a sequel, because Breaking the Magic also got a sequel called Art of Animation, once again made by Squeaks. The game was released on the 26th of August 2017. The title is a reference to a hotel at the Walt Disney World Resort called Art of Animation, which is still open. When you press New Game, you get a 3D minigame where you're in a courtyard outside. You walk towards a building and go inside it. Then you're at a table with a note from Greg that reveals that you play as Henry. He warns you that the place he just went to is not safe. The game has a different visual style to Breaking the Magic. I gotta say I do prefer the look of Breaking the Magic. I'm mixed on the visuals of this game. The rooms look decent, I like how they're decorated with pits and spikes, but all the rooms look like jail cells, which I don't really think suits a FNAF fan game. The textures aren't really anything special, and office graphics clash hard with the cameras. My biggest issue with the game's atmosphere though is its ambience. It's too loud and too short, and I don't think it really fits the look of the game. Like the first game, the only way to tell the time is when the bell rings every hour. One cool detail about this game is that the menu screen changes depending on which night you're on. It has a different character and a different background. What about the suits' designs? Most of the suits are known as the Disciples. You have Disciple variants of Mickey, the Face, Oswald, Minnie, Jigsaw Face, and Mick. I do like their designs. These variants have small red spikes covering them. Disciple Mickey is photonegative Mickey with one creepy eye. The Face has no eyes, which I actually think makes him look more creepy without eyes. He just looks so lifeless. Oswald has no eyes and sharp teeth. Minnie has a skull for a head, which I don't really think works. It just looks wrong, and the skull isn't even that creepy looking. I think they should have just kept Minnie's head. Disciple Mick is basically just Disciple Mickey, but is missing both eyes and isn't photonegative. Jigsaw Face now has holes in the right side of his face and appears more colourless. I will say, if there was one character from the first game to bring back, I think Squeaks made the right decision. There was going to be a Disciple Hortensia, but she was scrapped. She was modelled though and appeared in the Game Over screen. Speaking of the Game Overs, this game has a very similar Game Over screen to the first game. The 6 AM screen is also similar, but it plays different music. So how do you actually play the game? My god, this game is cryptic as fuck. There is nothing that tells you how to play the game at all. No phone call, no text at the start of each night, no tutorial. Nothing! I only figured out how to play the game because an ex-genius had contact with Squeaks and was informed on how to play the game when he did a playthrough of it. Speaking of which, the next genius playtested the game and made a video of him playing a demo, which to my knowledge was never publicly released. If it was released though, it appears to be lost. This demo looks different to the full game. You can actually see the old cameras in the game's files, and honestly, I think they look better than how they look in the full game. They don't exactly look great, but they have a red lighting which fits better with the office, and if it had a hellish sounding ambience, this could have worked very well. There were actually a few characters who were going to be an old version but weren't in the full game. One is Caged Minnie, who's a photonegative Minnie with a really fucked up face. She has a broken face with no eyes and just looks demented. This should have been what Disciple Mickey's face should have looked like. Another character is an unknown Mickey character who has rusty black textures and red eyes. There's also Cage Oswald, who has a spike for an arm and has bars covering his eyes and mouth, making him look like a cage. He actually did make a brief appearance in the full game during a cutscene that we'll talk about later. So you can't actually see if the suits are in your office without wearing an eyepiece by pressing space, which makes the room look lighter. In your office you have 3 doorways. If a suit enters one of them, you have to pull up a panel and reroute whatever door they're at. Door 1 is the left, door 2 is the middle, and door 3 is the right. However, you'll sometimes have to click it multiple times before it actually works. The face will attack from door 3 and Mickey will attack from door 1. Oswald works differently. One strange thing about this game is that there isn't actually a camera map. It'll just say 1 through 10 lined up with the smallest numbers being the closest rooms to you. If Oswald doesn't count 1, his next step is your office. When he leaves, you have to play audio. Whenever he moves, he'll make an electric wobble sound. Jigsaw Face can appear in one of the vent cams, which are cam 3, 6 and 8. When he's in the vent, you have to use audio. Mick will appear in your office. When he appears, you have to reroute a door and then play audio. Minnie will hang from the ceiling in your office. When she does that, you have to play audio. There's also this box that you can view by pressing shift, but it didn't mean anything until night 5, which I'll get to later. This game is fairly easy since there isn't any cooldown on the mechanisms. The suits are also nowhere near as aggressive as they are in Breaking the Magic. That being said, I actually enjoyed this game more than Breaking the Magic. I found Breaking the Magic to be too hard, while I think this game is a bit more balanced. While it is easy, I wouldn't describe the game as being boring. You definitely have to pay a lot of attention to your surroundings and check the cameras a lot. The gameplay is quite enjoyable overall, but it definitely could have been better. There's a really funny Easter egg in this game where if you click the Mickey poster on the wall, it will scream.
Stop hitting me!
So there's these between night segments similar to the minigame at the start of night 1. Apparently you can actually die in the opening to Jigsaw Face, which I can only imagine happens if you take too long to reach the door. These between night segments are honestly the highlights of the game. The only issue I have with them though is that if you fail a night, you have to replay them. When you beat night 1, you play the wreckage, which is like this wooden basement with 2 entrances and holes in the walls, ceiling and floor. To be honest, I actually like this room and atmosphere more than the office. It just feels a lot more lonely and has a lot better of an ambience. Covert Mickey makes a return and is trying to kill you. When you see him, you have to flash him by pressing space. You have to survive for about 30 seconds. When you survive, aggressive static will cover your screen and flash into images of Jigsaw Face in front of a fire. Then Mickey becoming photo-negative. Then a ghostly appearance of Cage Oswald. After you beat night 2, you play Pirate Caverns. This version of Pirate Caverns only has an upstairs of floor 1. You have to go to the chest and open it. When you open it, you'll see the face inside it. You then get this creepy cutscene of you in a room with Disciple Oswald, while it plays a broadcast of a reporter talking about a mass extinction event where 96% of humans just disappeared.
This was the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history, with 96% of all life forms disappearing from the face of the Earth.
So yeah, this game takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. While I do think the event itself sounds silly, like most of humans just disappeared, unless that was a metaphor for something else, I don't know, I can't really understand the broadcast because of its intentionally low quality. But I will say this, these games really do give off a post-apocalyptic vibe. Everything is just devoid of colour and is in an unstable state, as if it's a nuclear territory, and with there not being many human characters established, so I think this actually works well. When you beat night 3, you're in an elevator in Pirate Caverns. You press up to go to the 2nd floor. While going up, a dead body falls through a hole in the elevator ceiling. You then get a cutscene of Disciple Mickey on top of a box dancing to It's a Small World. He then stares at you and disappears. Then you get an image of Ancient Mickey, who is a bronze-coloured Mickey who isn't actually an enemy, who gets closer to you. It then shows a dead person next to the face. You then see Disciple Minnie. The body that appears in the cutscene is probably the same one who fell through the elevator and is next to an empty face suit. So he was probably supposed to be stuffed into the face. Also, each night has text written on the wall which says something different. On night 1 and 2 it says, "Watch the roof." On night 3 and 4 it says, "I've had enough of this, Henry." When you beat night 4 you get a different 6 AM screen where a demonic voice is talking in the background and you see Disciple Mickey at the window. You then get a cutscene of normal Mickey Mouse. At the start of Night 5 you get a cutscene of a hand clock that says reality. Then you're in an office where Ancient Mickey crawls up behind a desk. Then Night 5 begins. During the first minute of Night 5, Disciple Mickey will be in a window glitching out. He's harmless though. On the wall it says, "You will not get away with this." Like breaking the magic, every enemy stops being active and a new enemy is introduced. This character is Inhuman. He is a bird Mickey suit with purple tentacles coming out of his eyes. He has a pretty creepy design, but I do feel like the texture of the tentacles looks a bit too juxtaposing. Inhuman can appear at door 2. If he appears, you have to reroute the door. If he appears in one of the vents, you have to play the audio. So I mentioned this box, which was pretty pointless during most of the main nights, but I did see Inhuman appear in it a few times, and he killed me shortly afterwards. I'm not sure if there's a way to stop him once he is in there, but I kept checking the box and that seemed to work. When you beat Night 5, you get the same demonic 6 AM screen as Night 4. You then get a cutscene of you in the office. You then get jump scared by Disciple Mickey. It then takes you to a Character Prep 1 recreation with disembodied and photonegative Mickey. Then it takes you to the room that you were in at the end of Pirate Caverns. Then the credits roll. At the end credits, you get a cutscene of Ancient Mickey next to 2 new characters. There's once again a custom night that you can unlock by beating Night 5. In the custom night, there is blood covering the office. When you beat Night 6, nothing happens. So that's the end of Art of Animation. Honestly, I think this is a pretty good game. It certainly has problems, like the main nights are a bit too basic and easy, while at the same time it's very difficult to figure out what you're supposed to do at first. But when you do figure it out, it can be fun. And there's some really good between night segments that'll make you want to keep on playing to see what happens next. And while the visuals are flawed, I overall really like the suit designs in the rooms during the between night segments. During 2017, a lot of FNATI games were released, but there were also a lot of FNATI games that never got complete. And I'm going to talk about another cancelled FNATI game called Five Nights at Treasure Island: Lost Hope. The game began development in January 2017. It was being made by Roy Ver. The suits were going to be called the Neglected variants, those being Neglected Photonegative Mickey, Oswald, The Face, Photonegative Minnie, Mick, Disembodied, Cephalus, Mortimer, Willy, and Undying. There were 11 teasers released for the game. One showed Photonegative Mickey next to a TV with text that reads, "Soon. This variation of Mickey has no eyes." One shows a dark image of Photonegative Minnie's teeth that says, "Do you remember me?" Another is a brightened image of the same teaser that says, "Now do you remember me?" One is an image of Mickey in a room, one is an image of Mick who appears to be a darker colour, one is an image of Oswald who has no eyes and appears withered, one is the outside of a building with a face. On the bottom right is text that reads, "Neglected." There is another teaser of Mick and a teaser of an original suit known as 03, who appears to be a Shadow Mouse of some sort. The game actually did get 2 releases. There was a troll demo released on April Fool's Day, which was just a rickroll, and in July there was a teaser game where you would click buttons to reveal something that would be in a full game, similar to a teaser game from the original FNATI. The game was cancelled in August 2017 after Roy Ver lost motivation. The game drop page was then deleted. Both the troll and teaser games are now lost. There are videos of them, however the only video that shows a teaser game by MegaXD doesn't actually show the teasers because he was confused as to what you're supposed to do. There's currently an unofficial remake of the game that's being made by Ravenstone, which as at the time recording this has only been released as a demo. Moving on, we're now going to be taking a look at what is probably the strangest FNATI fan game and honestly one of the most bizarre FNAF fan games I've ever played. And that game is Five Nights at Treasure Island: The Revenge. The game began development in March 2016 and was made by Smash Tomatoes, who voiced Undying and Henry in Abandoned Discovery Island.
Nobody will hear your sorrows.
A teaser game was released in April 2016 called A Teaser Game That I Felt Like Doing. This teaser game was just a black screen where every once in a while text will come up for about half a second. One of them is an Imgur link, which I actually typed out manually and found nothing. The other 2 is just some symbols I don't understand. One of them is written in English and says, "Green end equals don't count." Another teaser game was released in March 2017, which has a blue humanoid sitting on a chair behind a birthday cake while Happy Birthday plays. For half a second, text flashes that says, "Happy Birthday, Donna." A demo was released in July 2017 and the full game was finally released in September 2017, after spending 18 months in development. When you start the game, you get a text cutscene with a voiceover, but the voice acting is dreadful and out of sync with the text.
Don't tell me this story for so long. If after all, we'll just keep on trying it.
I'm just gonna read it out to you. TikTok went the clock. There is no point telling this story for so long. If after all we'll just keep on trying it. Still, we get nowhere. 20 years have passed since I saw Donna, and 20 years have passed since we were waiting for revenge. But what's the tale behind this? Who should know? It's your job to find out, and it's your job to decrypt our pain. So come on in, sit down and enjoy. Then you get a title screen. Something strange about this game is that you can't enter full screen unless you're playing at night. When you press new game, you get a text cutscene which says, I need to go back, I need to accept my fate, I need to go to Treasure Island one more time, I regret all that I did. So this game actually has two sets of main nights. Night 1, 3 and 5 are in a different location to night 2 and 4 and have different gameplay. All the nights go to 7 AM instead of 6 AM, but they last about 7 minutes. Night 1, 3 and 5 look like they take place in a cave, and I really like it. It can be a bit difficult to tell what objects are what, and I don't think this is supposed to be a cave, but I like the textures used. It gives off an atmosphere that is distinct to probably any other FNAF fan game, and its ambience complements the visuals very well. I think the suits fit very well into the location. Some of the suits on these nights are called the Revenge suits. There's Revenge Mickey, who is a green photonegative Mickey with true Mickey's eyes. There's Revenge Minnie, who's photonegative Minnie with a part of her head ripped off. There's many non-Revenge suits. There's photonegative Acephalus, who's a green Acephalus with a spike sticking out of his neck. One is Distorted Rabbit, who's basically Dark Oswald with goofy eyes, which I don't really think make him look scary. There's Nolan Corpus, who's just disembodied with a fancy name. And there's Layla, who's just a black Celesta with an orange eye and mouth. In your office, there is an entrance on your left, and on your right is a desk with boxes and a photonegative Mickey head. You can look behind you to see what to me looks like a fish tank, but I think it's actually supposed to be a window, and there's plants outside. You have to keep checking the window for Acephalus. When he gets too close, he'll fall back when you look at him. Mickey will appear in front on your left. When he appears, you have to press a button on your bottom left which will light up the room. And by light up, I mean it will make the whole room go white. At first I thought this was supposed to be some fog mechanism. Distorted Rabbit will appear behind your desk. It's very difficult to see him, so pay close attention. When you see him, you also have to use a light on him. Minnie will appear in front of you. When you see her, you have to look behind you for a few seconds. On night 3, Nolan Corpus becomes active and a new mechanism is introduced. In your camera you have this switch in cam 8, which controls the generator. Every once in a while a green or red circle will pop up next to the switch. You have to make sure that the switch is in the same position as the green circle, but the opposite of the red circle. For example, if the green circle is up, the switch must be up, but if the red circle is up, you must put it down. If you take too long, the power will go out and Layla will kill you. These nights are enjoyable, but they're only difficult because wait, shit, I accidentally said Mickey's name wrong. Yeah, his name isn't Revenge Mickey, his name is actually Kill Timer Bullshit Mickey, who is inspired by the same character from Abandoned Discovery Island. There is a chance that Mickey will kill you as soon as he enters the office. There's a phone call on each night, but it just explains what he's supposed to do while occasionally swearing at you.
If you don't have him in your office and a virus gets to you, well, you're fucked.
So, it's both there. That said, done. Bye, bitch.
So, night 2 and 4 are strange, to say the least. You start off in this living room with random structures in it. You use a chessboard to move around the place. The rooms are so trippy. They look like these ancient dungeons, but they have a leather sofa just thrown in the middle. There's a lot of chess pieces and pillars randomly placed. These rooms manage to look like they're hundreds of years old, while also looking like they're hundreds of years into the future. To open the chessboard, you have to press this thing. I have no idea what this is supposed to be. Honestly, I don't know what to think about this location, because it looks really good, but it doesn't have any consistency, and that's too distracting to really get immersed in its atmosphere. Moving around is really awkward. When you pull up the chessboard, you'll be in the top middle and can move in 3 directions. Depending on where you go will open up more directions, and you'll eventually reach a dead end. Night 2 and 4 take place in the same location, but they play out very differently. Night 2 is super easy. In fact, I don't know if it's even possible for you to die. You have this Mickey plush who is referred to as your best friend, who is on the couch. He'll sometimes disappear and you have to go looking for him. Sometimes he will climb over the couch. When you find your best friend, you have to press P to collect him. Apparently your best friend is an antivirus.
Once you do, you should look for your best friend. A harmless antivirus that looks like a plushie.
You can hear voices on this night, but I never encountered anyone. Night 4 is the polar opposite though, and it's about as difficult to explain as it is to play, so bear with me. Trying to explain which room is which and how you get there will give me a fucking aneurysm, and it'll probably bore you hearing me spend 2 minutes on what directions take you where. For those who don't know, each square in chess actually has a name, and this is accurate in FNATI the Revenge. Vertically it's letters and horizontally it's numbers, so I'm going to use that to explain where you're supposed to go. You start off at E5, which has 2 panels. A grey one and a yellow one. Each of them have 10 uses. There's this character named Time Stop, who's this Mickey with a floating head who'll appear in your office. He can make the office have a yellow tint. When he does this, you must press a yellow panel. If not, press a grey one. Time Stop won't kill you, but will instead make the night last longer if you take too long. In C3 you have a chess piece which is on a platform numbered 1 to 8. The chess piece will keep moving forward slightly and will eventually fall off. If it falls off, you'll get jump scared by a thing called Fumesu, who's like this conjoint mint coloured undying. There's also these two characters, Revenge the Face, who actually has legs this time and stands up, he has yellow blood dripping off his face, and there's this Suicide Mouse-like character with red on him named After Suicide. They'll move closer to you when your best friend is not in the office. After Suicide is way more aggressive though and is the main threat. He can sometimes kill you within about 15 seconds of when your best friend disappears. There's also Revliz, who is a Chrome Oswald, who will move closer to you if you press P when you aren't supposed to, so you can't just walk around spamming P. Yeah, this night is a mess. Moving around is so convoluted and it's so difficult to find your best friend in time. Something that I haven't mentioned yet is that the jump scares are really goofy. Now let's talk about Night 5, which takes place in the same office as Night 1 and 3, so it'll be a lot more simple then. Right? Night 5 has 3 new enemies: Rotten Memory, who is Willy with scrunched up textures, S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, who's Hortensia with the same eyes as Distorted Rabbit but with one crossed eye, and Pete, who has no eyes but appears to have an eyeball in his mouth. That is disgusting. So Night 4 was really convoluted, however Night 5 is straight up impossible. There is a bug where on this night, Acephalus is immune to you staring at him and he'll just kill you every time regardless. Also, for some reason when he kills you, it won't play his jump scare and will play a different sound. Despite this though, I can explain how you play Night 5. Another shout out to Rainbow Hype for informing me about this after looking through the game's code. There is this red button in Cam 2 that says Smile on it. When you press it, your vision will go red and blurry. You have to press the button to defend yourself against the new enemies. Rotten Memory and Insane Cat will appear in your office and you'll hear Pete walking towards you. When you hear him, you have to press the button. I actually encountered Insane Cat when playing Night 5, and you can use a light on her. I don't know how functional the other enemies are or how the smile button really works. Do you think that I'm done yet? No. I've only scratched the surface of this game. I haven't talked about its story, its insane game mode that you play after beating Night 3, and the fact that there is 4 endings in this game. Yeah, this really is one fuck of a rabbit hole. In this game you play as Donna, who used to go to Treasure Island frequently until the SSA took over it and turned it into a horror attraction. After each night you get a cutscene. After beating Night 1 you get a Left to Rust adjacent cutscene.
Is that you? You can pass. Today we'll be doing a small experiment. Come forward, I don't bite. Stay still and close your eyes. It's completely safe. Tell me, what do you see?
A dark room.
Where are you?
I'm not there.
Who can you see?
A white figure.
What is it doing?
It's coming for me!
Huh? Donna!
I think this is Donna at therapy with this NPC therapist who's clearly on some class A drug and doesn't move his mouth. When you beat Night 2 you get a cutscene which starts off with a bloody knife being thrown past the screen. You then see a figure standing over the crib and using a harness to get back up when someone who's in the first person perspective enters the room. It then shows a knife on the floor. So he just stabbed a baby. I'm not even joking, it literally gets confirmed later on in the game. If you have this video on in the background or whilst trying to sleep, I'm hoping that I just alerted you to the fact that some guy literally fucking murdered a baby. When you beat Night 3 you play a new game mode known as The Roof. This is a point and click free roam mode where you start off outside the building and go into a drain pipe which leads to pirate caverns. In one of the rooms on the floor you'll find paper that you're supposed to pick up. You oftentimes move to another room by just clicking the edge of the screen, so you'll spend a lot of time just randomly clicking nothing. If you try going somewhere you can't go yet, Donna will sometimes tell you.
I'm missing something.
After picking up the notes you can go to another room which will have the face, who tells you to go inside him. You then crawl into the face. Then you're in a different part of the island. If you click on your right you'll see Acephalus lying in a puddle of blood. Then you pick up a heart on the shelf. Yeah, someone's heart is just cleanly lying on the shelf. Then you're in a different room where the face talks to you through text. Time for the truth, Donna. I have a question. Please be sincere. are you enjoying this game? It then gives you the option to press yes or no. If you say yes, the face breaks the fourth wall and gets mad at the player for finding it fun instead of crying and being terrified. Then he jump scares you and you get text that reads, "See you later, player." Then you get the worst ending. Yep, we're doing this 5 Gold Nights at Freddy's style. Something kind of annoying though is that you have to replay night 3 after getting this ending. So you're supposed to say no. Then the face will say, "I'm sorry to hear so, but I will remember. Anywho, I've updated the notes. Check them. I'll be leaving." Then he disappears. Now you're in the sewers. You're supposed to go to a platform on your left. If you go forward, it'll lead to an area where you'll find what I think is a candy wrapper. Then you pick it up and Donna says,
"That case. Ugh."
So did she just eat candy that she found in the sewage? And now she's grossed out that the candy quite literally tastes like shit. If you go to the right, it'll lead you to what I think is a piss fountain, but I'm not too sure. It's difficult to tell as it has the same texture as a sewage, which isn't animated. On the floor you can see the numbers 4, 9, 1, 3. You can pick up the number 1 and 3. You're then supposed to use a candy wrapper you picked up to fish out a rope out of the sewage, because continuity.
Lucky!
I guess it's sticky, so latch onto it. This must have been one huge candy. You then use the numbers to craft a claw-like stick. Now, you might be wondering, how did I figure this out? Well, I didn't. JPG.Zeka did a video of the whole game and showed you how to beat the roof, as well as what happens when you beat Night 5, we'll talk about that later. Though I'm pretty sure he just looked at the game's code to figure it out, which I honestly don't blame him if he did. So remember the numbers on the floor. If you go back, you'll find a keypad on the wall. You're supposed to enter the code 4913, but how? The keypad has no numbers on it. On the candy wrapper, there's a number 1 through 9, which are jumbled up, but there's 3 in a line. The numbers are all reversed, so this shows that the keypad is in reverse order. The top left is 1, the middle left is 3, the bottom left is 4, and the middle right is 9. When you press them in order 4, 9, 1, 3, the lights will go off. Then when you go back, you'll unlock a new room with a cabinet. You then put the heart in the cabinet, then the lights go off and a key will appear. The key unlocks a door in the walls. I guess you just click on a wall and go through it. Then you pick up a note from Henry. It tells you some lore. The note says that Greg sent Henry to the sewer to find God to feed her. What the fuck does that mean? I'm reading this correctly, right? That says God. This note is in actual handwriting. Lisa and Eric told Henry that God does not eat. While in the sewer, Henry got lost and Mickey started looking for him. He then found a safe place and a toy that made him feel safe. That toy was his best friend. Your best friend is something called a cough rootser. I think that's how you say it. Whatever it is a corrupted suit. There's another page where Henry goes insane after spending days on the island and starts writing gibberish. There's one more page which mostly just has doodles. It implies that Henry became undying. You then meet Henry who talks to you.
Anyways, no time to lose. So I'll just do it tonight, yeah. I had to tell you something, so... Well...
He then gives you a candy. You then take the candy because Donna loves eating candy that is found in the sewer. When you beat Night 4, you get a cutscene where a man asks Donna if he can ask her one question and then she can ask him one question. You're then given an option to say yes or no. If you say no, the man is surprised that you said no, but nothing really happens.
No? Funny, right? Why wouldn't you answer? Endless possibilities and endless minds, I guess. Fine, go ahead. See you tomorrow.
I don't know why this is an option. If you press yes, the man asks why he came back to Treasure Island.
Why did you come back?
It just felt like the right thing to do.
So you wanted to remember the murders? That's clearly a lie. Who would want to remember? Well, interesting to do that, don't they? I want the truth. So you're just gonna stay silent? I did some one question, didn't I? You need to know who killed your baby. You're transparent. So what is it? What is it you want to ask?
You're then given an option to ask one of 7 questions. Now, I'll admit, I just decompiled the sound files to hear the answers. I'm not replaying the game 6 times just to find out what happens. There isn't any visuals in the cutscene anyway, it's just text, so there's barely any differences. One question is, who are you? His response is simply,
I am the cute. The end of a cradle.
The second question is, who is a killer? He just responds by saying,
oh, so you just lied to me and then you decide to do this. Why don't you look at your hands? That should be enough.
So I guess he's implying that Donna killed people. The third question is, did Henry lie in the papers? He responds by saying that he doesn't know, but he claims that God doesn't exist. The fourth question is, how many murders were there? He reveals that there were 4 murders, one was Donna's baby and the others were murdered in a storage closet, and that Henry is presumed dead. The fifth question is death.
Death? Well, what a waste of a chance, isn't it? Oh. You can learn to take chances.
The sixth question is, what is the white figure? In which he says,
would you look at your hands? That should be enough proof.
And the seventh question is, what is a toon?
Toon? Call them whatever. They are drawings. But I'm not allowed to give you more than this. That should have been quite obvious, wouldn't it? Well, it doesn't matter now. There's always an answer for everything.
Now let's talk about the other 3 endings that you can get in the game. When you beat Night 5, you get a cutscene.
Cut the crap, will you?
You're then in the room that you were in during the Night 1 cutscene. There's this blue humanoid with Mickey faces on her. This humanoid was in the birthday teaser game. Her name is Ida. Above her is text that reads, "No time for games, decide your fate, who is the killer?" On the desk there are 8 pictures of a person. You can either choose Henry, Jake, Al, Ida, God, Greg, question mark, or Donna. If you accuse any of them except for Donna, Ida will kill you and you'll get an image of your decapitated head with text that reads, "Bad ending." If you accuse Donna, you'll get a text cutscene that says, "So you finally see, you signed a contract, and you still left." And that is frustrating. Trying to help someone understand is hard. How many times did you escape us? But this time I won't force you. I ask you to please allow us to have our revenge. And so it's done. Now you can go with your baby. Or not. You then get an image of a field. On the top left there's text that reads, "You can't move, but she's your child and you'll stay here forever." You can hear a little girl in the distance. She is calling for a mom. Good ending. So it appears that Donna has a child, and that child was a baby who was stabbed in the Night 2 cutscene, and I guess this ending is supposed to be the afterlife, and it's a good ending because Donna is now with her child again. Now, keep in mind that a lot of this is just my interpretation of what I think happened. It was never actually confirmed what is supposed to be happening in these endings, so it could be completely wrong, but that's just what I got out of it. And lastly, you have the true ending, which is easy to get, but my god, it is so random. In fact, it is so random that Smashed Tomatoes literally revealed in the game drop post 7 months after the game's release how you get the ending. For some reason he referred to the true ending as a 6th night, but there isn't a night 6 in the game. During the Night 5 cutscene, you have to type player on your keyboard. You'll then access a 5-minute long cutscene. It starts off with you in a dark room with a beating heart next to your best friend, who is talking to you. It's difficult to make out what's being said because of the poor audio quality and his accent, but I did understand some of it. He revealed that Donna actually committed suicide and the whole game happens in some purgatory realm.
You came to the island after you committed suicide. So let it be clear, most of what you are witnessing isn't real. That should help you make sense of all things like the sewers.
Then your so-called best friend attacks you.
Of becoming an alcoholic. Feel like you need it now? Do you feel it?
Yes, I do! But why now and not before?
It's gone now. So, next room.
He tells you that Donna's baby was killed 20 years ago, and she signed a contract with the evil spirit that she will kill the killer and bring her baby back to life.
You didn't find your baby, and that was the revenge. 20 years ago it was that your baby died. You also worked for the SSA, went into the caverns and talked to God. But only you could see her speak. She's like a reflection of you. A white figure.
So what does it mean?
Right back at you. You signed a contract to bring your baby back. The deal exchanged to bring your head back for your right to leave the island, among other things. Like...
my will to kill.
Next room.
Towards the end, your best friend will attack you and you have to run away from him by spamming C. When you reach the end, Donna trips over and gets killed. You then get a message in Latin. I translated it and it says that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. That would have failed you. Because you are blind, time is infinite. Unlike you and you shall not die. This is what other Vita is tough, insiders say. So I guess she didn't die, but it never tells you what happened afterwards, so I guess it's up to your interpretation. I guess this is the canon ending with it being called the true ending. One last thing I'd like to talk about are the extras, which is the only time you actually see God. You can access the extras at any time, you can view the characters and above them it says input password, however if you press it nothing happens, so I don't know what the deal with this is. There's also credit, but it stays on screen for less than a second when you click it. You can pause the video if you want to read it. And that's the end of this fever dream of a game. I am very mixed on FNATI the Revenge. On the one hand, it's one of the most unique FNAF fan games I've ever played, and I do kind of think it deserved more attention when it came out. I really like a lot of stuff about the game and it had some great ideas, but I'm afraid none of it was really executed well. The game is just so confusing, it's very difficult to find out what you're supposed to do, and you'll probably spend hours playing it if you tried figuring everything out yourself. So it makes it difficult to enjoy the game. Night 4 is tedious and Night 5 is straight up impossible, but it's honestly very hard to dislike this game. It's such a fascinating game and has become a guilty pleasure of mine, and I would not call this game boring. There is a lot of content to it. A lot of effort clearly went into this game, but it was definitely one of those concepts that were too ambitious for the average FNAF fan game developer. On April Fool's Day 2018, a joke FNATI the Revenge 2 was made which was posing as an unfinished build for the cancelled game. There was never actually a FNATI the Revenge 2 in development, this is just a joke. For the next FNATI fan game, we'll be returning to the Breaking the Magic series. Remember at the end of Art of Animation we saw some new suits that we had never seen before? Well, that was a teaser for the third installment, Sketches. The game was released on the 4th of January 2018. However, the game was first played by the Next Genius months before the game was released. The game looked very different, but mostly played out the same as the full version. The game opens with a news article saying that a man named James Winkoff has gone missing. He is believed to have been involved in break-ins and has a warrant out for his arrest, so he's on the run. You've probably noticed that the Breaking the Magic games don't have much of a story to them, but whenever it does have lore, it's inconsistent. These games basically have nothing to do with each other story-wise. If there are any indications that the lores are linked, then it's too subtle. I don't think Squeaks was really focused on story, and many just wanted to make a game that looks good and is fun to play. The graphics in Sketches are a massive step up from the previous games. Everything looks more detailed and more like an actual location than some purgatory realm. I would say this game definitely has a best office. It has a door on the left, a hole in the wall, and an open doorway. And it's got a lot more decorations to it. However, the rest of the location just looks decent. There's only 6 rooms and they're mostly just hallways. I still really like the location though, and it gives off a different but unsettling vibe to the previous games. This game also has a much better soundboard than the other games. I would say it has the scariest atmosphere from the Breaking the Magic series. Most of the suits are the sketch characters. You have Sketch Mickey, Oswald, Minnie, Hortensia, Donald, and Goofy. As their name would suggest, the sketch characters look like drawings in 3D form. I really like their designs and would say they are better than the designs in the previous games. Sketch Mickey has Willy's face and is covered in ink. Sketch Oswald I would say has the best design. He looks like an unfinished suit, having 2 different limbs on the right side and his face is darker on the left. He also has sharp teeth and ink hanging off his mouth. Sketch Minnie has a lot of her face erased and an ink stain on her chest. Sketch Hortensia is darker coloured with red eyes and carries a paper mask of normal Hortensia to cover her face. Sketch Donald has no eyes and black tentacles coming out of him. Goofy has no arms, no eyes, and has a hole in his chest. This has a signature aspects of the Breaking the Magic series, like the same 6 AM and game over screen and you only being able to tell the time every hour. So how does the gameplay hold up? Well, like Art of Animation, you just have to guess what you're supposed to do, and this time it's even more cryptic. There is one pretty cool mechanic. You have the compactor control, and if Oswald appears in there, you have to crush him. Sadly, there isn't an animation of him getting flattened or destroyed, but it's still very satisfying. Also, fun fact, Oswald was voiced by Nocturna, formerly known as That One Wank Engine, director of Radiant's team. Hortensia will appear behind a hole. You have to put on what I think is a scuba helmet by pressing space. While wearing this, you can't view the cameras, but you can still check places in the office. If you wear it for too long, Ancient Mickey from Art of Animation will appear in your office and will kill you if you don't take it off. When Mickey appears at your door, you have to ring the alarm in the camera. You have to keep watching a trash can which has Donald Duck in it. When the trash can starts shaking, you have to kick it. So how do you do that? You press K. Yeah, you have to press K and the game never tells you this. I only found this out because I literally pressed every single key until it did something. This is probably the only time I've ever seen a FNAF fan game where you press K to use a mechanism. Now, I don't think I ever actually saw Minnie or Goofy, but I found a render of Goofy in a compactor control, so you would have had to crush him. As for Minnie, I do not know. I only ever actually use a camera when it needs to ring the alarm, so it's possible that it might involve looking at the cameras. This is probably the easiest game in the series. It's not really boring as it does require a lot of concentration and the suits do get more aggressive, but it's very difficult to actually get killed because there's never really a scenario where you wouldn't be able to deal with someone. After each night besides night 1 you get a cutscene. In the night 2 cutscene you're in a jail cell. You get to look around and bang on the bars. So James Winkoff was imprisoned before the events of Sketches. In the Night 3 cutscene, you see Mickey running out of a building and he then gets shot down. When he gets shot, red blood comes out, so a person was inside the suit and was shot while trying to escape from someone. In the Night 4 cutscene, you're leaving the resort after your shift ends, and you run into Sketch Photonegative Mickey behind bars. He then says, "See you tomorrow, James." Sketch Photonegative Mickey is terrifying. His face is so messed up, it's covered in ink and has no eyes. He also has 2 spikes for his legs. So on Night 5, Photonegative Mickey takes over everyone else, while another new enemy is introduced who replaces Donald, named Button Face Freak, who's basically a fabric Oswald with red button eyes. I feel like other Oswald would have been a better name. Night 5 is really easy. Photonegative Mickey is barely active. I swear he only attacked me 5 or 6 times a whole night. Button-Eyed Freak, on the other hand, is extremely aggressive, but there's not really anything stopping you from kicking him. So yeah, Night 6 is kind of a letdown. Just before you get to 6 AM, you'll be attacked by 3 illusion suits. These are variants of Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto. They have red tinting on them. Illusion Mickey has creepy eyes, a spike for his left leg, and a hole in his nose. Illusion Minnie has teeth that look like they're about to fall out. And Illusion Pluto has a chain on him. There was also an Illusion Oswald who was designed, but he doesn't appear in the game. He has creepy eyes and has spikes for both his arms. Pluto will appear in your office and start barking. Minnie will be at your door and Mickey will be behind the hole in the wall. Then you get killed. Afterwards, the credits roll. You then get a post-credits scene which shows a dark room with a flashlight shining around it. The light shows a shadow of Mickey. After you beat Night 5, you get a custom night. During the custom night, there's a dead body in the office, which is probably the body of James Winkoff. Once again, nothing happens when you beat it. So that's the end of Sketches. I would say it's a decent game overall. The main nights are pretty underwhelming, but I think the game looks great and as usual had a lot of good ideas and creative mechanisms. I would say it's between Breaking the Magic and Art of Animation. I would say its gameplay is better than Breaking the Magic as it's less hectic and has more of a story to it. While I do think Sketches looks better than Art of Animation, the game just has a lot more content to it and slightly better gameplay. Now we're going to talk about the final installment of the Breaking the Magic series, Dream Come True. The game began development in January 2018. Like the previous 2 games, Next Genius got to play an earlier version of the game, which looked very different. The illusion suits are the enemies in the game, with the Night 5 ending of Sketches teasing a dream come true. The sketch suits were in an older version of the game, but they were ultimately scrapped. However though, in April 2018, the models for Dream Come True were leaked, which led to Squeaks deciding to cancel the game. The game never got a stable public release. In December 2020, the assets and MFAs were released. An unofficial rebuild of the game was made and released by Shane, so you can play what is essentially an unfinished build of the game. There was one very obnoxious issue though. It takes about a minute for the game to start up, and if you die, you have to reset the game because it would freeze after the game over screen. Massive thanks to Rainbow Hype for having my back once again. I was able to play a better optimized version of the game where it doesn't freeze after the game over screen. I've linked it in the description. He also explained to me how you play the game. Art of Animation and Sketches, 2 complete games, couldn't even explain how you play the game. Of course an unfinished game wouldn't. Night 1 and 3 were the only nights that were finished. At the start of each night you'll get a cutscene of Mickey standing next to a Mickey statue in a dark room. This game looks amazing. Similar to FNATI The Revenge, it looks like it takes place in a cave, which I dig a lot, and everywhere is very well textured. This is supposed to be a water resort. There are lockers in the office. One of them is what you use to hide from some of the suits, those being Illusion Mickey and Illusion Goofy. Illusion Mickey will run past the hallway on your right. When he does that, you have to hide in a locker by pressing Shift. That kind of reminds me of another FNAF fan game that everyone was trying to copy back in 2015. Speaking of, the jumpscare sound is actually the TRTF3 jumpscare sound. I don't know if this was a placeholder or if it was actually intended on being in the full game. Illusion Goofy will go through the vents. When he's in Cam 9 he's supposed to hide. Illusion Goofy has this big hole in his head. Illusion Mickey looks mostly the same as how he looked in Sketches, but this time he's missing an eye and just looks more creepy. The suits in this game look absolutely demented. Oswald and Minnie got redesigned. Oswald has been replaced with Button-Eyed Freak, who I guess already is an Oswald variant, but I digress. He has a left button eye and no right eye. His jaw has been torn off. He has sharp teeth on his upper jaw and is missing one arm. Illusion Minnie has a completely red face, her left eyeball is literally falling out and her teeth are rotten. Illusion Hortensia has half of her head missing and her left eye socket is covered in smaller eyes. eyes. There's also Illusion Donald, who is just disembodied with creepy eyes. When Oswald appears in your office, you're supposed to shine your light at him with a torch by pressing Control. When Hortensia or Minnie appear in the office, you're supposed to ring a bell in Cam 1. Minnie has 3 stages in the office before she kills you. Illusion Donald will appear in the office and will speed up the suit. You have to use a bell on him too. Ancient Mickey also makes a return and can appear as a distraction. He'll paralyze you for a few seconds. In the game's files, Ancient Mickey has a jump scare, so either he was supposed to kill you but that got scrapped, or he was going to kill you later on in the game. There was also going to be Illusion Face, but he was never programmed. There was also going to be an Illusion Undying, but he wasn't modelled. When you beat Night 3, you get a cutscene of Oswald looking at you. And that's all that was programmed. In an older version played by the Next Genius, you'd get a note at the start of Night 1 that actually does explain how you play the game, so there might have been some tutorial when the game was complete. There were plans for there to be a game mode after Night 3 where you would be chased by Ancient Mickey, which would have been interesting to see play out, and that might be where his jump scare comes into it. Dream Come True's cancellation ended the Breaking the Magic series. However, Squeaks did continue making FNATI games. On the 27th of April 2018, he released a new FNATI game called A Week at Castaway Cay. The game was made in collaboration with Malrat, who helped model the game. It takes place at Castaway Cay, which is a real island in the Bahamas owned by Disney, which is still open. You play as James Winkoff, you've been sent to investigate Castaway Cay, which has been closed due to there being parasites in the water. I would like to reiterate, this game is not canon to the Breaking the Magic trilogy, so this version of James Winkoff is different to the one in Sketches. This is a game that Squeaks had actually been working on in the background since September 2016. The game's development slowed down dramatically when he started working on the Breaking the Magic games. There were a few teasers and development videos released in late 2016, but they're now lost. Supposedly a demo was made in October 2016, but I don't know if it ever got released, as there appears to be no videos of it. Despite having more hype than Squeaks' previous FNATI games, this was possibly his least successful FNATI game since Scrapped. Not as many people played it as the previous games, including the Next Genius. Is it because it was his weakest game? Let's find out. A pretty cool detail is that the menu will actually change after about 20 seconds to a beach and the sun will slowly rise. When you start each night, you'll see Mickey at the back of a dark hallway. Let's first talk about the visuals, which are usually the highlight of Squeaks' games. It definitely resembles Sketches the most, with the rooms being grey. It's quite difficult to see the rooms because there's a dusty glass filter on the cameras. I personally prefer the look of Sketches, but it still looks good. The office has a couch on the right and there's a Mickey head on the desk which you can click. Stop hitting me! There's a red button next to the doorway, and when you press it, sparks will come off. It doesn't actually mean anything though. In Cam 1, you have a flashlight that you can use to look around the camera, however it also doesn't mean anything. This time you actually have a clock on the top left which tells the time. It has a very different game over screen but the same 6 AM sequence as the Breaking the Magic trilogy. The suits in the game are the Rotten variants. You have Mickey, Oswald, Minnie, Donald and Hortensia. The designs are once again excellent. They all have faded colour. Rotten Mickey has really creepy uncanny eyes and teeth. Oswald has half of his head ripped off which exposes a human skull which looks really grim. Minnie has a crossed out left eye and 3 arms. Donald is basically a darker and more faded coloured Donald. Hortensia has her eyes ripped out which shows a brain inside her head. There's also Orchestra Mouse who's a Suicide Mouse variant. He is withered and has one bright blue eye. Now let's talk about the gameplay. At the start of each night you'll get text that explains how you play the game, but it does a pretty poor job at explaining. At the start of night 2 it tells you have to hide from Minnie, but doesn't actually explain how you hide. It also tells you to watch out for Oswald, but doesn't actually tell you what to do when you see him. Also, Orchestra Mouse is on night 2 and does something completely different to these two, and it doesn't even mention him. I don't actually care that much if the game doesn't explain how you play, but I think at the very least it should explain the controls. Luckily, I was able to figure everything out. At the start of night 3, it says that you will not be called by your friend tonight. However, there's no phone calls in this game. When Mickey appears at your doorway in the office, you're supposed to play audio in one of the cameras. If you use your camera too much, it'll eventually run out of power. However, you can recharge it by holding space. When Minnie or Hortensia appear, you're supposed to hide by pressing shift. Oswald will appear in event. You can shine a light in event to see if it's there. You can access this panel where you can press 1, 2, 3, 4 and alpha. If you press any of them, Oswald will go away. I have no idea what this is. Why is there 5 options? There's no cooldown, and what does alpha mean? The panel also gives you the option to shock. If Orchestra Mouse appears in your office, you have to press that button and he'll leave. The layout of the panel is so confusing. Shock is at the top and it says 1, 2, 3, 4 and alpha. At first, I didn't even realize that you could press the shock text. I thought there was a shock panel and you could shock one of the cameras. And the text that says shock was telling you to shock one of them. Donald will appear in your office randomly. When he appears, you have to hide from him. Once you finally learn how to play the game, it's actually alright. This is an intense game because of how aggressive the enemies are, and the atmosphere is definitely chilling. However, they aren't aggressive enough to the point where the game becomes luck-based. Although I do think the enemies act a bit too similar, they'll all go away as soon as you click something. There are 7 nights in the game, and I will say, it definitely becomes boring towards the end, since nothing really changes after night 4. What doesn't help its case is that there isn't any between night segments. Although, there are 2 endings. In night 7, there is a note on the office wall that says 8059181028. When you type the code on your keyboard, you'll get a news article that says that Castaway Cay reopened as there wasn't any dangers anymore. Then the credits roll. This is known as the reopen ending. When you beat night 7, you get a different ending known as the dead ending. The suits come out of the dark and surround you, then you get killed by Mickey. Nothing happens when you beat night 7, you don't even get any extras. So that's the end of a week at Castaway Cay. I'm quite mixed on the gameplay, but I think the visuals and concept are really good. But I feel like there should have been more to it. It had a cool setup and an alternative ending, but nothing happens between any of that. With the game coming out just weeks after Dream Come True was cancelled, it really feels like this game was rushed last minute. I really do feel like this game could have been better. A week at Castaway Cay would get a sequel, which on the contrast is probably Squeaks' most well-known FNATI fan game. Not only was this game a sequel to Castaway Cay, it is also a revival of Dream Come True. However, it has nothing to do with the original. It doesn't take place at the same location, it has completely different characters. In fact, it's not really even a remake, it just has the same name. The game was released on the 23rd of October 2018. At the time of the game's release, Squeaks was known as The Unseen. It takes place 15 years after the events of A Week at Castaway Cay. You play as Elliot Oak, who is working on a cruise ship called The Disney Illusion, where the game takes place. This game looks very different to Squeaks' previous games, however it still looks amazing. The only similarity this game really has with the original Dream Come True is that it looks like a water resort. I personally prefer the look of the original, but this definitely has better graphics. Although I do much prefer the office in this game. It reminds me of an abandoned indoor water park, and I think the office is definitely the creepiest room in the game. There is a cat clock in the game that meows every time you reach an hour. It meows once for every hour you survived. It also appears as a 6 AM screen. Also, during the game over screen, it sounds like a dog is being killed. Now let's talk about the gameplay. One major issue I have, and this is purely a me thing, is that I found this game to be motion sickness inducing. I genuinely felt seasick from constantly looking side to side rapidly. Very rarely do I ever get motion sickness when playing a video game, however this game didn't do my stomach well. There's 4 entrances to your office: the locker, the door, and a hole in the left and right wall. If someone appears at the door, you have to close it. If someone appears behind the right hole, pull down a projector screen. If someone is in a hole on your left, you have to open a locker to cover their face. And if someone's in a locker, you have to pull up the monitor and honk the ship horn by pressing space. The phone guy, voiced by the next genius, does tell you what you're supposed to do, but the game doesn't explain the controls. If you hold shift over the entrances, you'll block them off. You only have to hold them shut for half a second and it will work. You also have to charge up the monitor, which you can do in any camera. Let's talk about the suits. These are known as the smoldering suits, and they look pretty good. It fits well with the environment. You have Smoldering Mickey, who is a cracked mascot Mickey suit. He'll appear in a hole on your left. There's Smoldering Donald, who looks like he's melting, and I would say it's probably the creepiest looking one. He'll appear behind the hole on your right. Smoldering Goofy, who also looks melted and cracked, has no eyes. He'll appear in a locker. There's also a straw photonegative Mickey who has lore importance that I'll get to later. He'll appear at your door. There's also Smoldering Minnie, who is a mini mascot head. She's one of the 2 enemies who act a bit different to the rest. She'll appear in your office and speed up the suit. You have to honk the ship horn to scare her off. And lastly, there's Smoldering Stitch. Yes, as in Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, which I guess fits the game as it has a tropical theme. Stitch will crawl through the ceiling and hang from the office. To repel him, you have to go to the vent camera and turn on the fan. I find the gameplay to be okay. While the camera serves a purpose, it doesn't actually make the game any more challenging. Almost everyone acts pretty much the same, you just have to spam shift for most of the night. I wouldn't say the gameplay is bad, it's not boring and it can be intense at times. This game is a lot more story based than Squeaks' previous FNATI games. You actually get phone calls this time. The phone guy is more like the protagonist than the player, since the story focuses more on him. It's never said what his name is, so I'm just going to call him Bud. In the Night 1 phone call, Bud mentions that he used to work at a McDonald's drive-thru, which is a reference to Five Nights with Mac Tonight, as an ex-genius was a voice actor in multiple of those games.
We've also provided you with a desk, because, you know, most jobs apparently don't give you one. Well, I wouldn't know know, I used to work at a McDonald's drive-thru.
He also makes it clear that he doesn't think highly of your intelligence.
But I have a feeling that if someone were to ever get onto the ship, you're probably the kind of person who would try to use a stapler and a staple gun.
After each night you get a cutscene. In the night 1 cutscene, Bud says that he doesn't trust Elliot.
Well, have you checked his information yet? The new kid, Elliot, as he calls himself. Ridiculous, you know. Elliot Oak? Yeah, that one. I don't believe he really is who he says he is.
In the game's description, it mentions that Elliot's name was partially scratched out on his ID card, which led to Bud believing that he is trying to hide his identity. Before you start night 2, you play this minigame with drawn graphics. You're at Castaway Cay and can walk around by pressing objects. You have a flashlight which allows you to see better. This minigame shows you getting onto the ship from Castaway Cay. In the night 2 cutscene, Bud finds out that Elliot changed his identity and thinks that he could be trying to sabotage a company.
It's sad, you know? I know. He doesn't even know we're onto him. I'm not stupid, alright? I know we should have told Elliot what he was in for before he got the job, but I think you're missing the point here. He's been acting suspicious. He changed his identity. On multiple occasions, too. Elliot Oak, Elliot Baker, Elliot Smith. His identity can be found. We need to dig a little harder. No. I have some sort of feeling, some sort of itch just telling me that Elliot is somewhat linked to this whole bump in the company recently.
In the night 3 phone call, Bud tells you that he brought a straw Mickey on board the ship.
Oh, and I got something new. It's a straw version of Mickey, and it looks great.
In the night 3 cutscene, Bud discovers that there's bodies in the suits.
There's bodies in those costumes. Why do you think they were burned? Look at Mickey. There's a spine in him, a full spine. I took off his head and checked earlier. It was there, along with a shriveled up skull. A pool of blood was in his shoes too.
When you beat night 4, ominous music plays during a cat clock sequence, then you get jump scared by a new character. This character is S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, who is a hybrid of the other suits. He has Mickey's body as well as the left side of his face, Goofy's hat, Donald's beak, Stitch's left ear, and Minnie's left face. After that you get a cutscene where Bud finds out that the dead body inside of Straw Mickey is actually the body of James Winkoff, but also that Elliot is James's son.
It was him! Elliot Winkoff, James's son! I also took note of the wallet poking out of Straw Mickey. It's James himself. James is in Straw Mickey. You know where I'm going with this, right? We found a lead. A strong one, too. He's gonna wish he was never born.
Now on to night 5. Like almost all of Squeaks' games, night 5 is a boss fight, and this is of course with S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. This is quite possibly the worst boss fight I've ever played in a FNAF fan game. Literally nothing happens until 6 AM. You heard me. So you can go into a closet behind you which has 2 guns. At 6 AM, S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S will enter your office and kill you shortly afterwards. Then the credits roll and you get the dead ending. You're supposed to be able to stop him by shooting him, but that doesn't work. God, night 5 is a train wreck. The next genius actually managed to shoot S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S in his playthrough. The room will go very bright and you'll reach 6 AM. Then you get the survival ending. So that's the end of Dream Come True. I really like the way this game looks and I think it has decent gameplay, but it made me feel sick. Night 5 is a cop-out and it felt like the story didn't really go anywhere in the end. After it was revealed who Elliot was, the phone guy was just really mad at him. Judging by how the phone guy threatens Elliot and he then gets attacked by S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, it makes it kind of look like the phone guy is S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, but that just sounds ridiculous and probably isn't the case. This was the most visually impressive FNATI game that Squeaks had made at this point, but the gameplay is arguably the worst, and there should have at least been something on night 5, like have all the suits be active and then S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S attacks you at 6 AM. I am still not done talking about Squeaks' FNATI Fangames. He must have been the second most prolific FNATI fangame developer behind Malrat. As time passed, Squeaks wasn't proud of most of his FNATI games. In fact, every FNATI game he made before Dream Come True had their game drop pages made unlisted. This includes A Week at Castaway Cay. In August 2018, he began working on a remake of A Week at Castaway Cay. In December 2018, a joke teaser game was released called A Day at Castaway Cay. The game showcased some new characters that would appear in the full game. I'll talk more about these characters later on though. As the name would suggest, the game only contains one night, or one day should I say. You have to survive for 24 in-game hours. Each hour is 30 seconds, so you're surviving for 12 minutes in total. The office and rooms have similar textures to the ones used in Dream Come True. There's Mickey, Oswald, Orchestra Mouse, Minnie, Stitch, and Bunny. You have a monitor on the desk with 3 cameras. When Orchestra Mouse enters your office, you can shut off a camera by pressing space. There's also 2 vents that you can seal whilst in the monitor. Stitch will attack from the vents. You'll be able to hear what side he is on. You have to shut the appropriate vent. If you hear static, it means that Oswald is about to attack. Then you have to press Oswald be gone. When Mickey enters, you have to hide under the desk by pressing Shift. Minnie will appear in the office and disable the monitor. You have to turn off the lights in the office by pressing space. Bunny is this cute light blue rabbit who looks like the kind of character who would appear in one of Squeaks' more recent games. As you might have guessed, Bunny is a joke character who is never actually going to be in a full game. They'll climb on your monitor and you just have to click them and they'll leave. If you get killed, you'll also get jump scared by the game over screen. This game is okay for about 2 minutes and it just drags out. Most of the characters are really easy besides Stitch, who requires more concentration. When you get to 2 PM it says you did a thing. There's also an extras which will give you a better look at the characters. In January 2019, a demo for A Week At Castaway Cay was released, which contained 4 nights. The full game came out on the 2nd of April 2019. It was a lot better received than the original. In this game you play as Wilson, who has gone to Castaway Cay, which closed down due to multiple people going missing. Despite Dream Come True having somewhat of a loose end, this remake is not canon to Dream Come True. A Week at Castaway Cay Remastered is often considered to be Squeaks' best FNATI fan game, but do I agree? Like the original Castaway Cay, the menu will change after about 30 seconds. This time I'll show outside of the resort in the forest while the sun rises. Let's first talk about the visuals, as they're usually great. I really like the swampy green textures used in the office and some of the rooms. It really does make the place look like an abandoned water resort, making it look creepy, but also like a holiday destination. The thing I like most about this game is its soundboard. They're not exactly terrifying, but my god, they are so atmospheric. I would honestly say these are some of the best sounds in a FNAF fan game. In the office there is 3 doors. One of them, which is on your left, is always open. The other 2 doors on your right lead to other rooms, which you can actually enter. The leftmost one is a closet and the rightmost one is a bathroom which has a cubicle in it. You're told what to do via text that comes up whenever someone attacks. However, it will only do it once a night. You get a phone call on night 1, but only on night 1, who just explains the basics of the game. With this being a remake of A Week at Castaway Cay, it has the Rotting suit, who also look great. However, they look completely different to how they looked in the original. Rotting Mickey is a mascot suit like how it is in Dream Come True. This variation has red human teeth. When you hear him laugh, you have to turn off the lights in the office until he leaves. He'll usually talk whenever he leaves. If you enter the closet while he is attacking, he'll kill you instantly. Rotting Oswald has half of his face torn off, which shows an animatronic eye. He also has spikes for arms. He'll attack from the closet. You have to shine a light at him to make him leave. When he appears in the closet, you'll hear him. Rotting Minnie is a mascot Minnie Head again. This time she has blood on her. She also won't kill you and instead will just appear in the office and speed up the suit. You have to hide in the bathroom when she appears. Rotting Donald looks really freaky. He has 8 eyes, 4 in each eye socket. He has a melting beak with a circular mouth with sharp teeth. Donald will be in cam 4 behind a shutter. He'll open it occasionally. When he does that, you have to shut it before he disables it and kills you. However, he has a randomized kill timer that can kill you as soon as he opens the door, meaning he's basically luck based. Orchestra Mouse makes a return and basically looks like Suicide Mouse in a mascot form with red eyes. From night 3, he'll be in a cubicle the whole night, meaning he probably has really bad diarrhea. He will play music in the cubicle and will eventually yell at you. When he does this, you have to go over and shine a light at him.
Let me in, goddammit! Damn, that hurts!
Watching the bathroom every now and again will slow him down. There's Rotting Goofy, whose face is covered in blood and is withered. He will appear in your office. When he appears, you have to turn up the temperature by going to the monitor and moving the marker up to the top of the thermometer. There's also Rotting Stitch, who's like a purple nightmare Stitch. He has no eyes and sharp teeth. He'll attack from the vent. You can check the vent on the top left of your office. You can see all the vents in the monitor, however you can just see all the vent the whole time and nothing happens. Then there's Rotting Pluto, who is withered, melted and bloody. He will distract you when he appears in the office. If you enter the bathroom, he'll go away. If you ignore him for too long, he'll start to troll you. You can play the noise that Oswald makes, which will make you check the closet, but then you'll get jump scared by Mickey. You won't die, but it sure does trick you. You can also turn the office into the office from another Squeaks game. I do enjoy the gameplay, but it is very flawed. Most of the time I died was due to RNG, and Goofy and Lilo are just pushovers. The only real challenging opponent is Mickey, as you have to pay a lot of attention to when he attacks. But other than that though, the characters are pretty damn easy besides Donald, who is just RNG based. This game also does this really annoying thing where it pauses for about 10 seconds and a suit will say something before we get jump scared. But unlike Dormitorbis, it doesn't do this before we beat a night, so it doesn't build up any suspense, it's just obnoxious. There's also a rotting Hortensia who I never saw. She's supposed to appear at the door on your left, but I have no idea what you're supposed to do. There's also an Easter egg character who is a yellow cat named Carlos, who is going to be in a cancelled FNAF fan game that Squeaks was making called Welcome to Carlos and Jades. In the files, I found a Sparky the dog jump scare, but I don't know how you trigger it. In the demo, there's actually a game mode that you played after beating Night 3, but it didn't make it into the full game. In it, you walk down a path surrounded by fences. At the end of the path, you'll see the building where the game takes place on a hill. You then enter it. You have a really bright flashlight, so it's difficult to see what's going on. You'll enter a room with Stitchy from Dream Come True, who'll then jump scare you. I don't know why this was removed, but I'm guessing it's because Squeaks didn't want Stitchy to be canon. Either that or it was to make the game run smoother. The demo for A Week at Castaway Cay Remastered is now lost, so this minigame is currently unplayable. There is one between night segment that is still in the game, and that is when you beat Night 5. So Night 5 will actually troll you. Pluto will jump scare you at 6 AM and will give you the game over screen, but then it'll turn to 6. Then you get a cutscene where you're in a different room. Orchestra Mouse is banging on the shutter and then throws a barrel through it. If we pause a cutscene, we will notice that that is not the same Orchestra Mouse. Now let's talk about Night 6. On Night 6, all the suits except for Pluto, who is not active, are replaced with the Smouldering suits from Dream Come True, including the new Smouldering Orchestra Mouse. They're all the same character models as the ones used in Dream Come True. On Night 7, the Smoulderings and Rottings will be active at the same time. The extras are actually in a separate application, but it comes with a download on Game Jolt. This was probably done to optimize the game better. So that's the end of A Week at Castaway Cay Remastered. As always, the visuals are brilliant, and I would say this is the best looking FNATI game that Squeaks made, and it also has good ideas for the gameplay mechanisms. This is definitely an underrated game that deserves more attention. However, its gameplay is just decent and has many flaws. So would I call this the best Squeaks FNATI game? Probably. Visually and atmospheric wise, absolutely, but its gameplay is only a slight improvement over its previous games. There isn't really much going on outside of the main nights either. Art of Animation and Sketches don't exactly have great gameplay either, but they at least have between night segments to keep you interested. This is honestly one of the biggest style over substance FNAF fan games I've ever played. It's definitely one to check out if you play FNAF fan games mainly for the vibes, as its atmosphere is unlike any other FNAF fan game. This was actually the last FNATI fan game that Squeaks completed, however there were a few more that were cancelled. One of them was A Week at Castaway Cay Broken Chains. This was going to serve as a third installment to the Week at Castaway Cay series, which is a bit confusing because the game began development in May 2019, after the release of A Week at Castaway Cay Remastered, so maybe the remake is canon, but retconned a lot of A Dream Come True's plot, but I don't know. Interestingly, this game actually began development back in August 2017, and it would have served as a sequel to the original Week at Castaway Cay, which hadn't been released yet. The only thing we know about the game was in the form of a video of a test build. It would have taken place on a key in the forest. It shows a Mickey, Minnie, and Oswald variant. There's nothing else known about what the original version was going to be like. The Game Jolt page has been deleted, so I don't know if the game was cancelled before Castaway Cay came out or if it was put on hold. Regardless though, it got a rework to fit with the look of the newer installments. This would have had two new suit variants, the Broken and the Brittos. However, only one suit of each variant was modelled. There's Broken Oswald, who's been torn up and has scissors sticking in him, and there's Britto Minnie, who is Minnie's head with spider legs. Orchestra Mouse was going to make a return, and he looks like something out of Bendy the Ink Machine. There were 5 teasers released for the game. One is a dark room with eyes glowing, one is a door next to a sign that says "This Way", one is a storage room, one is a close-up of Orchestra Mouse, and one is Britto Minnie in a camera. A trailer was released on the 12th of May 2019, which have been playing throughout this segment. That's everything we know about Week Castaway Cay Broken Chains. It was cancelled on an unknown date for unknown reasons, ending the Castaway Cay series. There was one more FNATI fan game that Squeaks completed, however it's not really a proper game. On the 7th of July 2019, he released a remaster of the scrap demo that he made in 2019. The game only has 2 nights. This was made as a tribute game, so I won't be too critical with it. I will say this though, the game looks really good. In your office, there's bars on your left, a window in the middle, and a door on your right. The suits are of course the undead suits, but they've been altered quite a lot. You have undead photonegative Mickey, who has a mascot suit design. He'll appear behind the bars. When you see him, you have to play audio in the cameras. There's undead Suicide Mouse, who also has a mascot design. He has the top half of his head removed. He'll attack from either the left or right side of your office. Then he'll move closer to you. When he does that, you have to go to your monitor and press the hook button, which will send in a hook that will remove him from the room. This is a very fun mechanism to use. Undead Oswald has a hole in his head where his eyes are supposed to be. When he appears at your door, you're supposed to hide from him. Undead Donald and Undead Pluto become active on night 2. Undead Donald is a darker version of Rotting Oswald where he has multiple eyes. You have to hide from him when he appears behind your window. Undead Pluto is the same model using Castaway Cay, but less melted looking and you can see through his eye sockets. You have to use a hook on him too. When you beat either of the knights, you'll get a thank you message from Squeaks. Squeaks wouldn't start working on another FNATI fan game for quite a while, so let's talk about a FNATI game made by another developer that I've talked about in this video. Jacket.Josh made another FNATI fan game which was connected to the Sullivan story. Not exactly a sequel, but a reboot of FNATI 2. The original FNATI 2 was very clunky and was made before a Sullivan story novel. This reboot was teased at the end of the Sullivan story Disneyland. It is called The Sullivan Story Treasure Island. It was first released as a demo in August 2018. In June 2019, a teaser game was released called Memory Maze. It's a 2D maze where you play as Henry, who is walking around trying to find these shining items. There's 6 in total. You have 6 minutes and 51 seconds to collect them all. You're being chased by a Mickey suit possessed by James. He'll kill you if you run into him. He is coming after you for not remembering him. When you pick up the objects, you'll get a cutscene of a sketch of the memory with voice acting. Regardless of what item you touch, you'll always get the memories in the same order. The first one is Henry getting the Mickey toy for his birthday.
Surprise! It's that Mickey doll you wanted. Happy birthday, Henry.
Mickey!
The second one is Henry telling his parents what James said to him.
No, I'm playing with James. He likes playing ball and talking with me.
What?
What are you talking about, Henry?
He said that if anyone ever forgets him, he'll kill every one of us.
How do you...
Henry! Stop talking like that to your mother and give me that damn doll!
The third one is Henry remembering the night the police officer came to his house to inform his mother about the death of his father. One thing that's been changed is that Jonathan died when Henry was a kid, whilst in the book it's implied that it happened when he was an adult. I think this works better.
Hello, Mrs. Sullivan. My name is Officer Scarpa, and I apologize for having to come to your house this late in the night, but your husband, he's dead.
What?
His body was found at his workplace, and from the looks of it, the body, his stomach was burst open from the inside.
The fourth memory is Greg offering Henry a job.
We need strong-minded people like you to help us explore and salvage, as I said.
So you want me to join?
I wouldn't be offering you the job if I didn't want you on the team.
Well, I do appreciate the offer, but I don't think
$100 a day.
I'm sorry?
You join our team and you'll be paid $100 per day, give or take, until we're done salvaging stuff on the island. Does that pique your interest?
You have that much money on you?
Kid, I've been doing this for 4 years now. I've got plenty of money.
Well, it's not like that's a low amount.
So it's a deal?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
The fifth memory is the SSA breaking into Treasure Island.
Are you sure this is, legal?
Jake, there's nothing criminal about wanting money. Plus, there's an open entrance so they can't arrest us.
I'm pretty sure that's not how breaking and entering works, Greg.
Yeah, I know. Just joking around. Let's get inside and discuss plans.
And the sixth one is a commercial for a Walt Machine toy. The guy in the commercial is voiced by the next genius.
Introducing the Walt Machine action figure. This toy is an exact replica of the famous attraction at your local Disneyland, with suction cups to latch onto surfaces, and a speak button with lines such as...
I think we're going to be friends.
The full game was finally released in December 2019. When you start the game, you're at the menu and... What is this? Talk about making a bad first impression, bloody hell. There appears to be a really bad text font error where if you don't have the right font installed, the menu will look like this. When you press new game, you get a cutscene where James is talking to Henry.
For a little game to begin. I wonder how far you'll survive, and I wonder if you will be able to discover all the memories that you kept in the back of your mind. This will be very intriguing to watch, to say the least.
This plays out the same as FNATI 2, where you have to survive from 10 PM until 6 AM. You walk around the resort and have a flashlight. This time though you actually have cameras, however you can only use them in the office. This game improves over the original in every way possible, except for the menu of course. The visuals are better, the suits actually look good, and the game is much better optimized. The suits are known as the Revenants. They were modelled after their classic Disney appearances. They have more faded colour, levitating limbs, and no eyes. At the start of each hour you'll get a cutscene of a vortex where Jake talks to you as your subconscious. He explains what you're supposed to do for the hour that you're about to play.
If you can, it's me, Jake.
At 10 PM, Mickey is the only one active. He'll appear in a storage area and will slowly make his way to your office. If he gets to your office, he'll kill you. When he's outside your office on the right, you have to go over to him and shine a light at him to make him go away. The heart rate monitor is back and you have to stand next to a Mickey toy, your best friend, to lower it. Your heart rate will increase if you leave the office or look at the cameras, especially if you're looking at a suit. At 10 PM, Oswald will become active. He'll occasionally appear in a random camera. When he appears in a camera, he'll speak. When you hear him, you have to check the cameras to find him. When you see him, you have to stare at him until he leaves. It's difficult to switch cameras quickly because of a prolonged static effect, so it does require some luck. At 12 AM, Harry from Disneyland becomes active. He'll appear in a bathroom and slowly leave. You have to shine a light at him to make him go back. However though, you can just completely ignore him and nothing will happen. At 1 AM, Donald and Goofy will become active. Goofy will be in the same room as the Mickey toy. He will slowly make his way to the office. When he's in a room outside your office, you have to click the green button to close the door. However, when you close the door, you'll be locked out the left side of the location for the rest of the hour, which is basically every room except the hallway where Mickey attacks. It does seem that watching him slows him down, but not enough on later hours. You can still lower the heart rate by staying in the office. Donald is disembodied. He'll appear in any of your cameras. When he appears, you have to switch a camera or he'll temporarily disable the camera you're looking at, meaning that if Oswald attacks in a camera right afterwards, you're dead. At 2 AM, Minnie becomes active and acts the same as how she acted in the original. If you stay out of the office for too long, she'll appear and increase your heart rate. You have to go back to the office to get rid of her. At 3 AM, everyone is now active. Grey Mouse, who is a melted suicide mouse, is introduced, and he's a pain in the ass. He acts similar to how he acts in the original, but this time you actually have to do something. When you hear Suicide Mouse's theme, you have to go to the broadcast room and turn off the TV. Then you have to recharge it back up in the broadcast room camera. It takes a very long time to charge it back up, but that's the least of your worries. If Goofy has made you block off the door, you can't stop Grey Mouse, and he'll attack twice at 3 AM. So you better hope that Goofy won't get to you by the time Suicide Mouse attacks a second time. He does have a really cool kill sequence though. When you get to 4 AM the game saves, but you won't get a cutscene. When you get to 5 AM it takes you to a different menu screen which has a tutorial. The Mixture once again serves as the final boss. I really like the Mixture's design, it's like a crossbreed of Slender Man in the face. 5 AM is completely different. You're now at your house. The Mixture will start your attic and make his way to your bedroom. You have to flash him with a light to send him back. You'll then have to charge up the light after using it, so it's basically creation in the Joy of Creation story mode. He can also attack from the vent. When you see him in a vent camera, you have to lock the vent. He can also come through the window. You then have to shine a light at him. Every once in a while you get a cutscene of a memory heard in Memory Maze. When you beat Night 5 you get an animated cutscene of James talking to Henry.
What did you just say?
I said I remember everything, James. You, me, our family, what you did, everything.
So you do remember me?
Yeah, I do. And I also remember what you did to Mom and Dad. You killed both of them, James. Why did you do that to them? They didn't deserve to die just because they forgot about you.
I gave them a choice, Henry. Just like you, they had a test. But unlike you, they refused to remember. So I punished them.
James,
you remembered me. So I must thank you for that. Now then, I am going to leave. But before I do, I have to pay a visit to the last person in this family that needs to remember me.
Who are you? Wait. James, you don't mean our...
It was great seeing you again after all these years, Henry.
James?
Goodbye.
James?
Then Henry wakes up realizing that James is going after Marion next, then the credits roll. So that's the end of the final installment of the Sullivan story. This is easily the best of the 3 games. It looks the best, it's a lot more challenging, it's the most stable, and definitely has the best ending, which is a good way to end this prequel. I wouldn't quite say it's a great game though. Harry is a complete joke and Goofy makes the game look based. However, considering how this game isn't very well known, I think it deserves more attention. Now, we are going to be taking a look at FNATI Fangames from a new era of FNATI. Earlier in this video I talked about how the rights of FNATI were passed around a lot. Well, after the rights were given back to Anart, he made another attempt at finishing FNATI with FNATI 5.0. A demo was released on the 29th of October 2017. However, the demo was critically panned, it was criticised for its graphics and buggy gameplay, so FNATI was once again cancelled. Then, in April 2019, the rights for FNATI were given to Radiant's team, who started working on FNATI 6.0, and on the 28th of November 2020, the game was actually completed and finally released. Finally, after 6 years of waiting, the game actually came out, even if it's very different to how it was originally going to be like. But I mean, come on, the original FNATI had no chance of making any kind of impact in 2020. There is one more FNATI fan game that I would like to talk about which came out before FNATI was complete. There was a remake of Nightmare Before Disney made by Radiant's co-founder, Peyton File, also known as Mr. Manatee. The game was released in October 2020. Before continuing, I should probably disclose that no, this is not an official FNATI game. While it was made by the Radiant's co-founder, it was Nocturna who owned the rights to FNATI, not Peyton. And while they did help out with the game, they did not make it, so this is very much so a FNATI fan game. So the original Nightmare Before Disney was just an experience game with no story. The only lore to it was that it takes place in a nightmare, which is pretty obvious. The game was originally being made in 2015, but the original version was cancelled. It was going to have completely different characters to the ones seen in the 2016 version, those being the nightmare variants. In the 2016 version you had the Inkblot characters. Before the 2016 version was released, in July 2016, Marat made a remake of the 2015 version. There was also going to be a Nightmare Before Disney remake by Isanov, which had no involvement from Squeaks, but that got cancelled. Peyton's remake is based off the 2015 version. I really like the look of the Nightmare Before Disney games. Yes, I know, about a third of this video has just been me glazing the looks of the games I've been talking about. Well, what can I say, FNATI looks based as fuck. The games feel like a liminal space purgatory. There's spikes in the rooms, oftentimes with toon heads being pierced by them. I mentioned earlier in the video that Nightmare Before Disney popularized a heart rate mechanism in a lot of FNATI games, and this game brings it back. You can only take the pills when your heart rate is above 80. If it gets above 100, your cursor will start shaking. It's about time I finally talk about the designs of the Nightmare Before Disney characters, who are the same character models used in the 2015 version. The most iconic one is Nightmare Suicide Mouse, who's also in the 2016 version. He has multiple rows of teeth in his mouth and also has teeth around his eyes and in his stomach. He also has massive hands, which I think are probably a bit too big. There's Nightmare Hortensia, who has a fucking terrifying design. I suffer from severe trypophobia and this design really makes my skin crawl. Her face is full of holes and has like 20 eyes in her head. There's Nightmare Photonegative Mickey, who is a reddish blue colour. He has spikes around his eyes and spikes that replace his feet and has no hands. Nightmare Oswald is a dark Oswald variant with bloody eyes. He has been cut in half and has spikes around his neck. Nightmare Disembodied has small eyes surrounded by blood and a spike going through his head. Photonegative Minnie has no head and jaws on her hands and in her body. Nightmare the Face has been stripped of his suit and has this disgusting flesh colour. Nightmare Acephalus is blood orange and has spikes on his hands, feet and head, and the spikes have even more spikes coming off. Nightmare Daisy is a daisy head with sharp teeth and red eyes. Nightmare Undying has holes in him with meat cleavers for hands. There's an original character, Nightmare Pluto, who appears to have went unused, which is a shame because I think he has a creepy design. Pluto has T-Rex-like feet and 3 heads with a gaping mouth and no eyes. The original Nightmare Before Disney had a scrapped Nightmare Mick, who was also scrapped in this remake. So, what do these characters actually do? In your office you have 2 doorways on your right, a hatch in the middle and bars on your left. The office is very dark and you can't see if someone's at your entrance. You use a flashlight to look around and see if someone's there. Mickey and Minnie will appear at your leftmost door and Oswald will appear at the rightmost door. When you see them you have to hold a flashlight on them and blink. Acephalus will walk past behind the bars. When he appears you have to shine a light at him before he completely walks past. Disembodied and Daisy will appear in your office and will increase your heart rate. You just have to look at the monitor for them. Undying will appear at the rightmost doorway. You have to shine a light at his face and then blink multiple times until he goes away. The face will appear at the bottom right of the office. If you shine a light at him, your flashlight will be disabled for the rest of the night, so you have to keep a flashlight above the floor. Suicide Mouse will appear on your monitor if you look at the cameras for too long. When he appears, he'll stay in the cameras for the rest of the night. If you look in the cameras for too long, he'll disable the monitor and appear in the office hatch. He'll then permanently increase your heart rate. Hortensia is not only the scariest character in the game, she's also the biggest threat. She'll appear behind the bars. Her eyes will be lit up green, blue or red. You have to look at the cameras and look for a bunny child, which will be one of the colours. When you see the bunny child that matches the colour of Hortensia's eyes, you have to click it. You'll have to do this 3 times to make her leave. When looking for the bunny children, the strategy is to pull your camera down every once in a while to check if someone's attacking and to prevent Suicide Mouse from appearing. She is very luck based as the bunny children can appear in any random camera. Thankfully, you're given a lot of time to look for them. Something pretty cool about this game is that you can actually customize the office in the extras. There's 2 more offices. You have Pre-Alpha, which has grey brick walls, more spikes and change, and the bars on the left entrances are not there anymore. And there's Treasure Island, which has the textures and props of the FNATI 2.0 office. There's these between night segments where you're at the Treasure Island like office, which have new enemies, however they all do the same thing. These characters are the Shades, who are mostly original to this game, and they look pretty awesome. They were planned to appear in FNATI 2.0, but they were in the early concept stages. Only Mickey, Minnie and Oswald were modelled. You have Shade Faux Negative Mickey, who's a darker shaded Faux Negative Mickey with no eyes, Shade Minnie, who has a melted face with phantom eyes, Shade Oswald is completely black and has sharp teeth and grey eyes, Shade Disembodied has a melted face with spikes in his eyes, Shade Acephalus has a head with no eyes and is more lanky, and Shade Undying is black and has eyes covering his body. At the start of these minigames, you have to shut off the power and shine your flashlight at the shades when they appear in your office. When you beat a minigame, time will be taken off the next night depending on how quick you get the shades out of the office. There'll be a 100-second timer, and whatever the timer is at when you win will be how much time gets taken off the next night. There's another set of minigames you can access in the extras. This time it takes place in a 2016 Nightmare Before Disney location. It also has the ink blots. The ink blots all have melted ink textures with glowing eyes and are missing limbs. I do prefer the nightmares, but I do think the ink blocks look creepy and fit the location. There's ink blot Mick Mick, ink blot Hortensia who has sharp teeth, ink blot Disembodied, ink blot Oswald who has a creepy smile, Inkblot the Face who has holes in his face and uncanny teeth, and Inkblot Mini. Nightmare Suicide Mouse is also active. In this minigame you have to survive for 60 seconds, then 2 minutes will be taken off the next night. The office has the same type of layout as the main night, but the entrances appear bigger. The office is also a light grey colour. If someone appears in your office you have to blink, there's no flashlight mechanism. If Disembodied appears you have to look at the monitor. The game mode also has a heart rate monitor, which you can use at a lower rate. This time it can get down to as low as 57. Nightmare Suicide Mouse acts the same as how he acts in the main nights. Hortensia acts similar, but this time she'll appear in a camera. The camera map will highlight a camera that she is in. There's 3 Hortensia icons that are red, green and blue. You have to click whichever colour matches Hortensia's eyes. When you beat Night 5 you get a cutscene of Jake, voiced by Nocturna, who gets a phone call from Henry, voiced by Winsomless.
Glad. I'm sure it wasn't pleasant.
Well, believe it or not, Henry, the day shift wasn't the worst of it.
Oh, believe me, Jake. I know.
So, Henry, I've heard you've been missing for weeks. Where have you been?
I've been right here.
There's actually a Halloween edition of this game, but just a reskin with Halloween visuals. There's a lot of pumpkins in the office and the spikes are candy corn coloured. The suits also got redesigns. Nightmare Suicide Mouse is replaced with Spirit Mouse, who has a ghostly face. Nightmare Hortensia has been replaced with Clown Hortensia, who has a creepy clown face and possesses a hammer. She kinda looks like Harley Quinn. Nightmare Faux Negative Mickey is replaced with Pumpkin Mickey, who has a red pumpkin for a head. Nightmare Oswald is replaced with Scarecrow Oswald, who has a pumpkin head and a witch hat. Nightmare Disembodied is Pumpkin Disembodied, who is disembodied inside a pumpkin. Nightmare Faux Negative Minnie is replaced with Franken Minnie, who is probably the scariest one in the Halloween edition. She has this big circular head with a wide open mouth and uncanny teeth. Nightmare Face is replaced with Killer Face, who is wearing a creepy mask and has blade hands. To me, he looks like Michael Myers. Nightmare Acephalus is replaced with Mummy Acephalus, who's covered in blood and wrapped in bandages. Nightmare Daisy is replaced with Spider Daisy, who is a spider with Daisy's eyes and beak. Nightmare Undying is replaced with Skeleton Undying, who is, well, a skeleton. Nightmare Pluto and Mick Mick also got redesigns. Pluto is replaced with Pumpkin Pluto, who has pumpkins replacing his heads, and Nightmare Mick Mick is replaced with Pumpkin Mick Mick, who has a pumpkin on his head. The between night segments and ending cutscene are the same. And that's the end of Nightmare Before Disney 2020. This game is just kinda decent, in my opinion. It's nothing remarkable, but it's clearly not trying to be. It's a fun game, and I'd probably say it's better than Stellar and Mallrats versions. I would say play the Halloween version in October, because it really does give off a Halloween vibe. Now let's talk about some more cancelled FNATI games. Let's first talk about the last two FNATI games that Squeaks was working on. In 2019, Squeaks moved from Click Team to Unreal Engine and began working on a remake of Breaking the Magic, which began development in April 2020. It was going to take place at Disneyland in the 1970s, where you'd have to escape from the underground tunnels. Not much was made for the game. There were gameplay screenshots which showed the player in a hallway with Mickey at the end of it. The last update was made in May 2022, where Squeaks said, "Your patience will be rewarded, stick with me longer," which is ironic since the game drop page was made unlisted shortly afterwards. The other game actually did get a beta release, and that game was Room Zero, which was a remake of MarcoGames' cancelled game that I discussed earlier. The game began development in March of 2019. A few teasers were posted which showed Mickey, Goofy and Donald. A demo was released in March 2021. It's a free roam game where you walk around a small space. You have an office with a camera system, a kitchen and a hallway that links the rooms, and at the end of the hallway there's another camera system. You can switch through the cameras using the numbers on your keyboard. The enemies active are Mickey and Donald. They'll appear outside two doors. One is in your office and the other is outside your office. You have to open the doors to check if someone is there. When someone is outside your door, you have to stand in a green circle. There's two of them. One is in your office and one is in the kitchen. Mickey will appear at the door in your office. When he appears, you have to stand in a circle in the office. Donald will appear at the other door. When he appears, you have to stand in the circle in the kitchen. There's a glitch where circles won't show up, however you can stand in the same position and it will work. You have to survive for 6 minutes and then the demo ends. In July 2021, Squeaks made a post saying that Night 1 through 5 were finished, but he wasn't happy with the game as it had little to do with Room Zero. So the game restarted development. However, the game's page was left abandoned. Until recently, on the 26th of October 2025, he made a post confirming that Room Zero was long cancelled. He also said in the post that he might release an unfinished build for the updated version of Room Zero, which he hasn't released as of the time recording this. And that was the last FNATI fan game that Squeaks was making. In October 2022, he released a VR FNAF fan game called Polar Dread, which was very popular, some even calling it the scariest FNAF fan game. After that, he moved on to non-FNAF related games. In January 2024, he released an ARG horror game called Shipwreck 64 on Steam, which was a huge success and definitely what he's most well known for. I find it funny that the developer of these FNATI fan games that most FNAF fans have never even heard of would later go on to have possibly the most successful career of any FNAF fan game developer. This also just goes to show you how influential FNATI was, as he probably wouldn't have got Shipwreck 64 if it wasn't for FNATI. Squeaks is currently working on another horror ARG game called Hotel Investigation 09. Another cancelled FNATI game I would like to talk about is Five Nights at Treasure Island 5.7. The game was being made by N-Lane. It was being worked on during 2019. It was going to be this ultimate FNATI fan game and took inspiration from many other FNATI fan games. However, the game was cancelled as N-Lane didn't have fun making it. An unfinished build was released at some point. In the unfinished build, you could view the monitor which had limited power, turn off the power or flash a camera. You can also hold your breath. Suicide Mouse is the only enemy in the game, but he can't kill you. The game looks amazing. This was graphically one of the best FNATI fan games to have came out. In fact, it was so good that after seeing the game, N-Lane was hired by Radiance to model and code FNATI 6.0. Now let's talk about a FNATI fan game made by N-Lane that wasn't cancelled. The game I'll be talking about is Nightmare Before Disney 3. The game was released in April 2021. So, Stellar Wisp was going to make a second Nightmare Before Disney game, titled Nightmare Before Disney 2, which was going to be made in Unreal Engine, however got cancelled in 2019. N-Lane's version of Nightmare Before Disney is a fan-made sequel to a game that never actually came out. N-Lane actually started working on a Nightmare Before Disney remake in 2016, however this ended up getting cancelled as well. A playable build was later released to the public in September 2022, and that build was amateur, to say the least. I waited a minute and a half just for the game to fucking load. He's supposed to charge up the power in Cam 2. Nightmare Suicide Mouse is the only enemy that I encountered and I was supposed to use a voodoo doll on him. This mechanism was taken from the 2016 version of Nightmare Before Disney. There's also a heart rate monitor and a reboot panel, but these weren't programmed yet. The version of Nightmare Before Disney that I'm going to be talking about though was made 4 years later and N-Lane had been hired by Radiance, so let's take a look at it. One thing that I do like about this game is that it does feel like its own thing. It feels like a sequel to Nightmare Before Before Disney rather than a remake. The location has a very different layout but maintains the same feel as Nightmare Before Disney. And honestly, I would probably say this has the most unnerving atmosphere of any Nightmare Before Disney fan game. This one just feels more cold and isolated than the rest. There's 4 entrances in your office, all of which are doorways. You can look behind you where you can see a desk in front of a window. On the desk there is a laptop where you can view your heart rate. So the suits in this game are the Nightmare ink blots, which as you can tell are hybrids of the variants from the 2015 and 2016 version. Like the 2016 version, the main mouse himself, Mickey, has been replaced with Mick Mick. He is withered, has a melted face, and some of his body parts are disconnected. The face can walk in this game. He only has 1 arm, loads of holes in his face, and uncanny teeth. Oswald is classic Oswald with a spike instead of a hand and uncanny eyes and teeth. Minnie has a slightly melted face, a jaw on 1 hand, and is that human teeth inside her stomach? Ew. You can probably tell that I get triggered by characters with multiple misplaced eyes and jaws, which is why many of the scariest FNAF fangame characters to me are from FNATI. Suicide Mouse is slightly withered and has glowing eyes. Hortensia has creepy sharp teeth and spikes on her arms. Donald looks pretty much the same as how he looked in the 2016 version. He just has a slightly more inky look to him. He's once again being impaled on a stick. Goofy has 1 arm and 1 leg and red eyes. Undying has melted textures. He has a mouth and eyes and 1 phantom eye. There's also an original character named the Ink God, who will kill you if your heart rate gets too high. They kinda look like an ink blot Hortensia or Oswald with a big mouth. Like the other Nightmare Before Disney games, there isn't really a story to the game, you just play the game. No between night segments or anything. But how do you play the game and is it actually any good? First off, I'm just going to label the doors 1 through 4 based off their order from left to right. Oswald will attack from door 2, Minnie will attack from door 3, and the face will attack from door 4. When they appear, you have to shine a light at them. Mick Mick will attack from the window. When he appears there, you have to use a Mickey voodoo doll to get rid of him. Donald will appear in your office and will increase your heart rate. You have to pull up the monitor and reboot the camera to repel him. This is actually the only time you need to use a camera. The other characters act like the phantoms. They won't kill you and instead will just increase your heart rate. However, they aren't much of a threat because you can lower your heart rate easily by taking the pills, and there's not really anything stopping you. Now, if you completely ignore them every time they attack on night 4, 5, and 6, the heart rate might catch up to you. Some of the phantoms are more avoidable than others, like Suicide Mouse will appear in a TV in one of the cameras. When you see him, you have to reboot the camera. And when Undying appears in your office, you just have to look behind you or your monitor. However, Hortensia is so annoying that it's honestly just better to ignore her and bite the heart rate increase. You once again have to find 3 bunnies in the cameras. This time you don't have to worry about colour, but it still distracts you from everyone else. And Goofy will run past a window. When he runs past a window, he's supposed to hide under the desk. He attacks so quickly that you don't have much time to react. If you actually remember to hide, he probably isn't that difficult, but I didn't find him jump scaring me to be that much of an issue. The Phantom's jump scares are honestly the most annoying thing about them. And that's the end of Nightmare Before Disney 3. It's a flawed game for sure, but it's an enjoyable enough game overall. I would say that Peyton's Nightmare Before Disney is better than this one, even if I do prefer how this one looks. I just think the gameplay is a bit messy. I think they should have made it so that the Phantoms, or at least Hortensia, attack less often but will increase your heart rate more. It'll make it so that there's more urgency when they attack and it'll make you want to prevent them more. Now let's talk about another Nightmare Before Disney fan game. If you're getting bored of me talking about Nightmare Before Disney, well 1, don't worry because this is the last one. And 2, this is by far the most different of the Nightmare Before Disney fan games, and probably the most unique FNATI fan game period. And that game is Nightmares Before Disney. Yeah, this is like an Aliens type of title. Also, the game was made by Peyton, who also made Nightmare Before Disney 2020, so you better put an emphasis on that S. Wait, hold up. We have Nightmare Before Disney, Nightmares Before Disney, and Nightmare Before Disney 3. Now we just need a Nightmare Before Disney Resurrection. The game was released in November 2022. Let's talk about the most obvious thing about this game that separates it from any FNATI fan game. The characters look realistic, and by that I mean Mickey looks like an actual mouse, but as a monster. This is basically a live action remake of Nightmare Before Disney, but this time it actually works. I mean, that is one horrifying design. The characters in this game are not actually referred to by their familiar names. For example, Mickey is just called the Mouse. The game takes place in a labyrinth which gets bigger every night. The rooms look like they belong in the Nightmare Before Disney game, but they have better graphics. This gives off a very different kind of vibe to those games though. Most of the rooms are rather empty, but some later on look more interesting. The nights in this game are referred to as nightmares. You open the camera system to move around. You're supposed to break open 3 doors to get out. When you open the first door, nothing will happen. When you open the second door, it'll unleash a new enemy who will be active for the rest of the game. When you open the third door, you win the nightmare. Your camera has limited usage though, and it will eventually run out. To stop it from running out, you have to search the lockers. Most rooms have 1 locker. The last locker you search will have the batteries. On the third nightmare, your battery will run out before you can open the third door. Yeah, as you can tell, a lot of this game is scripted, so you should probably look for the batteries before opening any doors. On the first nightmare, the mouse and the duck are active. The duck has a normal head but has a stretched out body. In the office is a music box you have to keep winding up. If you ignore it for too long, the duck will slowly come out of the hole in the wall. He looks really creepy when he gets close. There's 10 rooms that you can go to. When you break down the second door, the mouse will spawn. He will chase you and will eventually get to whatever room you're in. If you stay in the room for about 10 seconds, the mouse would have found you. He will kill you very quickly, so when he appears in the same room as you, you have to stop what you're doing and move to another room. If you stay in the office, he'll start breaking down the office doors. The more you stay in the office, the closer he'll get to breaking down the entrances. When they're completely broken, he'll stay in the office for the rest of the night and will kill you at the same speed he'll kill you in a normal room. So you're pretty much dead unless the duck has made no progress and you've almost escaped. The second nightmare has 12 rooms. It introduces the rabbit, who is purple. He'll appear in the hallways of the rooms. When you see him, you have to move to a different room. Unlike the mouse, he won't make any sound when he appears, but he will take a bit longer to kill you. So you should look around the room before searching it. The rabbit will also try getting into your office and will do more damage to the door than the mouse. The third nightmare has 14 rooms, 10 of them contain a locker. It introduces the Hound, who is a red buff dog. He'll occasionally appear in one of the rooms next to the office. He will break down the door much quicker than the others. When you hear him, you have to go to the room he is in and stay there until you get his full attention. When you enter, he'll stop banging on the door and will slowly get closer to you on 3 stages. When he's at his third stage, you have to move to the room next to the room that he is in and he will follow you. Then you have to leave that room and can continue searching. The Hound makes it so that you have to be a lot faster, as if he appears too many times, you're dead. The main conflict you'll face when playing the game is trying to remember where you've been and where you haven't been. You can try doing it in order from left to right or top to bottom, but you can't do it for very long as the rabbit or the mouse will eventually catch up to you, forcing you to go somewhere else. And you won't be able to go near the area for quite a bit. This is a very intense game. You're constantly having to move around looking for batteries. And you never feel safe as you're being stalked the whole time. It especially gets scary when you found all the batteries and all you have to do is escape. And if you get caught, you gotta do it all again. The fourth nightmare has 19 rooms and 14 contain a locker. It introduces the Face, who is this pink mouse with a lot of teeth and a parasitic mouth. The Face will randomly appear in the room you're in. When he appears, you have to pull up your camera and flash him to make him leave. The longer you ignore him, and if you leave without flashing him, he'll get more aggressive and will eventually kill you. The fifth nightmare, also known as the final nightmare, is where shit gets real. You have 38 rooms in total and 37 of them contain a locker. The office now has a darker red atmosphere. There's also now 4 entrances to your office. There isn't any new enemies introduced on this night. Well, not during the normal section. After you've broken down all the doors, you get a cutscene where a person who is being impaled tells you to kill the nightmares. You have to turn them into your wildest dreams. And reveals that the character you play as is none other than Walt Disney. You are then given 5 minutes to find 4 canvases. It's the same map as a final nightmare. The visuals now have red tint on them and there's rolling eyeballs on the sides of the screen. You walk around by clicking the hallways. When you find a canvas, you have to draw on it. You'll each draw Mickey, Oswald, Donald and Goofy. There is only one enemy who is active, and that is Undying, who in this game is a black slender humanoid with a red face who has a gaping mouth. When he appears, you have to run to a room that he is not in and hide in a locker until you see him run past you. Once you've drawn all the characters, you'll get a cutscene of Undying glitching out. Then it tells you that you named the characters that you drew and they became famous all around the world. So basically, Walt Disney had nightmares about these monsters, and to get over his fear of them, he drew them to make them look more friendly, and that inspired him to create Mickey, Donald, Goofy and Oswald. The game has collectibles, which are basically achievements. There's 12 of them in total. Green Bunny Child is collected by searching all the lockers on the first nightmare. Bronze Duck is collected by searching the lockers on the second nightmare while the duck is at its final stage. Bronze Mouse is collected by searching the room after the mouse breaks out on the first nightmare. Bronze Hound is collected by searching the locker in the same room as the hound when he's at his third phase. Blue Bunny Child is unlocked by searching the lockers only when there's an enemy in the same room as you on the third nightmare. Silver Duck is unlocked by searching the lockers when someone has gone to the office but before the duck gets out. Silver Mouse is unlocked by viewing the same room as the mouse when one of his vocals happen, whatever that's supposed to mean. Silver Hound is unlocked by searching the lockers when every entrance in the office is close to being destroyed. Red Bunny Child is unlocked by staying in the starting room for 1 minute before searching. Golden Duck is unlocked by beating the final nightmare with the duck not being visible. Golden Mouse is unlocked by keeping the mouse in one room for a whole minute and then searching the room you've kept him in. And lastly, there's Golden Hound, who is unlocked by beating the final nightmare without the hound doing any damage to entrances. The game also keeps count of how long it took for you to beat each nightmare, so you could potentially try speedrunning this game. And that's the end of Nightmares Before Disney. It's not got a lot of content to it. I mean, if you manage to beat the whole game without dying, it can be done in less than 30 minutes, but it's a really fun experience though. It's possibly the scariest and most original FNATI game I've played. There's not much story to it, but the ending was very unexpected and kinda genius, even if it is completely ridiculous. If you're looking for a FNAF fan game that's different to anyone you've ever played before, I would definitely recommend playing this. Before we get to the next game, I'd like to give a quick recap on the official FNATI games. An official sequel to FNATI 6.0, At came out on the 28th of November 2022. The game was first being made in 2015 by the Purity Sinners, but that ended up getting cancelled. At is a critically acclaimed game, and most who played it, myself included, consider it the best FNATI related game. Many would even go as far as to say that it's one of the best FNAF fan games of all time. In 2020, Radiance were making an official UCN FNATI game directed by Nocturna and Malrat. It was going to be called Chaos at Treasure Island. However, the game was cancelled after they realised that the game was going to be difficult to make and was considered too ambitious. Wait, the developers behind At cancelled a game because it was too ambitious? That must have been an insane concept. All we know is that it would have been a horror comedy game that would have had multiple maps and a 360 perspective. It would have had 50 characters in total. In September 2023, Oliver, aka Deafy-Bat, started working on a revival of Chaos at Treasure Island, titled Chaos at Treasure Island Rewound. It was first released in November 2023, but has received countless updates since, with the most recent one being from the 9th of August 2025. And sadly, that would be the last update that we would get from Oliver, as later in August 2025, he passed away in a car accident. His death was announced by his brother on GameJolt. In that post, he also said that he'll be passing ownership of the game to someone else. So while the game hasn't exactly been finished yet, there is more than enough to say about this game. The game is very different to what the original was going to be like. This is like FNATI 6.0 and At in one game, with some added mechanisms. There's 2 game modes, there's Custom Night and Endless Mode. There's 40 enemies in a Custom Night and 32 in Endless Mode, however they act the same in both modes. There was going to be a story mode, but that isn't in the game yet, and I don't know if it ever will be added. So I'm not that big on max modes. I totally get the appeal of them, and I think a lot of effort goes into them, but I'm just not dedicated enough to memorize 50 or so characters. Just facing 10 of them at the highest difficulty will make the game extremely hard to the point where it's usually devoid of any strategy and it's all about spamming. And I'm not gonna lie, I did not beat the max mode in this game. In fact, as far as my knowledge goes, no one has ever beaten 40-20 mode, so I don't know if it's even possible. However, I still spent 2 days studying this game so I can put it all in this video. And I will say, I actually had a lot of fun with this game. It's a combination of 2 FNAF fan games that I really like. I don't consider this game to be on the same level as At, but it does feel like a game that Radiance would actually make. I've decided that I won't be commenting on the visuals or atmosphere of this game. I think it looks absolutely amazing, but it is all reused on altered models and locations. So I don't really want to give an in-depth explanation on how good this game looks when it's all reused. I'd like to first explain the basics of this game. So you start off in a 6.0 office. When you look behind you, it'll take you to the At cabin. Each of the rooms will have a monitor that has different cameras. Using the monitors will drain your power. You can also customize how fast the power goes down as well as how long the nights last. You can also customize malfunctions, but I don't think I saw any malfunctions, so either it doesn't do much or it wasn't programmed. Each character has an aggressive mode and a dread mode, which will make them do something slightly different. Now let's talk about every character in Chaos at Treasure Island Rewound. To make things more interesting, I'll also give a rating of 5 of each character's difficulty. With all that said, let's begin. Photonegative Mickey from 6.0. He'll start in cam 3 and will make his way to your office. When he enters your office, you have to shut off a camera. Pretty simple, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, whichever camera he was in last before he entered the office will be the one you have to shut off. You're required to pay attention to him, but it shouldn't be too difficult to track, 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll be invisible when he enters the office, but you can still hear him, 3 out of 5. Oswald from 6.0. He'll start in cam 4 and make his way to your office. When he appears, you have to stand still by holding shift while looking at your right. He'll only attack when your monitor is down. Again, not very difficult, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll attack quicker if you have your monitor up, which might not give you enough time to react. However, once you catch him, he's easily dealt with, 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he can still kill you if you stand still if you take too long, 2 out of 5. Disembodied from 6.0. He'll appear in your office and speed up the suits. He'll make an annoying noise and block your view, but he won't actually kill you, so in theory you could ignore him for a while, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll attack from either the left, right or center of your office. When he appears, you have to shut off cam 5 if it's on the left, cam 8 if it's on the right, and cam 2 if it's in the middle. 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll mute any sound cues in the office. This can be an issue if a certain suit attacks at the same time as him, 3 out of 5. Acephalus from 6.0. He'll start in cam 5 and make his way to your office. When he appears, you have to stand still while looking at your left, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he can still kill you if you're standing still if you take too long, 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll make no noise when he enters, 2 out of 5. Impurity from 6.0. She'll start in cam 3 and will make her way to your office. If you shut off a camera she is in, she'll move back a camera. She will kill you if she gets to your office. She's not that big of a threat, as you can send her back whenever you see her in a camera, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, she won't be sent back a camera, and instead shutting off a camera will freeze her. This means you have to watch her a lot, 4 out of 5. When dread mode is active, she can shut off a random camera when she moves, 2 out of 5. The Face from 6.0. He'll start in cam 9 and will crawl through the vents. When you hear him banging, he's about to enter the office. When he enters, you have to turn the lights off by pressing shift. He'll attack quickly but is dealt with easily, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll attack faster and will stay in the office longer, 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, you also have to shut off cam 9 when he attacks, 2 out of 5. Undying from 6.0. He'll start in channel 10 in the Pirate Cabins camera, which is accessed on your monitor in the office. He'll make his way to the office by going down the channel. You have to watch him to slow him down. Once he's moved forward, he can't move back. However, he does have a long movement pattern, 3 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, his move time won't reset when you stare at him and will instead just freeze him, 3 out of 5. If you exit the monitor whilst looking at the camera he is in, you'll still slow him down. However, if dread mode is active, it won't work, 3 out of 5. Hourglass from 6.0. He'll start on either cam 3, 4, 5, 8 or 9. Depending on where he starts tells you what you have to do when he attacks. If he's in cam 3 or 4, you have to shut off a camera. If it's cam 5 or 8, you have to stand still, and if it's cam 9, you have to shut off the lights. You only deal with him once he is at your desk. He is definitely one of the most complicated characters in the game. You can't take your attention away from him for too long, and you have to remember where he started, and he's pretty aggressive as well, 5 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, if he's in cam 3 or 4, you have to shut off whatever camera he started off in. If it's cam 5 or 8, you have to stand still on whatever side he is on. When dread mode is active, he'll attack quicker once he's in the office. Classic photonegative Mickey from 1.0. He'll move around the office camera randomly. When he appears in your office, you have to shut off whatever camera he was in last. You can also shut off the camera that he is in before he attacks. He's basically just a harder version of normal photonegative Mickey, but not by much, 3 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll attack quicker and can appear in more cameras, 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, you can only shut off a camera when he enters your office, 3 out of 5. Classic The Face from 1.0. He'll enter your office through the vents. When you hear a second thump, he'll attack you shortly afterwards. When he enters, you have to flip your monitor up. He doesn't attack very quickly considering how easily he is dealt with. Even if someone's already attacking though, you're probably okay, 1 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, you have to shut off a camera instead, 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll attack quicker if you stand still or shut off the lights, 2 out of 5. Classic Pete from 2.0. He'll appear in a random camera. When he appears, there'll be a red dot in the camera he is in. You have to view the camera of the dot until it disappears. It's easy to know where he is, but he is quite subtle, so it does require you to check the monitor more, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll move to another camera twice before disappearing, 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he makes no noise when he appears, 2 out of 5. Classic Willy from 3.0. He'll appear in a random office camera when you pull up the monitor. If you stare at him for too long, he'll disappear, but if this happens 3 times, he will kill you. You can shut off the camera he is in to get rid of him quicker. He's only really a nuisance if he's blocking you from viewing a camera that you need to pay attention to, but sometimes it'll have no effect on you. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, his kill timer won't reset when you look at him. 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll appear whenever you flip your monitor up. This will make it so that you have to be careful what camera you're looking at when you decide to exit the monitor. 3 out of 5. Mascot FNATI gave Mickey from 6.0. He'll start in channel 10 in the Pirate Cabin's camera and will move down the channels. When he leaves the cabin, he'll enter cam 2 before your office, where he'll drain the power, giving you a chance to survive if you're almost at 6 AM. You can send him back using a flash beacon by pressing F. It's basically an easier version of Undying, but he does move quicker. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, his move timer won't reset when you stare at him and instead will just freeze him. 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll move through the channels quicker. 3 out of 5. Sparky from 6.0. He'll start in cam 10 and make his way to your office. When he appears, you have to turn off the lights, stand still, and then turn off a camera. He's not too difficult, but that's quite a lot of stuff you have to do to get rid of him. 3 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he can kill you if you take too long to do one of the things that stop him, even if you do the next one quickly. 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, you can't hear the sound that he makes when he's completely left. 3 out of 5. Mortimer from 6.0. When he appears in your office, you have to check the cameras and listen to music. Whichever camera is playing the music the loudest is the one you have to shut off. He does take quite a while to kill you, so you do have time to search, but he does grab your attention for a while. 4 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll be attacking you the whole night. There's an issue where Mortimer can attack from a camera that you've already shut off, and if that happens, he'll either kill you or sometimes be deactivated for the rest of the night. But this still makes him one of the biggest threats in the game. 5 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll stay in the office the whole night from when he enters. 5 out of 5. The Forgotten One from 6.0. He'll appear in your office. When he appears, you have to shut off a camera, turn off a light, and then stay still. He's basically Sparky but in a different order. 3 out of 5. His aggressive and dread mode are also the same as Sparky's, so 3 out of 5 for both of them. Willie from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. He'll start in cam 1 on your cabin monitor. He'll make his way to your office. You have to play music in a room adjacent to where he is to move him back. The furthest you can move him back to is cam 8. If he enters your office, you have to lure him back to the last camera that he was in. He could potentially make you have to check 2 monitors, but isn't really much of a threat. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll kill you if you get to your office. 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he can't be lured into the same room as Dippy, a character I'll get to later. 3 out of 5. Belial from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. She'll start drawing herself onto your notepad. You have to pull up the notepad and erase her. When she fully draws herself, she'll appear in a cabin and speed up the suits for the rest of the night. She's easily dealt with, however you could forget about her. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, she'll kill you when she completely draws herself. 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, she'll be drawing herself the whole night. 2 out of 5. Daisy from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. She'll appear in a cabin camera. You have to flash her to get rid of her if you see her, or she'll disable the monitors, attic, and notepad. She's pretty easy to deal with. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, she'll permanently disable them. 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, she'll also speed up other S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. characters. 2 out of 5. Corrupted Face from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. He'll appear in the attic upstairs in a cabin. You'll only know if he's there if you hear a sound cue. When he enters, you have to shine a lighter at him twice. It's not very difficult to deal with him, but you better be listening out extra carefully for that sound cue. 3 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, you have to flash him 3 times instead of twice. 3 out of 5. When dread mode is active, you can't leave the attic whilst dealing with him, which I never did anyway. 3 out of 5. For a negative Minnie from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. She'll start in cam 2 and make her way to your cabin. You have to flash her to send her back. She's basically a more difficult version of Daisy that can kill you. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, you have to flash her and play the audio to send her back. 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, she can't be pushed back to cam 9, her furthest position. 2 out of 5. Dippy from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. He'll start in cam 8 and will make his way to your window. When he's at your window in the cabin, he'll kill you if you stare at him for about 2 seconds. You have to lure him back to cam 8. He basically acts the same as Willy, just with a different movement pattern. 2 out of 5. His aggressive and dread mode are basically the same as Willy's. 2 out of 5 for aggressive mode and 3 out of 5 for dread mode. Pete from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. He'll enter your attic. When he's there, you don't do anything, but he makes a similar noise to Corrupted Face, so it could confuse you. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll kill you immediately when you shine a light at him, whilst in normal mode it'll take about 1 second. This is probably the most pointless aggressive mode. 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, you'll have to check the attic when he appears, but not use a light. 3 out of 5. Mick from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. She'll start in cam 1 and will make her way to the cabin. If you see her eyes, you have to flash her, and if you can't see her eyes, you have to lure her away with the audio. At 3 3 AM she'll transform and become more aggressive. She's just a more aggressive version of corrupted minion Willy, 3 out of 5. Also yes, Mick is canonically female in the updated FNATI lore. When aggressive mode is active, she can also enter your attic. When she's in the attic, she'll make the same noise as a face, but will kill you if you enter. However, she will leave very shortly afterwards. When she enters the attic, she's only a threat if corrupted face is active, as you have to check the cameras to make sure she's left before checking the attic, 4 out of 5. When dread mode is active, she'll transform at the start of the night, 3 out of 5. Cabin face from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, he'll appear in the attic. When you hear him, you have to go to the attic and click on his eyeball, which is bouncing around. He's basically a more annoying version of corrupted face, 4 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, you have to click 2 eyeballs, 4 out of 5. When dread mode is active, you can't hear his eyeball bouncing around, but that doesn't mean anything, 4 out of 5. Celeste from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, he'll appear in a cabin on the left, right or center. When he appears, you have to either go to the attic or look away from him. The longer he stays there, he'll make your vision more blurry, so you have to act as soon as you see him, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, 3 Celestes will appear in a cabin, meaning that you have to go into the attic to make them go away, 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll make your vision go blurry faster, 2 out of 5. Inkblot Mick from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, he'll appear in the office when your monitor is down. If you can see his eyes, you have to blink by pressing Z, and if you can't see them, you don't do anything. He's a bit discreet, but very easy to deal with, 1 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, you can't blink while standing still or while lights are off, 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, you can attack when your monitor is up when you're in the attic, 3 out of 5. Corruptus from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, he'll randomly spawn a duplicate in a cabin camera. The camera the duplicate is in will be glitching out on the map. You have to go to where the duplicate is and stare at it until it goes away. Each time you fail to stop it, Corruptus will move closer to you. He's not really that much of a threat though, 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll spawn 2 duplicates automatically and will appear in cam 5, meaning he's 1 step closer to killing you, 2 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll move 1 step closer to your office at 4 AM and will spawn an extra duplicate, 2 out of 5. Jeff the Killer from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, you'll hear him talk. The second time he speaks, he'll say, then about 1 second after he says this, he'll kill you unless you stand still. You should stand still when he speaks the first time, as you have almost no time to react, 3 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll attack even quicker and it'll take longer for him to leave, 4 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll disable cam 2, 3, 6 and 8. When he does this, you have to double click those cameras to reset them, 3 out of 5. Slenderman from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, he'll appear in your office or cabin. When you see him, you have to collect a page that'll be in a room he appeared in. He can really be a pain if someone attacks you at the same time as him, but it really depends on when you encounter him, 4 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, there'll be 2 pages. One of them will be in the office and the other will be in a cabin, 4 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he is more aggressive and will spawn pages in the cameras which you have to collect. The more pages you collect, the longer he'll take to attack, 4 out of 5. Smile Dog from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, at 3 AM he'll appear on your notepad and will start drawing himself. You have to erase him. Occasionally he'll start redrawing himself. When this happens, you have to go to the attic and flash him. Then go to one of the cabin cameras and flash him. Then you'll continue erasing him. It will take a very long time to erase him. In fact, if you divert all your attention to him, you'll only erase him by 5 AM. He completely takes over the night and you have to be watching him constantly, 5 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, you have to flash him in the cameras 3 times. When dread mode is active, he'll be active from the start of the night. However, he won't be any more aggressive. Eyeless Jack from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, he'll always be hiding in a random camera in a cabin. You have to flash him however many times his AI is set to, or at 5:30, he'll make the night last forever. Even if you memorize where he is in all the cameras, having to look through all these cameras is very hard whilst dealing with the other enemies. Although his difficulty definitely depends strongly on who else is active, 4 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll kill you at 5:30 instead, 4 out of 5. When dread mode is active, he'll kill you if you take too long to find him, but that takes a very long time, 4 out of 5. Now, before continuing, I'd just like to point out that the rest of the characters I'm talking about only appear in the max modes, and some of them don't seem to function properly. So I think these characters were in early development at the time of the game's last update. The last 3 that I was talking about weren't even in the max modes. The Shades from 2.0. They can appear in your office when you turn off the lights. When Shade Phone gave Mickey or Oswald appear, you have to get out a Mickey Voodoo doll referred to as your best friend by pressing X and stab it with a needle. You'll have to have the lights off for a long time for them to actually appear, to the point where you'll probably only see them if you're actually trying to find them. Even then though, they're very easy. 1 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, Minnie and Goofy can attack. When Minnie attacks you have to pull up a monitor, and when Goofy attacks you have to stay still. When Dread mode is active, 2 shades will attack at the same time. Both are still 1 out of 5s. Agony from Nightmare Below Disney. He'll start in Cam 5 and make his way to your office. When he enters, you have to close your eyes for about 2 seconds to make him leave. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll kill you in about 1 second. 4 out of 5. When Dread mode is active, he slowly makes your vision fade. To stop this, you have to watch him in the cameras. 4 out of 5. He definitely has the biggest difficulty increase when aggressive or Dread mode are enabled. Squidward from Five Nights at the Chum Bucket. No, this isn't a joke, it's actually in the game. In Cam 11 you have 2 vents. You can close one at a time. When you hear Squidward you have to close a vent that he is in. His sound cue is pretty obvious, and even then there's a 50-50 chance he won't even need to do anything. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he'll make a phantom version of himself appear next to the vent that he's in. You have to shut the other vent after one of them leaves. 2 out of 5. When Dread mode is enabled, he won't make a noise when he attacks, so you have to be watching Cam 11. 3 out of 5. Mother from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. She can appear in your office or cabin. When she appears, you have to look away from her. If she's in the center, you have to pull up a monitor or turn around. 1 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, she'll appear in your office if you flip your monitor up frequently. 1 out of 5 still. When Dread mode is active, she'll manifest Cam 7. However, I looked at both Cam 7s and I never saw anything. Henry from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. He'll sometimes try to steal your notepad. When you see his hand, you have to click his hand until it goes away. He's easily dealt with, but you could miss him. He's only a threat if Belial or Smile Dog are active. 2 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, he can steal your notepad when you're in the attic. 2 out of 5. When Dread mode is active, he'll be a lot more aggressive until 5 AM. 3 out of 5. Inkblot Pluto from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. He'll appear in the attic and speed up the suit. You have to go to the attic and flash him. Pluto doesn't make any noise after the hint of him being in the attic, so I don't know if he even speeds him up, but assuming that he does, here's a 2 out of 5. Pluto appears to be bugged as he only ever attacked me once and then never again. When aggressive mode is active, he can appear in the cabins. When you see him, you have to flash him, but it's optional. 2 out of 5. These are nuts from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. Troll Demo. These will appear in one of the cameras in the cabin and will set nuts to one of the vents in the office. You can't see the vents, but by pressing A you close the left vent and for D you close the right vent. Depending on what side is on in the cameras, will tell you what vent you're supposed to shut. However, if he says,
"You'll never see this coming,"
you have to shut the opposite vent, but you're only given about 1 or 2 seconds to react. These and nuts are also characters that might be bugged. They just stopped attacking me after the first few times. But when they are active, they're pretty difficult. You have to focus on them a lot. 4 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, the power will drain faster if you close events when you don't need to. 5 out of 5. When Dread mode is active, apparently the voice lines are supposed to be mono, but I didn't notice any differences, so I'm guessing this wasn't programmed yet. Trollface, who's a FNATI OC of Radiance member, Sweaty Meat, will make a pop-up appear on your monitor for Treasure Island oddities. You have to press exit to close it. He's not really much of a threat at all. 1 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, it's supposed to crash your monitor and make you have to reboot it. However, this doesn't appear to be in the game. When Dread mode is active, he's supposed to make the audio log go down when the pop-up is present. However, this also wasn't programmed. Classic Acephalus from 1.0. He'll start in Cam 5 and make his way to your office. When he gets to you, have to hide in the attic until he leaves. This will temporarily make you unable to see if anyone else is in the office. 3 out of 5. There was going to be a mechanism where you could hide under the desk, but that wasn't programmed. When aggressive mode is active, you're only supposed to hide under the desk. When Dread mode is active, you have to hide under the desk as well as stand still. Obviously, none of these are programmed. Classic Faux Negative Mini from 1.0. She is sitting down in Cam 7. She can get up and move in the camera. When she does this, you have to shine a light at her by pressing F. There's no sound cues, but again, that might not have been programmed. You have to flash her for quite a while before she's completely deactivated. 4 out of 5. When aggressive mode is active, her move timer will only freeze instead of reset. This brings her up to a 5 out of 5. When Dread mode is active, shining a light at her will send her back slower. 4 out of 5. Classic Undying from S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S. He wasn't programmed, so 0 out of 5. But he's supposed to be in a meat freezer and you have to control the temperature to stop him. Obviously, his aggressive and Dread mode weren't programmed, but his aggressive mode was supposed to make it so that you can't hide under the desk for him, and Dread mode would make it so that bad temperatures would cause all characters to speed up. At 3 AM, you'll be given a death coin, which will allow you to disable one enemy for the rest of the night. That's every character on the normal nights. In S.K.E.T.C.H.E.S, when you die, you get this thing called a post-mortem night, where you're in a new location and have to click a number of Mickey heads in the camera whilst avoiding the shades. If you collect all of them, you'll get another chance to beat a night from where you left off. However, if you die again, it's game over. Post-mortem also has its own custom nights, so let's talk about the characters from there. I'm not going to give these characters ratings as they're all about as hard as each other. Shade Faux Negative Mickey, he'll appear on the right side of your office. When you see him, you have to stab your best friend with a needle. When aggressive mode is active, he'll get to your office quicker. When Dread mode is active, you have to stab your best friend another time. name. Shade Oswald, he'll appear on the left side of your office. When you see him, you have to stab your best friend, however he's a bit harder to spot than Mickey. His aggressive and dread mode are the same as Mickey's. Shade Minnie, she'll appear in the cameras and will pull your monitor down. When she does this, you have to pull it back up. When aggressive mode is active, she'll pull your monitor down quicker. When dread mode is active, she'll appear in the camera 3 times at once. Shade Goofy, he'll appear at one of the office entrances. You have to shine a lantern at him or he'll steal your best friend. When aggressive mode is active, he'll steal your best friend as soon as he enters the office, so you have to be watching him in the cameras. When dread mode is active, your best friend will disappear every once in a while and be somewhere in the office. You then have to find them before they disappear completely. Shade Donald, he'll disguise himself as a Mickey head, but if you look closely, you can see that it's secretly a Donald Duck head. If you click him, he'll stun you. When aggressive mode is active, he can disguise himself as a real Mickey head that you actually have to click. He'll move off it when you pull your monitor down. When dread mode is active, he'll make no noise when he possesses a Mickey head. Shade Hortensia, she'll become active if you stab your best friend when you're not supposed to, have it stolen, or click a Donald Duck head. You have to keep winding up her music box in Cam 9. When aggressive mode is active, the music box will go down much quicker. When dread mode is active, you have to wind the music box up from the beginning of the night. Mother, she'll occasionally appear in a monitor after you deal with a shade. You have to flip your monitor back down to deactivate her. When aggressive mode is active, she can appear when you flip your monitor up. When dread mode is active, she can appear when you collect a Mickey head. Jeff the Killer, he'll make you have to reboot the cameras before being able to see them. He can also attack from the office entrances. When he does this, you must turn a lantern on. When aggressive mode is active, he'll decrease the reboot time of the camera while he's attacking. When dread mode is active, the camera he is on will always be disabled. In Postmortem Custom Night, you can also set the amount of heads required, how many times you need to stab your best friend, and how quickly the lanterns will run out. So that's every character explained. What's kind of crazy is there's actually not a maximum, so you can make them as aggressive as you want. However, if you put them at 60 or more, you'll die pretty much as soon as you start the night. I really like a lot of characters' mechanisms in this game. There's a lot of room for creating your own challenges. Now yes, a lot of this was taken from Oblivious Casa and 6.0, but the programming was original and they did a great job with it. Most of them actually feel like an enemy that you'd come across in a traditional FNAF fan game. I personally feel like a lot of UCN games have gimmicky different for the sake of different mechanisms that don't really fit. But most of these work very well. Endless mode is, well, endless. Every 6 seconds a new character's AI will go up by 2. Every 30 seconds a character's dread mode will be activated. Back to the custom night. You might have noticed that I've been saying max modes instead of max mode when referring to 40/20 mode. Yeah, well that's because there's more than one max mode. You have Purgatory, which is the basic 40/20 mode. You have Eternal, which will enable everyone's aggressive mode. You have Perdition, which will enable everyone's dread mode. And lastly, you have Hell mode, which will enable everyone's dread mode and aggressive mode. One more thing that I haven't talked about yet is Boss Rush. It has Mortimer, Corruptus, Hourglass, Mick and a new character, Inkblot Face. He acts the same as Corrupted Face on aggressive mode. His aggressive mode and dread mode only change the sound cue he makes and that's it. Mortimer acts mostly the same as how he acts in a normal night, but his aggressive mode and dread mode are different. When aggressive mode is active, his kill time won't fully reset when you deal with him. When dread mode is active, he'll turn a screen monochrome when he attacks. Corruptus acts the same as how he acts in a normal night, however he'll start in cam 5 and this time the camera icon won't glitch if a duplicate is in there. His dread mode is different though. He'll spawn in photonegative duplicates you have to look for in the cameras. Hourglass acts the same as how he acts in normal mode and his aggressive mode is the same, however his dread mode is different. If you use the wrong defense against him, he'll attack quicker. There appears to be this bug where Hourglass will sometimes just not attack, which honestly helps since he's a bitch. Mick acts mostly the same as how she acts in aggressive mode, however she can also attack from the window and can draw herself on a notepad. When aggressive mode is active, she'll be more aggressive. When dread mode is active, she can appear in a camera in the form of Mother. When she appears, you have to flash her or she'll disable the camera. By the way, in Oblivious Casa, Mick is possessed by Mother, which explains a gender change. Also, Mother replaced God, who is no longer considered canon. Boss Rush is an endless mode where character's AI goes up by 1 every 6 seconds. Every 30 seconds you'll gain 5% power and every 60 seconds a character will have their dread or aggressive mode activated. If you survive for a certain amount of time, you'll get a perk to use on a custom night 1 time. Now, I spent 2 hours on Boss Rush and I only managed to get 4 of the 11 perks. Almost every time I died was due to Mortimer because it's RNG based, so I admittedly gave up. If you survive for 90 seconds, you'll get a white star, which doesn't seem to do anything. If you survive for 3 minutes, you'll get a yellow star, which will unlock one of the 3 perks. One is the power generator, which gives you 125% power instead of 100%. One is sturdy equipment, which lowers malfunctions by 5. And one is fancy speakers, which will make audio lures work faster and will make them stay in the camera for longer. If you survive for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll get an orange star. I only got 1 orange star and that gave me camouflage, which will slow down all the enemies' kill timers by 20%. If you survive for 6 minutes you'll get a red star, and if you survive for 7.5 minutes you'll get a purple star. So that's all there is to say about Chaos at Treasure Island Rewound. Even if it's not finished, it's honestly a really fun game that you can do a lot with. It's basically the ultimate post-Radiance FNATI fan game. I understand that we might never get any more updates, and for the love of God, don't leave a comment on the Game Drop page saying when's the next update or who's now directing the game. I think it's honestly good enough as it is, even if updating the game would make it better. Out of every FNATI game I've talked about in this video, this one definitely has the most content packed into it. And now we are at the last FNATI fan game that I'm going to be talking about in this video. For those who've made it this far, thank you, I really appreciate you sticking around for this long. This video has shown that FNATI fan games have changed a lot over the years, however some people are still remaking old fan games or older versions of FNATI. And I'm going to be talking about one of those games, Abandoned Discovery Island Revamped. This game was made by Mickey Let's Plays, who made Abandoned Discovery Island 2.0. The game was first released in March 2024. Before I talk about this game, I think it's important to address this game is still actively being updated. In fact, a new version of the game literally came out while I was writing a script, so at the time you're watching this, the game could have some new features I didn't talk about. The game has the same textures used in Abandoned Discovery Island, so I won't comment on the visuals much. The most noticeable visual difference is that the cameras appear more zoomed out and the characters have different renders. There's one new camera island entrance which replaces the cavern entrance, and the roof looks completely different. There's two game modes, you have normal mode and legacy mode. Let's first talk about normal mode. With it being a remake of Abandoned Discovery Island, the gameplay is very similar to the original, but it also reused a lot of elements from 2.0, so I'm only going to highlight the differences. Greg and Henry have different voice actors.
We've already set up cameras for you to keep an eye on the place, and more importantly, we need you to keep a close eye on his suit for us. You'll see him lying down, he's photo negative. You really can't miss him. We've already set up cameras for you to keep an eye on the place, and more importantly, we need you to keep a close eye on his suit for us. You'll see him lying down. He's photo negative. You really can't miss him.
When someone enters your office, the office fades to black for a second, so it looks more smooth when someone appears. The kill time on Mickey isn't as randomized as how it is in the original, so the game isn't luck based. The power works the same as how it works in 2.0. If a character enters your office has eyes, you have to shine a light at them, and if they're eyeless, you have to hide. When someone attacks you who requires you to hide, a note will come up and tell you to hide from them, which I like, as in 2.0 you can never tell unless you show off a camera and find that eye doesn't work. Night 1 through 3 are pretty much the same, however there isn't any cutscenes between nights. Suicide Mouse, who's active on night 3, has been renamed to Mortimer, however he looks the same as usual. Daisy is active on night 3, but she acts the same as the original. Pluto is active on night 3 and will prevent you from looking at the monitor until you hide. When you get to 3 AM on night 3, you'll get this game's version of Pirate Caverns, known as Inside Environment. This is very different to Pirate Caverns in the original, and it's much better as well. You first get to walk around the building while avoiding photo-negative Mickey. You have the exposure meter from 2.0, which will gradually decrease when you go into a different room to the suit that you're in the room with. You're supposed to go to a storage room and walk towards a shelf where you'll find a key and a note that says, "Run away." Then God will appear and follow you, increasing your exposure very quickly. What you have to do is run to your office, then turn around and you'll see a door which you have to go through. Then you're outside of the resort in a tropical forest. The face is now active. You walk to a rusty building which is Pirate Caverns. Then Pirate Caverns begins. You're at 3 AM and have to survive until 6 AM. The face is on floor 1 and Undying is on floor 2. Floor 2 is a lot more detailed, with there now being a kitchen and a bathroom. Now let's talk about night 4. Undying acts the same, we have to show off the power, however he starts in the island entrance. He will usually attack at the end of the night. Hortensia and Pete are active on night 4. Hortensia acts like everyone else, show off a camera, and when Pete attacks you have to hide. Night 5 introduces Hourglass, Mick, Willy, Cactus Kid and Pure Oswald. You have to show off a camera for Hourglass, Mick and Willy. Cactus Kid acts the same as how he acts in 2.0. He'll crawl out of the poster and you have to hide from him. For Classic Oswald, who has been renamed to Pure Oswald, you have to watch a meat freezer. Like the original, he'll run to your office and you have to hide. In this version, he won't kill you as quickly. You'll play his jump scare when he runs at you and you have until he reaches the end to hide, which I think is a pretty cool detail. Night 4 and 5 are a lot of fun. This is the type of difficulty I'm looking for, one that is challenging but free from bullshit. It has the right number of enemies, and on night 5 you have to check 2 cameras instead of 1. Night 6 has Corruptus and Mr. Mouse. Corruptus won't become active until 3 AM, and at 3 AM Mr. Mouse is deactivated. This is the one thing that I actually think 2.0 did better. The AI is just not aggressive enough for night 6 standards. In fact, I would say Corruptus is less of a threat than he is in the original. Here's the thing, I like night 6 and 2.0. The AI was very high, but not to the point where it was unbeatable. I think Corruptus and Mr. Sinister Mouse should be more aggressive and be active simultaneously, you could still have Corruptus only appear at 3 AM. I just found Night 6 to be a bit too easy. Night 7, however, though, is a lot more challenging. 4 characters from 2.0 are on Night 7, those being the Suffering, Sinister Mouse, the Conjoint, and the Sailor. All except Sinister Mouse require you to show off a camera. When Sinister Mouse enters your office, you have to defend yourself by using a new mechanism Night 7 introduces. You have to flash your light at him by pressing Control. You can only use it 4 times though, however that's more than enough. When you beat Night 7, you get a message that says, "Find me in Pirate Caverns on floor 3. Then in the menu, Legacy Mode is unlocked. At the start you play Pirate Caverns, but when you enter the elevator after picking up the tape, you'll be taken to floor 3. Floor 3 has Mortimer who'll be blocking the way to where you're supposed to go. You have to go to a room on the left side of floor 3 which has a TV. You then have to put the tape that you collected into the TV and it'll play Steamboat Willie, which will lure Mortimer into the room. You'll then just sit on the couch and watch it. You then move to the door that Mortimer was blocking and you'll be in an office. Purity will then spawn and turn into True Mickey who says, "Hi there, you want to play a game? Let me turn on the computer so you can play my game." Then you get to play Legacy Mode. Legacy Mode has the original FNATI textures and phone calls. It plays out similar to normal mode, but the 2.0 characters have been removed from Night 1 through 5. It's basically an easier version of normal mode but with different graphics. However, Night 6 is very different. When you beat Night 5, you get a text cutscene where Jake says, "That was easy. Okay, thanks for letting me play this. I need to go now." Then True Mickey says, "No, I deny your request. I haven't finished yet. Things will be interesting now. If you win this round, I'll let you go." At the start of Night 6, you'll get a note from Henry which explains what you're supposed to do. There's 3 enemies active: True Mickey, Georgia Eyesore, and Blood Mouse. Blood Mouse will cause an error in one of your cameras. The camera he is in will be marked by a red dot. You have to look at that camera until he stops attacking. Georgia Eyesore will be active at 3 AM. He'll appear on a monitor on your desk in 3 phases. When he's at his 3rd phase, you must shut off the power. He will move quicker the more you look at the camera. If the power is off when Blood Mouse attacks, you'll be defenseless against him, so only use the cameras when it's absolutely necessary. Now onto the main threat of the night, True Mickey. True Mickey acts like Hourglass in FNATI 6.0. You have to find what camera he spawns in and shut off that camera when he enters your office. If he appears in the office when your power is out, you have to shine a light at him. This is a much better Night 6 than normal mode. After beating Night 6, you'll get a cutscene where True Mickey says, "What? Henry gave hints for you? That is cheating." Then Jake says, "Well, since I completed your challenge, can I go now?" True Mickey then says, "No, I won't allow. Henry, you'll pay for this." Then Henry says, "No, please." Then True Mickey says, "I was preparing for this moment for years. You'll never escape the consequences." Night 7 is just a harder version of Night 5. Henry is now enemy because, I guess, True Mickey possessed him. All you have to do with him is shut off a camera. When you beat Night 7, you get a cutscene where True Mickey says, "Okay, I lost. Go ahead, you're free." Then Jake says, "Really? Go, I'll change my mind." There's 3 bonus nights that you can play in the extras. One of them is Back to the Past. It takes place during the day shift. The visuals are brighter and you can now hear people chatting in the background. You have to survive from 12 PM until 6 PM. The only enemy active is past Mickey, who's just normal Mickey. When he enters the office, you have to turn off a camera. You'll get a neat animation of him opening the meat freezer door. It only contains 1 day. It's very easy, but it's a nice addition. Another one is Floor 1 minigame. It takes place in Pirate Caverns if it was a sit and survive game. You have to survive until 6 AM. The office is this rusty chamber with TVs on the desk. The face and Undying are active. In your office, you have to keep checking your rights for the face. When he's in your office, you have to shut off a camera. Undying becomes active at 3 AM. He is in cam 6. You have to keep watching him to slow him down. He is very aggressive and you basically have to be watching him constantly. Whenever the face moves, the camera will glitch, and whenever that happens, you should check your rights. This is easy, but it's actually very intense. When Undying gets closer to you, it really makes you panic. And lastly, there's Jeff the Killer. It starts off with a Jeff the Killer cutscene. Jeff the Killer will appear on your left and right. When he appears, you have to hide, but you can't hide for too long because of your dread meter. You have to survive until 6 AM. After you beat Jeff the Killer, you get another cutscene. Jake is about to leave and go back home. Mickey doesn't want Jake to leave and tells him that he can stay at Treasure Island. Jake then agrees to stay. Henry then comes in and tells Jake that he did not die. And that's it. That's the end of the game. I honestly really like this game. I'd recommend checking it out. I would say this is a definitive way to experience classic FNATI. There is so much content to this game and it never gets boring, except for maybe the mid portion of Legacy mode, but even then it's still playable. There isn't much of a story to the game, but I would still say it has a better narrative than the original. Pirate Caverns is excellent and the bonus games aren't great, but they are definitely enjoyable. I would recommend following this game if you're interested, as there's more updates coming soon. So that's every FNATI fan game that I've decided to talk about in this video. Despite this video being longer than The Godfather Part 2 and Return of the King, I've only really scratched the surface. There are thousands of FNATI fan games out there, and even with Mallrats FNATI games and Abandoned Discovery Island being almost a decade old, FNATI fan games are still coming out all the time, with there being countless currently in development. Between the cancellation of 2.0 and the release of 6.0, FNATI was being carried by its fan games. And that's pretty crazy when you realise that FNATI wasn't even finished when half of these games were made. As for the current state of FNATI, in December 2024, Radiance released an ARG spin-off of FNATI called Treasure Island Abandoned Enigma, and they are currently working on FNATI 6.5, which is intending on being the final version of FNATI, and possibly even the last official FNATI game. Even if that is the case, it doesn't look like FNATI's popularity is dying anytime soon, which definitely makes it the longest time a FNAF fan game has been popular for. The first version of FNATI began development before FNAF 2 even came out, so I'm going to end this video by saying this. Long live Five Nights at Treasure Island.